Wang not to worry because he has already prepared for everything, and Wang tells Cho to make it happen at all costs. Back to the present, Cho tells himself to calm down and proceed with plan B. Suddenly, Cho falls on Jinho's feet and begs him to do a startup because if Jinho backs like this, he'll get killed. Jinho says he'll not do a startup, but Cho whines that his job is on the line and that he'll get fired. Jinho says he'll talk with the chairman so he doesn't get fired, but Cho starts crying loudly. Gang can hear their voices, and suddenly, his wife arrives there and asks Gang if Jinho is busy right now. Gang replies that Jinho is fairly free today, and suddenly, Jinho comes out dragging Cho with him because Cho is holding his leg. Jinho's mother gives him a packet and tells him to deliver these packs to C. When Jinho says he'll make sure he delivers these facts to C, his mother corrects him that these are compact foundations, not fact. Jinho asks his mother where C is. His mother checks the location and shows him that C is in Yongdeok. Jinho feels doomed because it is 4 hours away, but C is happy when her mother informs them that the issue is resolved. Suddenly, a girl, Yonha, asks C how it goes, to which C replies that her brother is bringing it for him and thanks Yonha for worrying about her. A while later, Jinho takes the makeup to C and calls her to ask where she is. C replies that she can't go out right now and she is in one of the containers. Jinho goes to her container, and C says that it is fast because she remembers Jinho doesn't have a driver's license, but Jinho says he forgot to tell her that he got his license after military service. C asks why he didn't tell her that, but suddenly, she remembers Yonha is there and introduces Jinho to her. Meanwhile, the scriptwriter arrives there in worry and tells Yonha that they have to postpone their filming today. When Yonha asks why, the scriptwriter says the actor, Jin Minho, who was supposed to show up in a cameo, does not answer because he got caught in a scandal. When Yonha asks if they have any replacement actors, the scriptwriter replies they don't have any other actors. Meanwhile, Jinho says it looks like there is some trouble going on, so he'll get going, but Yonha tells him to wait a moment and tells the scriptwriter to call the PD. Yonha tries to convince Jinho to do the cameo role, but Jinho refuses. Yonha says she knows they just met, and she is sorry, but it is really urgent. So she requests Jinho to help them. C also requests him because this show is important to her. Jinho repeats that he'll not do it, but the scriptwriter starts requesting him along with C and Yonha because they can't find a replacement. Yonha asks if he knows how tough it is to find a person who is good looking and will only show up for 1 minute, to which Jinho replies that he didn't know that and that he is not doing it. Suddenly, when Yonha says that if this show gets off at such a bumpy start, it might get in the way of C's career as an actor, Jinho stops and asks what she means. Yonha says if there is a word that this show goes to a complete failure, does Jinho think people would want to cast C for a different show? C says this show has a weak introduction, which is why they are looking for an actor with good visuals. Jinho says he thinks they have more than enough for visuals and Yonha agrees, but she says in this case, the male actors are more important. Jinho says he gets her point, but he is not interested in things like this at all. Yonha says that is why she is telling him that they need him for just 30 seconds, but Jinho thinks it is just him, or is she really decreasing the time? Yonha tells Jinho to think about this for a minute, for C's sake, while she checks on other things with the PD. After Yonha goes out, the PD says he agrees that Jinho is a better bet than calling someone else, but he asks if she is sure this will work, to which Yonha replies that it'll work. When the PD asks how she is so sure, Yonha replies that she was talking to C a while ago, and it seems like this guy is a cis-com. When the odd asks what it means, Yonha says it means he is overprotective of his sister. Meanwhile, Jinho agrees to do it, but he tells Yonha not to regret anything because he is not going to take any blame. Yonha says she'll not regret it and they should do it, and C also hypes her brother. The shoot begins, and the scene is between Yonha and Jinho, in which Yonha asks if he wants to say something. As Jinho says they should break up, the director cuts the scene and tells Jinho to not just read the script, but act in the moment of an actual breakup. Jinho practices the line a few times, and as the director is satisfied with the delivery, they begin the shoot again, but Jinho again delivers the dialogue coldly. The director yells, "Cut," and Yonha says they should change their schedule to a night filming, so she'll do something about this until then. Everyone is exhausted, and C realizes it's really tough for Jinho, but C says people sigh everything. Jinho makes a mistake and shows Jinho that they are already at 163. C says Jinho said, "Let's break up," more than 100 times. He says Jinho came here to get her some cosmetics, but he is stuck here saying one line over and over. C apologizes that it's her fault, but Jinho asks why she thinks so and says there is nothing so tough about saying one line again and again. C asks if he is saying that so she doesn't feel bad about him. Suddenly, she tells him that all these people are staying here because he keeps making mistakes, but Jinho says he kept on saying he wouldn't do it, and they were the ones who begged for him, so why should he be so concerned about their problems? C says she is really glad that Jinho is so mentally tough, but she asks if he is sure he is not making these mistakes intentionally. When Jinho gives her a side eye, she gets it that he is bad at acting. Suddenly, she tells Jinho to go in, but suddenly, they see some people gathered at the entrance, and C asks what is going on, to which Jinho replies that he doesn't know. Suddenly, the PD comes there running and asks who let an outsider in, to which the outsider replies that he is Jinho's manager. Jinho tells the PD to let that guy in because he is a reliable person, and he might be able to take care of this situation because he knows it's Cho. When the staff asks who Cho is, Cho replies that he already told them who he is and shows his business card to the PD. They see Cho is from Code Entertainment, and that's where C is from, and Cho asks if they can see the recorded takes. The PD says Cho can't do that just because he is here, but when Cho asks if he wants to go home or not, the PD leaves to bring the recordings. Meanwhile, Jinho arrives and says he did call him, but that was fast, and Cho says he obviously had to come fast. A while ago, Cho was whinnying in his office, thinking he had to somehow convince Jinho for the startup because otherwise, he'd be fired. Suddenly, he received a text from Jinho that he needed his help, so he immediately got up with excitement and said he would do everything he could to help Jinho. After some while, they brought every take they shot, and Cho asked Yonha how Jinho was supposed to act in the line, "Let's break up." Yonha shows Cho by saying the line emotionally, and Cho immediately understands. Cho says they should take a look at the shots they recorded and start checking the shot. Cho continues checking the scenes, but he doesn't like any of them so far, and the PD wonders if they can trust this guy. Suddenly, Cho finds a shot and says they should go with this, but the PD asks if he is crazy. Cho says this shot is perfect, but when the PD asks how it is perfect, Cho says Jinho's lip sync pace and his atmosphere are all perfect in this shot. PD yells why he thought he could trust a stranger like him and asks if Cho thinks it is a joke. Cho tells PD to stop being immature and asks if he has ever heard about dubbing. Cho says since Jinho is perfect off the camera, they'll record the voice and use it separately. PD is shocked and wonders why he didn't think about this, but Cho asks if something is wrong, to which PD immediately replies that there is nothing wrong and he'll make it happen no matter what. Cho says it's nice and that they should all go home. Jinho thanked Cho, but Cho asked if he could ask for a favor since he had helped Jinho this time. When Jinho asks what it is, Cho immediately leans on Jinho's car and says he really wants to drive this car for once. Jinho agrees to it, and while they go back, Cho asks Jinho how it works amongst people Jinho doesn't know. When Jinho replies with him, Cho says he gets it and says it's always the same when he is working in society. Cho says he knows Jinho already experienced it in the military, but he just has to bear with a bunch of irrational incidents and live with 1,000 different pressures and weird orders. Cho has also experienced those problems, and suddenly, he says what he is trying to say is that Jinho doesn't have to worry about any of that if he just does a startup and becomes his own boss. Still, Jinho, with a serious face, replies that he is not doing it, so Cho says okay and drops him at the cafe. As Jinho is about to go inside, someone calls his name, and when Jinho turns, he sees it is Young-gi. Jinho is happy to see him, and Gi tells him to be honored because he came to see him himself. Meanwhile, a guy is arguing with Gang and tells him to bring C. The guy is shouting and asks Gang how hard it is to show C's face for once, but Gang tries to calm that guy. The guy asks what the problem is with this and says he knows the Gang is hiding something. The guy asks if Gang is worried that he'll realize how Gang has forced C to work in his cafe and calls Gang shameless. When that guy says C made this cafe for them, Gang says it is his son's, but that guy doesn't listen and furiously asks why C is working so hard like this. The boy furiously says he was C's fan since she was a no-name and asks if Gang knows how much he spent on C. Meanwhile, Jinho is listening to all this, and his anger is rising every second. But when that guy says he should have some share in this cafe too, Jinho is about to lose his control, but Gi tells him to stay put. Gi says he'll take care of this, and after going in, he tells that guy that he was listening from nearby, and he was saying some interesting shit. The boy gets scared to see Gi, and Gi furiously says he cannot ignore all the rubbish he is spitting. When Gi furiously asks if he was saying he is the owner of this place, the guy pushes Gang away and tries to run, but Gi grabs him by the collar and says he came here to have a good time with his friend, but he'll have to thank this guy for ruining it. The boy is scared, but Gi says it seems like he has to say a lot, and that he'll listen to everything he has to say. Suddenly, Gi drags that guy outside, and Gang worriedly asks Jinho if that guy is a gang member or something, to which Jinho replies that Gi is his friend. After Gi teaches that boy a lesson, he apologizes to Gang, and they let him leave. On the other hand, Yonha thinks C's brother's acting is terrible, but his looks are up to her standards, and she remembers his name was Gang Jinho. On the other hand, Jinho asks why his father let that boy go, to which Gang replies that the boy is still C's fan. Gang says he contacted Secretary Cho, and he is sure he'll take care of it, but Jinho says he'll contact Cho, too. Suddenly, Gi says he can see Jinho's father is going through a lot of trouble, to which Jinho replies that he is right, but Gi asks how Jinho is exactly the same as he was in the military. When Jinho asks what he is talking about, Gi says he is doing the same stupidity as before and snatches his phone. Gi tells Jinho to have a talk with him for a moment, and after going out, he asks if Jinho is about to take care of that idiot customer himself, but Jinho asks how he knows. Gi tells Jinho not to make a call, but Jinho asks the reason, to which Gi replies that Jinho's father said he already took care of it. Gi asks if Jinho is going to take care of everything by himself, and Jinho is going to explain to him, but Gi requests Jinho to stop for God's sake. Gi asks if Jinho knows how much of a pain it is for the people if the top head makes a move for every trivial matter. Gi tells Jinho to leave matters like these to other people and have a little faith because they all know how to take care of themselves. Gi mimics Jinho by saying, "I'll do it, I'll take care of it," and reminds Jinho that he is not dealing with some 10-year-old kid. Gi yells that if Jinho has a problem with other people doing stuff, he should keep letting them do it and just watch them from a distance. Gi says if Jinho keeps doing everything himself because he doesn't want to risk that small effort and time of letting others do it, Jinho will end up only doing things within his reach forever. Gi says Jinho will become a man who ends up on top of a lot of people and tells Jinho to trust him for this one because he has an eye for judging people. But Gi yells that Jinho's problem is that he doesn't trust people and asks how people can trust Jinho if he doesn't put his faith in them. Jinho immediately realizes that the reason the Blue Demon betrayed him is because he never trusted the Blue Demon. After some while, when they return after having a conversation, Cho has arrived, and he is having a meal. As Cho sees Jinho, he says he got a call from his dad about C, and Jinho immediately says he'll leave it to him. Jinho tells Cho to make sure he does it confidently, and Cho says he'll take care of it. But as Jinho starts talking about the startup business, Cho gets worried that he'll get his eternal vacation. Cho is about to say he knows Jinho will not do it, but suddenly, Jinho says he'll give it a try, and Cho gets happy. However, Jinho says he doesn't know anything about startups, so he wants Cho to help him, and Cho says he'll help him. Cho says they should go in and talk, but after having a discussion for a while, they are confused because they don't have any good ideas. When Gi asks if Jinho has any bright friends, Park arrives there and asks what they are doing. Cho says they need help, and Jinho introduces Gi to Park and says he is his friend from the military, but Park thinks Gi looks like a gang member. Suddenly, Jinho says he has decided to start a business, but Park asks if he can make some actual sense because he doesn't get it. Jinho explains that he can earn extra credits if he starts a business, but Park thinks he should go to college and attend classes. Cho explains to Park that their goal is extra credits on top of gaining various experiences, and the three of them are having problems deciding what kind of business to start. Cho asks if Park has any ideas, to which Park replies that they can think of something simple like a fried chicken place, and they can deliver the chicken in 1 minute. Cho says they cannot kill off all the local competitors for some extra credits because it's only going to be for 6 months. They give ideas like starting a Chinese food business and a courier service, but suddenly, Cho asks if there is anything Jinho wants to try because they'll not do deliveries, and Jinho starts thinking about it. When Cho asks if he can think about some nostalgic food or just something he likes, Jinho remembers when his master in martial society asked him if there was something he wanted to eat, and he said he wanted pizza. Jinho remembers his master could have forgotten about this, but for the sake of his apprentice, he insisted and did his best to make a dish that he had never even heard of before, but it tasted beyond awful. Suddenly, Jinho says he likes pizza, but Gi asks who the hell finds pizza to be nostalgic, to which Park replies that he thinks Jinho does. Suddenly, Cho shouts that they are making pizza because he says they'll not make deliveries. Jinho remembers that it was the warmest pizza of his life, so he says he'll go with pizza, and Cho says he'll prepare for a pizza place. After some while, Park asks if Jinho wants to visit the orphanage because the children are eager to see him, to which Jinho replies that he'll visit them, but he has to buy some presents. Park says he doesn't need to buy gifts, but Jinho buys a lot of them, and Park is shocked to see them. Jinho says he could not visit them when the sister died, but Park says it's alright, and all of them will be happy to see Jinho. As Park takes Jinho in, the kids are all busy playing, and Jinho gets embarrassed because he thinks they'll be waiting for him. Suddenly, the kids see Jinho, and they hug him and ask if they are getting gifts. Jinho replies that he was thinking about taking them to a toy store, but Park scolds Jinho that they are going nowhere because Jinho will end up buying the entire store. The kids ask Park if they can, and Jinho also requests with a cute face, but Park says no. The kids say they should settle this with rock, paper, and scissors, but Jinho says he has a better idea. Jinho challenges Park to a match in Enrollment 11 game on Roar, and Park accepts it. Park tells the kids to prepare 2 computers and warns Jinho not to cry after losing, but Jinho says Park better not cry. They go inside the gaming room, and a few hours pass while the kids are waiting outside. Suddenly, Jinho comes out of the room in a terrible state, and the kids worriedly hug him, but Jinho tells the kids that they are going shopping, and they get happy. Meanwhile, Park, lying on the floor in embarrassment, says it was impressive how Jinho won. After that, they go to the toy store, where Jinho buys them gifts, and then the kids go back with Park. Suddenly, Jinho gets a call from an unknown number and wonders whose number is this. On the other hand, Yonha is sitting in a cafe and thinks that this is the first time that she, a prominent actress in the entertainment industry, has gotten interested in a younger actor. Yonha thinks that is why she made a proposal for a direct debut, but she didn't get any expected reaction, and Jinho directly rejected it. Yonha is extremely mad at Jinho, but she keeps her calm and asks why Jinho doesn't want to do it, to which Jinho replies that it is hard to explain. Yonha thinks if it is so hard to tell, then he should say yes, but she asks if he thinks it is too much for him, to which Jinho replies it is not. Yonha wonders why he is so confident and asks if he hates getting attention, but Jinho says that's not like this. Yonha starts explaining the advantages of being an actor to Jinho, but Jinho, after listening to her, says he gets it. When Yonha asks what he means, Jinho says the reason why he is not interested in acting is because the time is limited. Yonha is confused, and Jinho explains that not only acting but anything can be worthwhile. Jinho says he can do other things if he has time for that, but when Yonha asks what kind of things, Jinho replies he can help with household chores in the orphanage, teach them physical education, and feed the babies at the orphanage. When Yonha asks if he is kidding, Jinho says he thinks that is more valuable than making a movie, and while leaving, he says he doesn't know why, but he thinks that can change a child's life. After going home, Yonha yells at what Jinho is talking about and says it doesn't make any sense. Yonha throws things in front of her manager and asks if Jinho thinks she is going to give up if he keeps acting like this. Yonha says they'll see who'll win this little game and that she'll show him what she is made of. A few days later, Cho says they are ready to open the pizza shop and says he gave their all to this work. Everyone says Cho worked hard for it, and they are excited to see the pizza shop. But Cho tells them to behold and says this is their new beginning with traditional Korean oven-baked pizza. As they get in, there is a dark atmosphere everywhere, and Gi furiously asks if Cho is crazy. Jinho is in shock and sees the windows are really diabolic. Suddenly, Gi asked what traditional Korean pizza means and asked if Cho and Jinho knew how to make it. Cho says he'll make it, and when he presents them with his special pizza, everyone gets terrified, and Park tells Jinho that it is not too late to close the restaurant and go back to study. Cho yells they are mean and asks if they really don't want to try, but Jinho is in shock. Suddenly, Gi tells everyone to clean up the mess and tells Jinho to learn how to cook. But when Cho asks the reason, Gi asks if he is serious and tells him to look at this place. Cho understands that it's not good, so he says he'll call the provider. A week later, a decent pizza shop is ready for the opening, and they are happy to open the pizzeria. After some while, they wait for customers when the door opens, and they get excited, but they sigh after seeing it's Cho. Cho asks what the problem is and says they should not greet people with a sigh. Simultaneously, the door opens, and they get excited again, but it's C, and when she says it seems the business is going well, they all sigh again. C scolds them for greeting with a sigh and asks why they don't have any customers. When C asks if they didn't do anything to publicize the opening, Jinho asks what she means. C yells that she knew it and asks if they thought it was as easy as, let's open, and everything will be fine. C says they need to inspect the commercial area and its location. They have to study culinary and create sales strategies, but she is sure they didn't do any of that. C says they are unbelievable and asks if they think she is going to stand still, only assisting. C immediately gets dressed and tells Jinho to be grateful to her because it's time to do things right, but Jinho asks if her skirt is not too short. C asks if he thinks it's Josian wanting to guide the people of Cheongakdong. When Jinho asks if it is an exaggeration to do this publicizing, C furiously tells him to stop complaining and says that it is a promotional strategy. After some while, C, outside the pizzeria, announces the opening of his brother's pizzeria. C says her brother opened a pizzeria, but he doesn't get any clients, so she decided to give a hand and says she'll begin with a song. While C sings, Jinho makes pizza at a blazing speed, and Gi thinks it's unbelievable. Gi wonders if Jinho cannot be more normal, but he notices the pizzas look good and people are enjoying them. Gi thinks it's great that Jinho learned to cook, but suddenly, he slips because the floor is shining like a glass and sees Jinho cleaning. Suddenly, the pizzeria floods with people, and Cho tells C that it's time for a break. C apologizes to people because they need to take a break due to the depletion of ingredients and says they'll be back. After going in, C falls on the table and tells Jinho that his sister is dying, but Jinho immediately brings her pizzas, and C says she thought he was out of ingredients. Jinho says he left these pizzas aside, so C says he is the best brother and starts eating. When Jinho asks if it is tasty, C furiously tells Jinho to stay away from her pizza and says it's hers. Jinho starts eating the other pizza, and C tells him that tomorrow he won't have that many people, but Jinho says it is okay because it'll be impossible for them to keep this pace with only 3 people. However, C says if Jinho wants, he can call her again, but Jinho tells her not to worry. Suddenly, Cho comes in, announcing that he is extremely hungry, and asks if there is any pizza left. C replies that there is nothing left because Jinho ate it all, and Cho yells at Jinho to stop eating everything, but Jinho has already eaten it. After some time, there were only few customers left, and Park told Jinho that his sister had a lot of fans because when she left, all the people there did too. However, Jinho says it is good enough, but suddenly, a customer arrives, and Park is shocked to see her. Park tells Jinho to look, and Jinho is shocked to see it's Yonha. When Jinho asks why she is here, she gets offended and says he didn't hear from him, so she comes to see herself. When Jinho asks if she is not busy due to recordings, Yonha replies that she doesn't have any recordings today. Jinho looks upset, so Yonha asks if she did something wrong and says she came here to see him and eat pizza. When Jinho asks how she got to know about this place, she replies that C told her. Yonha asks which pizza is good, and Jinho replies that all of them are good, but she asks if he doesn't have any recommendations. Jinho says he recommends all of them, but then she asks about his favorite, to which he replies that all of them are delicious. Yonha yells that he is so bad and says she came here to rate his pizza, even when she doesn't have time. Jinho asks if she is here for useless things again. Yonha replies that she is not and says she is just going to eat pizza. Jinho believes her and tells her to look at the menu, so she starts doing that, but when they hear people saying that they are lovers, Yonha gets nervous. Yonha immediately gives her order, and Jinho goes to the kitchen. Meanwhile, Yonha thinks today she is not going to do anything, but tomorrow is going to be different. Yonha plans to be stubborn and demanding, and to keep clinging to that wall to tear it down. Suddenly, her order arrives, and Jinho, after serving her, starts to walk away, but she tells him to wait and asks if he has any free time next week. Jinho instantly replies with a no, but when Yonha says he doesn't have any customers, Jinho says he still has to work even without customers. Suddenly, Yonha grabs Jinho's arm and asks why he doesn't give her a minute. Yonha says she has something to talk about, but Jinho nervously asks why she is doing this to him. Suddenly, Yonha asks him to go out with her, which makes everyone silent there, but she immediately realizes she made a mistake and says she is not asking him on a date. Yonha says she just wants to have a conversation, but Jinho apologizes and says he doesn't have time. Yonha gets embarrassed and immediately hides her face with her hands while the people there spread the news on the internet that Yonha got rejected. Jinho takes her inside so she can comfortably have her pizza, but she is extremely embarrassed, and she calls herself crazy. Suddenly, Jinho asks her to go back home and says she must be busy with the shooting, but she furiously replies that she is free today and the one who is busy is C. When Jinho says C will be free after night, Yonha asks if she can stay till then, and Jinho tells her to do as she wishes. Yonha gets happy, but Jinho asks if she is really going to stay till night, to which she replies with a yes. Meanwhile, Gi and Park laugh that she came to make Jinho a celebrity, and Yonha says he rejected her, but she is going to keep insisting until he says yes. They think Jinho is lucky to have such a stalker, but Jinho is irritated by her. On the other hand, C gets free, but she is extremely tired, and she asks her manager how long it'll take to reach Seoul, to which he replies it'll take 3 or 4 hours. While they are on their way back, the manager notices there is something wrong with the car next to them, and suddenly, that car hits them. On the other hand, Park notices Jinho's phone ringing, so he gives it to Jinho. When Jinho picks up the call, C screams on the phone and asks for help. Jinho hears some voices of kidnappers, and he gets shocked but extremely furious. Jinho asks Yona where the filming address is, to which she replies it is in Sokcho-si and asks if something happened to C. When Jinho says it seems C got kidnapped, everyone gets shocked, and Jinho says he'll be going. Park tells Jinho that he'll call Cho for help, and Jinho leaves after he has thanked him. While Jinho is driving in a rush, Cho calls him and says he got a call from Park, so he asks the news agency to find C's location. When Jinho asks where it is, Cho replies that he'll send it on his phone, and suddenly, Jinho receives the location. Cho says if something else happens, they'll contact Jinho immediately, and Jinho thanks him. Cho realizes Jinho is not scared and knows Jinho hates those who hurt the people close to him. Cho fears that if it's for C, this might be troublesome because Jinho will not hesitate to shed blood. On the other hand, C and his manager are tied in a factory, and when the manager asks why they kidnapped them, C says she doesn't know. When the manager says he thinks the kidnappers don't mean to harm them, suddenly, a kidnapper arrives there and tells them not to be scared because they don't need them. But he tells C to call her brother. C asks if they think she is crazy and says she'll not do that. But the kidnapper furiously asks if she doesn't know the situation she is in. The kidnapper pushes C's head with her phone and tells her to call Jinho. But she kicks the kidnapper's foot, making him scream, and the phone drops from his hand. C immediately breaks the phone and says her foot slipped. But the kidnapper slaps her furiously and asks if she wants to die. The kidnapper grabs her collar and says he doesn't think she knows the situation she is in. But suddenly, Jinho arrives by destroying the entrance in his car. Jinho breaks open the door to get out of his car because it is stuck, and everyone is shocked. Jinho immediately unties C and tells her not to cry because everything will be alright. He then gives his car keys to the manager. Jinho tells the manager to take C away from here, and the manager says he'll call the police, but Jinho says it is fine and they should just contact Secretary Cho. However, C asks if Jinho is not coming, to which he replies that they should go first and he'll follow them after he cleans up here. C tells Jinho not to be too late, and the manager immediately starts driving away, but the kidnappers try to stop them. Jinho immediately throws the car's broken door in front of the kidnappers, which startles them, and in the meanwhile, the manager drives away. Suddenly, Jinho's inner demon comes out, and he says he doesn't know who they are, but they have messed with the wrong person. The kidnappers are terrified, and Jinho says he'll make them regret it. Earlier that day, when the marshals of Yeongnam Union received the order of kidnapping, they were shocked that they had to do dirty things like this, but one of them said they didn't have a choice. Kim ordered them to get rid of Jinho, even if it meant using dirty methods. A staff member, Lee Hyun-soo, says Kim was commanding like a madman, and that they had to kill Jinho in any way. When one of them says they should leave jobs like this to a stray, Lee Hyun-soo says he already lost to Gang Jinho long ago. Lee Hyun-soo says a crazy animal like a stray didn't know how to act smartly, and he was not fit for a job like this that needs to follow plans, so he says he'll leave it to them and tells them to take care of Jinho. Back to the present, the kidnappers wonder if Jinho doesn't understand the situation, but they feel something is wrong. The kidnappers think they are the ones who brought him here to kill him, and they outnumber him, but they wonder why it feels like something has gone very wrong. Jinho, with a fierce aura, walks towards them and asks if they are scared for their lives now, but one of the kidnappers tells Jinho not to screw with them and rushes to attack him while others try to stop him. Suddenly, Jinho breaks the guy's neck with a single slap and calls the next, but two of them remove their masks, and they say Hyun-soo was right that they'll die if they don't get themselves together. The kidnappers start attacking Jinho, but Jinho knocks them down and slams them into the walls. Suddenly, when two of them try to attack simultaneously, Jinho punches the one in such a way that it falls on the other, who has a blade in his hand, and they get slammed into a pillar. When one of them asks the other why he flies that way, he furiously replies that Jinho threw him this way. One of the kidnappers wonders if they underestimated Jinho and remembers a while ago when his fellow set astray was supposed to be pretty strong, but he died, which means Jinho is strong too. The other kidnapper asked who the hell said Astray was strong. That kidnapper said they didn't use Astray because he was strong and powerful, but they used him because he was just expendable. They thought their leader, Kim, went senile, but now, when they are fighting Jinho, he dodges their attacks and punches them hard. Suddenly, when a kidnapper tries to punch Jinho, Jinho blocks it, but another kidnapper immediately kicks Jinho away. They think they got Jinho, and they try to run away, but suddenly, Jinho asks if they are already done. The kidnappers get terrified, and Jinho tells them to struggle a bit more so they are worth tormenting more. Suddenly, Jinho punches one of them and says that, considering they had set up something interesting, he thought they were worth something for a second. Jinho throws that guy into the wall, which breaks it, and he falls outside through it. Everyone gets shocked, and when Jinho says all of them are trash, one of them tries to stab Jinho, but Jinho grabs his neck and raises him in the air. The kidnapper says he doesn't want to die, but Jinho asks if he doesn't want to die after all this and tells him not to make him laugh. Meanwhile, the other kidnappers are terrified watching this, and Jinho slams that guy on the ground from his neck. A blast happens, which affects everyone, and the last kidnapper, who is conscious, thinks about how he is supposed to kill this monster, but he also faints. A while later, when the kidnapper wakes up, he realizes he is alive, but suddenly, he sees Jinho in front of him. Jinho says he is finally awake, and by grabbing his collar, Jinho asks him why he did that. The kidnapper calls for help, but Jinho furiously asks him who is behind this and asks him to tell everything he knows. The kidnapper is terrified, so he says he'll tell everything and starts spitting the truth that it's the Yeongnam Union who ordered them to kill him. The guy says they were ordered by Hyun-soo and President Kim to get rid of Jinho, and they kidnapped C because that way Jinho would come to rescue her and they could get rid of him. The guy continues saying that they did this on their order, but Jinho tells him to stop and throws him away. The guy says he still knows more and he'll tell everything, but Jinho asks what he is so afraid of. Jinho says he won't kill him, but he has some work to do, so he tells the kidnapper to warn the others that he'll be there soon and that he is going to show them the cost of their actions. The kidnapper is trembling with fear and Jinho is leaving, but suddenly he notices someone is behind the tree and Jinho tells her to stop hiding. Lee immediately comes outside, and when Jinho asks if she is following her, she nervously replies she is not. Lee says Cho called, and he asked her to come here, and that's why she is here. Jinho wonders about the reason, so Lee says they have to take care of this scene for Jinho. But Jinho thinks if he leaves this place and lets her clean, she'll return to the Korean Martial Assembly. Jinho wonders if Cho is telling him to use the assembly, and suddenly, Lee tells Jinho not to worry because they are specialists in this kind of work. Lee says if they didn't have any prior experience, they wouldn't be able to prevent leaking of this incident, which she already did. Jinho says she'll leave this to her, and, while leaving, tells her to confirm if the kidnapper he just warned is associated with Yeongnam Union, and tells her to bring all the information she has about Yeongnam Union. When Lee asks if Jinho wants her to take care of this guy too, Jinho tells her to let him go later, but Lee gets shocked and asks why, to which Jinho replies that he plans to see him again. After some while, Jinho reaches a road and seems lost, but while he thinks some signs should be helpful, Cho suddenly arrives in his car. Cho says he arrived on time and tells Jinho to get in, so Jinho gets in and thanks him for solving C's case and picking him up. Cho tells Jinho not to worry because it's his job to assist him, but he apologizes for calling the Martial Assembly. Cho says he'll delay the filming schedule to let C rest for a few days, but Jinho says he can take care of that. Cho is shocked to hear this and asks why, to which Jinho replies that he knows someone who can surely help, and he calls Yeonha. As Yeonha picks up, she worriedly starts asking how Jinho is, where he is, and how C is. Yeonha Taki, NG a breath, asks if he called the police or if she should call them and tells him to send the address. Yeonha tells Jinho to speak, but she doesn't stop with her questions, so Jinho tells her to listen. But she yells what kind of crazy person does kidnapping like this. Jinho gets frustrated, so he tells her that it's all right and that the problem is solved. Jinho says they only want their money, so he convinces them to think twice, and they listen to him very well. But Cho is shocked to hear Jinho's story and says the name of the right-hand Jinho is Word. Lee says she'll believe him and she asks about C, to which Jinho replies that she has some minor injuries, so he'll take her to the hospital. Therefore, Jinho says he would like to ask for a favor for C, and Yeonha says she'll do whatever it is. When she asks what Jinho wants, Jinho asks if she can delay C's filming for some days because he wants to give her some days off to let her rest from that incident. Yeonha says that is not much, and she can take care of that, but Jinho says he owes her one, and he'll pay her next time. When Yeonha asks if she can then ask him for a favor, Jinho asks what it is, and she replies that he can make some time for her. Yeonha says she is not going to ask him to turn into an actor or make him a big celebrity. Yeonha says she only wants to have fun with him for a day, and Jinho agrees to it, but says he'll inform her once he gets some time free. A few days later, Lee Hyun-ju calls Jinho and says she sent him an email containing all the information about the Yeongnam group, just like he said. Lee says she gave everything she could, and the blank ones are information that they cannot even provide. However, Lee suddenly says if Jinho is going to clash with the Yeongnam group, he should tell her in advance. When Jinho asks why, Lee says that she has done the cleanup easily, and that she is not trying to keep tabs on him. Lee says it's just no good for them if the existence of the marshals becomes public, but Jinho says he'll think about it. Meanwhile, Jinho is on a train going to Gangnam, but suddenly, he realizes something and runs outside the train. As Jinho checks the routes, he realizes he has come the wrong way. After some while, when Jinho goes to the right location, Yeonha asks how he can be this late when it was his idea to meet. Yeonha furiously asks why he didn't send her a single text, but Jinho thinks she'll not be pleased at all if he tells her that he took the wrong train because he was on the phone. Yeonha warns him not to be late the next time, and Jinho says okay. Suddenly, Yeonha changes her tone and asks how about they start with a cup of coffee. When they go for a coffee, Yeonha asks how C is doing, to which Jinho replies that they took her to the hospital just in case, and thankfully, she is as healthy as ever. Yeonha says it is great, but Jinho says it is all thanks to her. Yeonha says it was nothing, but in reality, she forced the director to change the dates for her and C. Suddenly, Yeonha reminds Jinho that they have a deal here and says she brought a day with him in exchange for that favor. Yeonha says she thought Jinho hated meeting her as always, but she says he is all dressed up, and that she sees he even dyed his hair and changed his hairstyle. Yeonha says she'll give him points for actually trying to look good for her, but Jinho thinks he should remain shut up about how it's not intentional. Jinho wonders if it is really peculiar because even C asked if he was going on a date, but Jinho thinks it may have changed because he used too much demonic Kai recently. Suddenly, Yeonha asks if he thinks she is cute, but Jinho chokes on his drink and asks what she means. Yeonha says he was staring at her for a while, so she thought maybe he thought she was cute. Jinho nervously says she looks gorgeous, but Yeonha says she is joking, and he doesn't have to react like that. Suddenly, Yeonha says they should get going because she is hungry, and after having lunch, she takes Jinho shopping and makes him carry her bags. After that, she drives Jinho somewhere, but he is scared of her driving, and some while later, they go to the zoo. The sun sets and Jinho are extremely drained, so he thinks he would rather physically train all day than do nothing. Suddenly, Yonha offers him a Coke tin and asks how he is doing, to which he replies he is fine. Yonha says he is pretty tough, and she'll give that to him because other guys usually end up begging her to go home. When Yonha asks how his restaurant is going, Jinho says it's empty, but Yonha says it won't be anymore. When Jinho asks what she means, Yonha asks when they should meet next because she'd prefer it before he becomes busy, but Jinho is shocked. Yonha asks why he is so shocked and asks what is wrong with a couple of good-looking people hanging out. Suddenly, Yonha gets close to Jinho and says she really likes him as a man, but Jinho immediately turns his face, and Yonha says she is not confessing because she knows he treats her like some chore. Yonha says her point is that she just wants him to be more aware that he is meeting a woman next time, to which Jinho replies with an okay. Suddenly, Yonha gets up and says she is going home. He asks if he wants her to walk him, but Jinho says he cannot bother her anymore. Yonha says okay, but while leaving, she says she'll hit on him, so he answers her calls. The next night, Park tells Gi that it looks like C's promotion has totally worn off now, and Gi agrees with him. Meanwhile, as Jinho takes some boxes out, two girls stand outside, excited to see Jinho. When they ask if they are open, Jinho replies they are not, but Gi immediately arrives there and says they are open and asks what they would like. As the girls say they would like to take a picture with Jinho, Gi says they can if they order an extra large pizza. Young Gi immediately tells Jinho to get in and start baking, but Jinho sighs. However, after some time, their place is flooded with customers, and they wonder what the hell is happening. Meanwhile, Jinho is baking pizzas when Yonha arrives there and calls him, to which he replies he is coming but is shocked to see it's Yonha. Suddenly, Yonha shows him the promotional post she did and says she told him he was going to get busy. Yonha says she'll go to the room she stayed in last time and tells Jinho that she'll wait inside. A few hours later, when Jinho and his friends get free, they are all exhausted, and when Yonha says they all look beat up, Gi gets shocked because he thinks he is hallucinating that Yonha came. When Jinho asks what she is doing there, Yonha tells Jinho that the show he filmed aired today, and she saw all the social media explode, so she came to take a look. Yonha shows Jinho that the media is talking about him, and Park and Gi are also amazed by the post. Park says they are all talking about how Jinho is hot, and says he really forgets about that when he sees Jinho every day. Gi agrees with Park and says he totally forgot about how good Jinho looks, but Yonha asks Jinho what he did so wrong to his friends that they are so harsh to him. Suddenly, Park says it is interesting because Jinho is just a normal guy, and yet he is this famous. When Yonha says she is not saying they get all these customers just because of Jinho's good looks, they immediately ask what the reason is, to which Yonha replies that it is because of all the comments and reviews. Yonha says people think they serve delicious pizzas made by a hot guy, and that's how they get recognition. When they act surprised, Yonha asks why they are acting like that and asks if they are from the medieval ages. Yonha says it's like she is speaking to three cavemen, but Gi gets offended and yells that he already knows about that social thing. However, when Yonha asks if he knows what they call people who become famous through social media, Gi gets blank because he doesn't know. Suddenly, Yonha says she just visited on her way back home and wishes them good luck, but says since she is here, she'll have an extra large pizza for takeout and a picture with the manager. Jinho is furious, but after she gets what she wants, she leaves happy, and Jinho wishes she doesn't come again. The next morning, Park comes to work, and he is shocked to see people lined up outside the pizzeria before it opens. Park tells them that they'll open in 30 minutes, so they should stay put, and after going in, he immediately closes the door because the customers are impatient. Park hopes Jinho hurry, and after they start the work, Gi will take customer pictures with Jinho, which Jinho doesn't want, but he has to do. Young Gi thanks the customers and tells them to enjoy their pizza, but Jinho is going back to the kitchen when a customer asks if he always does autographs. Jinho is going to reply he doesn't do autographs, but Gi shuts his mouth with his hand and says they do that. Suddenly, Gi announces that Jinho will give autographs to all large-size takeout orders, and everyone gets excited about that. Jinho tells Gi to stop, but all Gi can think about is the profit they'll earn. After some time, Jinho gets extremely tired, and he sits with his head down when Park arrives and tells him to get up. Jinho can't move, so Park yells at him time after giving him his paycheck. When Jinho furiously asks what Park said, Park immediately says it was a joke. Jinho apologizes for getting mad, but Park understands he is tired, so he tells Jinho to go home. However, Jinho says she still needs to clean up. Park tells Jinho not to worry because he is sure Young Gi, in his current state, can take care of everything. Park says he is sure they are going to have another huge wave tomorrow, so he tells Jinho to have some rest. But Jinho is upset because he knows he should have shown up on TV. Jinho thanked Park, and after saying he'd see him the next day, he went back home. When he reaches home, Jinho sees Lee outside his house and asks what she is doing there. Lee apologizes for bothering him so late and says she understands Jinho hates them, but she really needs him for something. Lee requests Jinho to help her, but when Jinho asks what it is, she replies that the Youngnom group has kidnapped her grandfather and they are using him as a hostage. Suddenly, when Jinho says he doesn't find a reason to do that, Lee gets shocked, and Jinho tells her to find someone else. Lee immediately gets on her knees and begs Jinho to help them. Lee says she'll do anything and says she knows she is in no position to ask for something like this, but her grandfather is her only family member, and she hates to admit it, but she can't save him herself. Suddenly, when Lee says Jinho is strong, Jinho remembers the late sister Lee saying she hopes he becomes a strong person who can tolerate the weakness of others. Jinho sighed and wondered why he remembered this right then, but then he asked Lee about the situation. Lee says that, as he already knows, the Yeongnam Group and the Martial Assembly are not exactly friendly to each other. But her grandfather, the current assembly leader, said that they have to avoid the conflict and remain passive from a distance. Lee says it was the perfect opportunity for the Yeongnam Group to build up their strength, so they formed an alliance with the Chinese Martial Union, which became too large for the assembly to touch. Lee says it looks like they went after the leader himself, but when Jinho asks if she is not sure, Lee says she happened to be somewhere else when this happened, so she only heard about it. Lee says she checked all the security cameras in the house, but she couldn't find his grandpa because there weren't cameras deep inside the house. Jinho says he just wants to ask if she is sure it's the Yeongnam Group, to which Lee replies she is sure because she confirmed the martial arts of the Yeongnam Group through the camera footage. Suddenly, Jinho tells her to stay here because he needs to get something, and when Lee asks if he is helping him, Jinho says he is and that he'll be back soon. After that, Jinho goes inside and opens the box of swords he has brought from China. Jinho thinks he was already planning to deal with the Yeongnam Group, considering what they did to C, so he thinks Lee is lucky that this incident happened to be related to the Yeongnam Group too. Jinho, while wearing the swords, thinks he doesn't like how it helps the assembly, but he should take this opportunity to teach them what it means to mess with him. Suddenly, the Red Demon Master comes outside after seeing the swords and says it's been a while. Jinho gets startled, and the Red Demon Master asks if he is finally ready to go back to being him. Jinho refuses and says he is just taking care of them to protect his family. Red Demon calls it a joke and asks if that's the case. Then why is Jinho making a face ready for revenge? Red Demon says he knows Jinho is feeling the emotions of anger, vengeance, delight, and joy and tells Jinho to be honest and admit it. Red Demon says Jinho is simply pursuing his own joy under the excuse of protecting his own family. Jinho says Red Demon is right that he used force against those who were in his way because he has seen how half-assessed measures can backfire. Jinho says thoroughly mowing them down is the surefire way of protecting his family and that he is doing this simply to take care of the Yeongnam Group. Jinho shakes Red Demon's hand away from his shoulder and says he should have dealt with the Yeongnam Group even if Lee hadn't come here. Jinho furiously tells the Red Demon to stop coming his way, but the Red Demon asks if Jinho is saying none of this is for his own pleasure. However, because it's necessary, Jinho replies that it is right. Red Demon says it's pitiful to watch Jinho make excuses and tells him to keep on struggling because, in the end, Jinho will become him anyway. Jinho gets furious, but Red Demon disappears. Jinho thinks he heard voices like this before, but it is much longer and clearer this time. Jinho thinks it may be a type of deviation, but then he goes outside, and Lee asks what happened because he took a while there. Jinho replies he is explaining things to his parents, but Lee notices his swords and asks what they are, to which Jinho replies that they are a pair that followed him through fate. Jinho says these are his favorite swords and asks Lee how far they have to go. Lee says it'll take an hour for the car to reach there, so Jinho asks if she has a car, to which she replies she has one and it's near there. Jinho says that's good and that she'll drive because he destroyed his car recently, which shocked Lee. Suddenly, Jinho asks what she is waiting for and tells her to lead the way, but on their way, Lee wonders if he has made the right choice. Lee knows she doesn't have much of a choice, but she thinks she brought in a bigger problem to take care of a lesser evil. Lee tries to convince herself that this is not the case and that she has made the best choice for the situation. Lee tells herself to believe in Jinho, and she is immersed in her thoughts when suddenly Jinho asks how much time is left, and she gets startled. Lee loses control over staring for a second and immediately gets attentive, but she is terrified and says 30 minutes are left. A few minutes later, Lee says she knows it's kind of late to ask now, but she wants to know why Jinho is helping her. Lee says she knows Jinho hates martial arts, so she didn't expect him to help her. Lee says even if he did help, she would assume she would ask for something major in exchange, but Jinho asks if it is really this odd that he is helping her. Lee says if she is being honest, then it is odd. But Jinho says there is nothing odd about this, and she owes him one for this, but he hasn't thought of what to ask in exchange yet. Lee thinks she knows it and thinks it may be a bad idea to ask for his help. After some while, Lee takes Jinho to the location and says her grandfather, his servants, and some bodyguards should be inside. Lee says there are 10 of them in total, but Jinho says it's fine and that he assumes they are all killed or neutralized. Lee agrees with Jinho, and Jinho, while drawing his sword, says, in this case, everything standing should be enemies. Jinho tells Lee to wait outside because this won't be a fun sight to see and tells his inner demon that it's time to go, so he should wake up. On the other hand, Chun Ti-hoon, an apprentice of Bang Jin-hoon, asks the assembly master where the confidential documents are. Meanwhile, the master of the Korean Martial Assembly, Lee Jun-gul, doesn't reply anything, so Chun says this is already his 4th time asking, and he is asking him politely because he is still the assembly master. Chun tells Jun-gul to cooperate with him, but Jun says he doesn't understand and knows Chun is Bang Jin's apprentice who has been enemies with the Yeongnam Union for quite a long time, so he asks why Chun is on their side. Chun replies that it is because the end justifies the means and says Director Bang also knows about this. Jun-gul is shocked to hear this, but Chu asks why he is so surprised and says Jun-gul should also know how to use his enemies when they have a common goal. Chun asks if Jun-gul has ever thought that being so stubborn and constructive was the reason why he fell behind the Yeongnam Group. Jun-gul furiously says that is because the Yeongnam Group bought in foreign influence, but Chun furiously punches the table and says it is because Jun-gul was incompetent. Chun said when the Yeongnam Group attacked them, Jun-gul said to let them be because there was no reason for the marshals to spill blood between each other. Chun asks if those are really the words of a marshal and tells Jun-gul to say that in front of the marshals who were killed by the Yeongnam Group. Jun-gul is quiet, so Chun yells at him and tells him to give him the confidential documents. Suddenly, they hear some noise, and Chun tells his men to check the cameras. They see in the footage that Jinho has broken through the entrance, but surely they are shocked to see Jinho disappear, and Chun wonders where the hell he went. The other guy checks that Jinho is attacking men in the corridor, so Chun orders him to send everyone on guard duty that way. Meanwhile, Jinho stabs down all the men coming his way, and in an instant, he enters the room where Chun is and, with an evil smile, says, "Here he is." The opponents are shocked, and Chun can't believe that all 20 of their elite fighters have been wiped out. They wonder where the hell this monster came from, and Chun thinks he has never heard of someone that powerful in the assembly or in the Youngnome group. Suddenly, Jinho asks Jung-gol if he is Lee Jung-gol, to which Jung-gol replies with a yes. Jinho says this place doesn't seem optimal to ask, so they should get rid of the obstacles first. Jinho rushes to stab Chun, but suddenly, Chun's man comes in front of him and gets killed. Chun immediately jumps back, and Jinho tries to stab him again, but Chun blocks the attack with his sword. Jinho, while putting pressure on his sword, is glad that Chun is worth something, but simultaneously, when another guy tries to attack from behind, Jinho immediately draws the other sword and kills that guy. Suddenly, Jinho says he made up his mind that he'll let Chun go, and after kicking him down, he puts his sword back in the sheath. Jinho tells Jung-gol that his granddaughter has requested that he save him, and Jung-gol is shocked to learn this. Jinho sits in front of Jung-gol and says Lee said she'll do anything to save him, so he says he'll use her words right at Jung-gol. Jinho, in a serious tone, asks if he can save Jung-gol here and what he can do for him, to which Jung-gol replies that Jinho can ask for anything. Jinho says he doesn't want anything from Jung-gol, so he should offer something he might be interested in. Jinho says if Jung-gol fails to do so, he'll leave him here and return. As Jinho gets up, Jung tells Jinho to give him a moment, but Jinho tells him to be quick with that. Meanwhile, Jinho tells Chun to get up and ask him if he is attempting to kill Jung-gol and take over the assembly. Chun says that is correct, but Jinho asks if he is silent about what Chun can do for him. Chun is confused and says he is not in a position to make decisions like that. Jinho says it's disappointing because he was planning to let him live, but he leaves him no choice. As Jinho grabs his sword, Chun gets worried and says he cannot get in contact with someone who can make such decisions. But Jinho draws his sword and is about to cut his neck when Chun yells that killing him will work against Jinho's favor. Jinho stops and tells Chun to explain, so he tells Jinho that Bang Jin has already taken over more than half of the assembly. Chun says the current master lost everyone's trust long ago, so even if Jinho saved the master, he could not expect any help or support from Jung-gol. Jung-gol gets furious, and Jinho asks Jung if he is trying to deceive him, to which Jung acts embarrassed. Jinho says he'll let it go this time. Suddenly, Jinho tells Chun that he'll let him go, too, but his master has to come back and see him in 2 days. However, Jinho warns if he doesn't come, he'll come and see him himself. After some while, Lee was trying to peek in when suddenly, Chun came outside, pushing her away, and Lee was shocked to see all the dead bodies lying inside. Lee immediately goes inside and runs to her grandfather after seeing him alive. Lee thanks Jinho for saving her life, and Jung says it's too late, but he wants to ask him something. When Jinho asks what he wants to know, Jung asks if there is a chance that Jinho is a demonic practitioner, but Jinho asks if it looks like he is on the same level as such a small fry. Jinho says he is the pinnacle of the demonic way, the ruler of demons. Jinho says he is the heavenly demon. Jinho says there are some who call him the red demonic master. Jung-gol says he has lived his whole life considering righteousness the one prime virtue, so he furiously asks if Jinho is telling him to cooperate with a demonic being. Jung-gol says he may be in Jinho's debt, but he cannot cooperate with a demonic practitioner, so Jinho says he'll leave, but Lee tells him to wait a moment. Lee's grandfather tells her to let him go, but Lee says if they do that, he'll go to Bang. Jung says there is no need for them to borrow the hands of a demonic practitioner. Jung says he has a plan, so she should just wait and watch. The next day, Jinho feels extremely tired, and Gi says it looks like he is going to collapse. Suddenly, Park tells Jinho that a guest has arrived, and as Jinho turns, he sees a huge guy with Park, and that guy introduces himself as Bang Jin-hoon. Bang is leaning on Park's shoulder, making him tremble. He says he hopes he is not late, but Jinho walks towards him and shakes his arm off Park's shoulder. Jinho says he is not late, and Bang says it is good to hear, but Jinho immediately pulls Park near himself. Bang asks if Jinho would like to have a cup of coffee with him if he is not busy, and Jinho replies he can have it. After the order arrives, Bang says he hopes he hasn't caused much trouble and apologizes, but Jinho tells him to be careful next time. Bang says he'll get straight to the point and says they are in quite an uncomfortable position, no thanks to Jinho saving the assembly master. Bang says if Jinho invited him to express his apology, he'll gladly accept it, but Jinho asks if he is joking. Jinho says since Bang wanted to go straight to the point, he'll do the same and ask why Bang is trying to become the assembly master. Jinho says if the trash he faced that night is the best Bang has, then he'll not make a difference anyway. Bang furiously says he is doing this to protect the assembly, and the age might have changed, but the essence of martial arts is about using martial power. Suddenly, Bang gets up and says that if Jung wanted to resolve problems with words, he should have become a politician, and if he wanted to solve problems with law, he should have become a lawyer. Bang says conserving with words is fine, but what the assembly master did was throw away his own sword when the enemy was facing a gun at their faces. Suddenly, Bang finishes his drink in one go and says they are hopeless at this rate, so someone has to stand up, and he is the one who does. Jinho says he can see it's a pretty boring reason, and that if he wants to become the assembly master, he can do it for him. When Bang asks what he means, Jinho says the internal problems of assembly are none of his business, and he just needs to take care of the Youngnome group. Bang sits back and asks if Jinho is saying he can make him the assembly master. Jinho says that is right. However, Jinho says he wants Bang to help him attack Youngnam in exchange. Bang says he heard what happened 2 days ago from Chun, but says he doesn't believe things unless he sees it with his own eyes and wants Jinho to prove himself. When Jinho asks what he means, Bang yells that he wants him to prove his worth right here and right now. Suddenly, Jinho changes the atmosphere and furiously says he has never heard of the word proof in quite a while. When Jinho asks what Bang thinks happened to the people who asked him the same question, Bang gets terrified by Jinho's pressure. Bang tries to punch Jinho, but he dodges it and says that as Bang manages to move his fist in this situation, he is one of the better ones he has seen so far. Jinho says he likes it, but he twists Bang's arm and says he'll ignore the annoying speech Bang made earlier. However, Jinho says Bang will have to pay for asking him to prove himself and, saying he likes his eyes, grabs his face and slams him down. Bang screams with fear, and as Jinho says he'll stop here, suddenly everything is back to normal, and Jinho is having his drink. Bang is shocked at what it is, and Jinho asks if it is enough proof, but says he can show more if Bang wants. Bang immediately says it is enough, and Jinho says he'll call him soon, so he should be ready to take over the assembly and help him fight the Youngnam group. Bang says he understands, and Jinho says he hopes they can work this out well. After leaving from there, Bang furiously punches a wall outside and says it was all an illusion. Bang wonders when was the last time he met a real martial artist who wasn't all talk and thinks he has never seen such an illusion that felt so real. Bang thinks it was beyond terrifying and marvelous, like a real demon. Bang says he'll gladly make a deal with the demon and says he'll let him take his soul if that's what he needs because, in exchange, he'll take the assembly. The chairman, H. Wang, asks Cho Jae-min how the pizzeria is doing. Cho adjusts his glasses and replies that it is a smashing hit. His short appearance in a TV show was also a hit, and his pizza is actually very good. The chairman gets furious and says that he was trying to teach him how doing business was no joke. Cho starts trembling with fear. The chairman calms down and says that he still has an eye for evaluating people. Cho wonders if he is mad or proud, and the chairman asks how the other gang Jinho is doing. Cho replies that he heard from their informant in the assembly about the kidnapping incident on top of the Astray incident. It looks like he decided to become enemies with the Youngnam group completely. The chairman says that is quite a stupid decision for a supposedly huge group. Cho says that he thinks so too. The chairman sighs and says they might be getting caught in some huge trouble this time, and he tells Cho that he will give him a chance to make a decision. Cho is surprised to hear that. The chairman says that he did appoint him to accompany Jinho, but they are just mere businessmen. Getting associated with these marshals will only end up causing more trouble, and his very life can be in danger, so if he's willing he can transfer him to a different department so he'll no longer be involved with Jinho. Cho is shocked to hear that. The chairman says this is the point of no return, and he should no longer be involved with that world because if he steps on another foot, then his life will be in danger. Cho says that he will think about it. After a while, Cho meets Jinho and says that it has been a while. Jinho says it sure has been a long time, Secretary Cho. Cho excitedly points out that he has good news and better news. He asks Jinho which one he should break first, and Jinho says good news. Cho starts smiling and says that he will start with the better news. Cho asks Jinho if he's having a good time recently because it looks like he is doing well without him. He thinks that he has become very close with him and that they are more than a business relationship. But he only let him know things when he contacted him from his side, and he just found that a bit disappointing. On top of that, he has heard that he has started getting into real business with that assembly group. Jinho asks how he knows that. Cho adjusts his glasses and replies that he's part of Yi Kyung, but he's also assigned to look after him. Cho tells Jinho that the chairman told him to stay away from his world, but he doesn't think that he can go back to a mundane life anymore. Cho says this all starts because of Yi Kyung, but if he had to make a choice, he would choose Jinho. Cho points his finger at Jinho and says if he's planning to leave him behind, then make a firm decision, and if he's planning to take him with him, then he's more than happy to risk his life, so feel comfortable to do so. Jinho tells Cho that this might get him killed. Cho says that he knows, he has already been there. Cho tells Jinho that he can take care of himself, and it might sound like he's joking, but he's serious. Cho says that he also knows that this will likely end up in a very bad way, but he wants to live a real life even if it means that he dies tomorrow. Cho grabs his chest and says that he doesn't just want to live dangerously, he wants to live in a world where Jinho is. Jinho is surprised to hear that. He thinks that in his past life, he lived in solitude. To the very moment it ended, everyone looked away from him, but now there are people who like him and people who decided to go the rough path for his sake. Even if he died tomorrow, he could confidently say that this life was the more successful one. Jinho smiles and tells Cho that if anything important happens from now on, he will discuss it with him. Jinho asks why this is the better news. Cho winks and says that because of the capable secretary, Cho decided to follow him until the end. Jinho is stunned after hearing that and says he's truly looking forward to the good news. Cho says that he prepared some essential things for him, considering he has started investing in his looks. Jinho grabs his hair in shock and says that he never invested in his looks. He asks Cho to tell him what it is. Cho smiles as he presses a button and says okay. Then, the garage door opens up, and Cho says to let him introduce the candidates for Jinho's new car. There are many luxurious cars inside. Jinho is in disbelief. He asks if he has to do this much, and Cho excitedly says of course, because it is more fun this way. Cho tells Jinho that he brought the newest models with the top-of-the-line specs, and their designs are second to none. Cho asks Jinho what he thinks. Jinho looks at the red car and asks if it's the same one as his previous car. Cho says yes, but there are just some minor upgrades here and there. Jinho says it was nice, but it was a bit hard to drive downtown, and the chassis of these cars are too low. He doesn't think they will go over any road bumps. Jinho says one of them looks like a frog, and all of them are too flashy. Cho gets angry and tells him to just get a sedan car. Jinho says that he doesn't like how they react slowly. He asks if there's any car that reacts quickly, is practical, and is nice to drive but not too flashy. Cho falls on his knees and says that he doesn't think so. Jinho says that he is sure there is at least one out there, a car that's comfortable, practical, and efficient. Cho says he would love to see one himself if it exists. Jinho tells him that he is sure he can find one. Cho shakes his head and says that he simply can't. Jinho says he can because he is the elite secretary. Cho feels his soul leaving his body. Jinho asks if he is busy tomorrow, and he replies no. Jinho picks him up and says if he has decided to follow him, then there's someone he needs to meet. He will tell him to come here tomorrow. The next day, Bang Jin-hoon arrives at the location he received from Jinho. He stands in front of a building and wonders why Jinho wants to see him there. At the same time, a security guard arrives outside and asks Bang why he's there. Bang says that he has an appointment at the secretary's office. The guard asks if he is Mr. Bang, and he replies yes. The guard apologizes for his behavior and tells Bang to follow him. Bang goes inside the building and thinks that Jinho is a rich boy, which is why he feels so glamorous. Cho welcomes Bang and thanks him for coming all the way here. Bang is surprised to see him and thinks that he is not a marshal. Jinho introduces him, and he tells Bang that Cho has been his acquaintance for a long time. Cho tells Bang to have a seat and that he will get him a cup of coffee. Bang sits down and thanks him. After a while, Cho pours coffee into Jinho's cup and asks if he likes it. Jinho takes a sip of coffee and says that it is okay. Cho is annoyed to hear that and says that he put some serious effort into this coffee. He gives the other cup to Bang and says to have a cup of okay coffee. Bang thanks him. Cho introduced himself and said that he works as the secretary for Chairman Hwang Yong-hoo. Bang is also about to introduce himself but stops. Cho says don't worry, he has already set foot in that world, so he doesn't have to worry in front of him. Bang starts drinking his coffee and says that he works as a director of the Korean Martial Assembly. He asks Jinho why he invited him here. Jinho replies that it's nothing important. He just wants to know how the preparations are going. Bang is surprised by how good the coffee is. Jinho tells him that he also wants to meet Secretary Cho. Bang thinks that Cho is like a small fish who looks like he has to watch out not to accidentally break a bone. He is disappointed that Jinho called him just to introduce him to this fish. Jinho asks how the preparations are. Bang replies that they are happening already, thanks to him. Jinho asks what about the power balance. Bang replies it's 7-3, and they are 3. Cho says since they only need to strike the head, they don't need a large fighting force. Bang says that is true, but if they talk about an all-out scenario, it's practically closer to 8-2 in their worst case. Cho says he doesn't think that's a problem, and Jinho asks why he thinks that. Cho replies that martial arts are all about training themselves, but they are not interested in being powerful figures in an organization. When the fight starts, most people will stay neutral since they don't want to get caught up in a power struggle. They'll just end up going with whoever the winner is, and if that happens, they might not be at an overwhelming advantage, but at least they are on practically equal grounds. Bang thinks this fish wasn't just here for the show. Cho asks if he would like some more coffee, and Bang says yes. Cho starts pouring coffee into his cup. Bang tells Jinho that there's no problem, and they are prepared and have a plan. Jinho tells him to cancel them all. Bang is shocked to hear that. Bang asks why. Cho asks if his forces are his core forces, and Bang replies yes. Cho tells him that if he declares war, the Assembly Master will also prepare his core fighting forces, and if all of those people die during this conflict, the Assembly will lose most of its major fighters. Jinho says that, just as Cho pointed out, they will wait for the Assembly Master's answer and strike him. Bang asks how long they should wait. Jinho says it should be 2 days, and Bang asks if he thinks that he will surrender in those 2 days. Jinho says that he doesn't care. He can fight, or he can struggle, but he hopes that he will make it interesting for him. Bang says that he will do as he is instructed. After Bang is gone, Jinho asks Cho what he thinks about Bang. Cho is looking at Bang leaving through the window and says that it looks like he will get the job done, but they can't trust him. Cho tells Jinho that he thinks they might have to keep full control of him so he doesn't betray them. Cho looks at Jinho and says he thinks there's a chance that after this is over, he might rise up against him. Jinho says don't worry about that. Cho asks if he has a plan for that, and Jinho replies that he will just kill him if that happens. Cho is startled to hear that. Jinho says since they have a schedule, he would like him to find that car in 2 days. Cho is shocked to hear that. Meanwhile, an old man tells his subordinate that he has 2 days, so please make sure that he is prepared by then. The subordinate is wearing a mask. He asks if he is that scared of a brat. The old man gets angry and says that is not what he is. He is a violent and arrogant being, a savage who played games with the lives of others. The subordinate asks if that will be a problem for them, and the old man gets up and says that is not what he is saying. He tells his subordinate that he was once their vassal, and yet he is still questioning them. He tells him to set aside his worries and just prepare the way for the great Japanese Empire. The Nanohashigumi will get rid of that brat. There are some ninjas on the roof, and they are led by a member of Nanohashigumi, Takahara Shingo. 2 days later, at the Korean Martial Assembly, a boy asked Bang if he meant that person was coming. Jinho asks if this trash is the best he can gather. Bang says he hand-picked them himself. Jinho gets disappointed, pulls out his sword, and says just remember one thing, not to get too close to him because they will get themselves killed. Some guards guard the assembly. One of them starts yawning and says that he is getting tired, and another one looks at his watch and says that just 10 more minutes. Suddenly, someone attacks and kills the guard. The other one gets scared and calls for help, but Jinho quickly appears from behind and kills him, too. Bang thinks that Jinho is going all out from the start. He thinks that if he had decided to make Jinho his enemy, he would have ended up dead as well. Jinho stops and says they are not even trying to hide their killing intent. Bang says maybe it's a trap, and Jinho says that is interesting. They reach inside the building, and Jinho wonders if it is a pathetic trick of the unorthodox sect. Jinho looks up and asks Bang if Lee Young-gul has connections with Japan. Bang replies yes, but they are not that strong. Some ninjas are preparing to attack from above. Jinho says that it must be ninjutsu. The ninjas started attacking using shuriken, and Jinho smirked and said Lee had brought some interesting things for him to play with. Jinho easily kills a ninja by piercing him with his sword. He thinks that he expected the modern ninja to be different, but it looks like he is wrong. A couple of ninjas attack his head. Jinho swings his sword and kills one while the other blows poison needles at him. Jinho quickly grabs the needles using his fingers and strikes the ninja to the ground. Jinho thinks that the reason an assassin jumps head-on is to use their friend as a decoy. Jinho attacks and stabs another ninja hiding under the wooden floor. He says that he will teach them why they ended up hiding in the shadows. Jinho swings his sword and sends a flying slash toward the ninjas. The attack cuts down some of them while a ninja falls to the ground. Jinho says that he should praise his luck for surviving the attack. Jinho attacks and kills the remaining one, too. After the dust settles, Jinho thinks that maybe he is too destructive. A voice comes and tells a ninja to commit suicide. He says that he doesn't want to die and starts running, but someone attacks him from behind and kills him. Shingo asks for Jinho's apology and says that he must be surprised by that, but he should not worry because his death will be painless. He appears out of nowhere. Jinho thinks that he doesn't understand a single word coming out of the ninja's mouth. Shingo tells him to consider it an honor to die by his hands, Josenjin. Jinho throws a sword at the ninja, but the ninja barely manages to avoid the attack. Jinho says that he doesn't know what he's blabbering, but he can understand that word. There's a scratch on the ninja's face. Jinho says Joseon turned into the Republic of Korea decades ago. He asks how much longer they are going to do that Josenjin shit. He says enough of that Japanese blabbering and tells the ninja to come at him. Shingo says considering he was capable enough to defeat the warriors of the great empire of Japan, he was going to kill him painlessly, but his arrogance is beyond acceptable. Shingo rushes to attack Jinho, but he dodges the attack. Jinho swings his sword, and Shingo thinks that he assumed that he must be one of the best fighters in this country, yet his movements are so slow. Shingo evades the attack by jumping backwards and telling Jinho that he can see every one of his attacks. Jinho starts swinging his sword at the ninja, but he swiftly dodges all the attacks and says that he is doing well for a low being. The ninja jumps on a nearby wall and tells Jinho to keep struggling. He jumps to kill him, but Jinho quickly attacks and throws him to the ground. Jinho puts his foot on his chest, and Shingo asks if his martial arts is superior to his. Jinho smirks and kills him. Jinho says that he speaks too much, and Lee Jung starts trembling with fear. Jinho asks Lee if he has more in store for him. Lee says no, there's nothing left. Jinho pulls out his sword from the pillar and asks Bang how long he's going to hide there. Bang appears from behind the rubble and says that he could have gone a bit easier. Bang tells Lee it has been a while, and Lee says he has finally decided to show himself in front of him. Bang says that considering the debt he owes him, it only makes sense for him to finish this matter. Lee gets furious. He grabs Bang by his collar and asks why he's ungratefully taking his position if he knows that he is in debt. Bang asks the assembly master if he truly thinks that he is being ungrateful when he clearly warns him. Jinho tells them to stop this meaningless conversation. He asks Lee why he brought Japan into this, and he asks if the position of the assembly master is so important to him that he would rather abandon his own pride. Jinho asks if he managed to stop him this way and then what he thinks will come after that. Lee is shocked to hear that. He says that he devoted his whole life to this, so how can he just hand it to someone else, even if it means getting help from the Japanese? Jinho thinks that one needs to let go of things when the time comes, but this man refuses to let go of the power. He's grasping onto it just like the sect masters of Zhongyuan. Jinho says that Bang will be in charge of the assembly, and Lee is shocked to hear that. Jinho tells him that he is old. Simply being old in age wouldn't be a problem. That's only natural, but his mind has gone senile. Jinho asks if he wasn't aware that he was hindering others. Lee is speechless. Jinho tells him that being blinded by greed and ignoring his problems is his sin. Jinho says that he will give him a day to get everything done by tomorrow. Bang places his hand on Lee's shoulder and says that he will be taking him. Lee says he can do whatever he wants and even take his life. It's all over. Bang tells him that his true nature isn't the Korean martial assembly master, but he's a martial artist. Bang tells him that he's going to lead the assembly to strike the Yeongnam group with Gang Jinho, and they will face many hardships. So, a true martial artist should be enjoying the fight. He says that it is not all over because they still need him, and he will give him an executive position. Lee is surprised to hear that. He starts laughing and thinks that his eyes are finally opened after he lets go of everything. These men didn't get in his way, but they stopped him from choosing the wrong path, so he should help them for the sake of rectifying his mistakes. Bang comes running outside, and Jinho notices a car stop by. Cho comes out of the car and starts yelling at Bang and Jinho. Cho tells Jinho that he told him not to leave him out of anything, and Jinho starts running away. A man sitting in his office asks his secretary if the assembly has been taken over. The secretary replied that Bang had become the assembly master, and Lee had gone down to an executive position. The man asks what will happen to the assembly. The secretary replies that they will clean up the mess relatively quickly because Lee is actively cooperating, and Bang seems to be concentrating on his job as assembly master. It looks like Jinho had a major influence on the process. The man looks at the report and grabs his head in anger. He says on the surface, it looks like Bang has become the assembly master, but in reality, Jinho is above them all. He asks what is so special about this stupid brat. The secretary tells him to calm down. After all, the Martial Alliance has given them direct orders to eliminate him, which means even the Red King evaluates him as a dangerous individual. The man smacks his hand on the table and says that's not what he is talking about. He is asking why it's taking so long to get rid of him. The secretary apologizes, and the boss throws the report in the air and says if they can't beat him down, then shoot him or ram him with a car. The secretary replies yes, sir. Meanwhile, Choi Yonha is furious and wonders why he's not responding to her calls. Park says he may be busy, but he thinks he is meeting with Secretary Cho today. Choi pouts and says she thought they were friends. She asks if they don't text each other. Park says that when he first saw Ju, he wondered if Jinho had even started being friends with thugs. Ju started choking Park. Choi says that Jinho is a real haphazard mess of a man. She smiles and says that she truly loves leading men like that. Choi furiously starts texting Jinho and says to hurry up and lead on with this conversation with her. Ju thinks that she looks like a devil incarnate right now. Meanwhile, Jinho is riding with Bang. Bang asks if he is okay with not answering his phone. Jinho puts a hand on his face and says that he is not okay. Bang tells him to just answer it. Jinho looks at his phone and says no, he's sure it will only be a headache. Jinho says he thought he was busy taking care of the assembly, but he suddenly came out of nowhere and was dragged out like this. Bang says he is sorry about that. He was planning on concentrating on straightening out the assembly problems, but it looks like the Yongnam group has made their move earlier than he expected. Bang says they seem to be up to something with a small group of people. He apologized for doing this without his permission, but he assigns some people around his family as guards just in case. Jinho tells him to make sure there aren't any privacy problems. Bang tells him not to worry about that. Jinho asks what that small group of people is aiming for. Bang says the Yongnam group isn't a bunch of idiots. He assumes they already have intel and that he has been heavily involved with the recent incident, which means he can be their target. Jinho smiles and says that it is interesting. Bang tells him that he knows that he is good, but he should at least pretend that he's concerned. Jinho asks why he should be concerned. He suddenly asks if this car is tough. Bang says it's a real tough nut. This thing was originally a military vehicle. Jinho looks in the rearview mirror and says that means it will withstand for a while. Some people are chasing after them. Bang realizes that and says that he is sorry. Jinho says it's alright. He was getting bored anyway, but the Yongnam group does things in a very annoying manner, so don't assume things with them. A man brings out a rifle and starts shooting at their vehicle. Bang is shocked to see that. They are under heavy fire. Bang says they are crazy for doing this in Korea. They are not in the middle of America. Bang tells Jinho to rip off the door and get out of there. They can't survive here much longer. Jinho looks back and tells him to just hit the brakes. Bang is about to hit the brake, but suddenly, he sees a grenade flying towards him from the front. The grenade hits the car, and there's a huge blast. The car gets derailed off-road and falls into a ditch. A person comes out of the vehicle and asks if they killed them. He says marshals or not, they are all the same in front of guns, and he tells his subordinate to go check on them. His subordinate asks if that is necessary, and he tells him to shut up and says that Lee Hyun will only believe them when there's a body in front of him. Some of the subordinates checked out the destroyed vehicle and reported that the car was empty. Everyone is surprised to see that they escaped from the car that was going at a speed like that, and on top of that, they were being shot by them. The man tells his subordinates to search around the place. They might still be alive. The subordinate asks what they will do if they are alive, and he says, obviously, they kill and shoot them. Suddenly, someone attacks and breaks his leg. Jinho and Bang appear out of nowhere. Bang steps on a person and says he never imagined that he was going to see guns outside of the military. Jinho says he will leave it to him. Bang says okay. He starts smashing his head on the ground and says he almost got him killed. Bang starts cursing him. The man asks how they are still alive. Bang says it is all thanks to Jinho. He thought he was done for it, but Jinho made a hole in the car in an instant and jumped out of there with him. The man says that can't be possible. Bang says that he can see the survivors right in front of him. He tells him that they picked a fight against the wrong person, and now they are all dead meat. Bang tells him to look over there. If he was one of them, then he would have just killed himself. At least that would end his life without pain. Jinho mercilessly attacks them by dodging their bullets. Bang says it looks like he's only going to stop after some bloodshed. Jinho returns after defeating the enemy. Bang tells him nice work, and he tells Jinho to calm down a bit. He's scaring him, too. Jinho calms down and says that he is sorry. It looks like he got a bit excited. After some time, Jinho opens the trunk of a car and sees that it is filled with guns. He asks Bang where they got all of these. Bang says there is always a way. The US, China, and Japan are close by, too. Bang says they even smuggled in guns. They must be out of their minds. Jinho says maybe it's more about them making decisions a different way instead of wasting time calculating and planning stuff. They must have considered more straightforward methods, even if it meant making a few sacrifices. Jinho says that he thinks it's quite an effective method. Bang is speechless to hear that and thinks that he's the target of that effective method. Bang thinks that he can't keep up with this guy. Jinho asks Bang if he has car insurance, and Bang is shocked to see his destroyed car. Bang grabs the enemy and asks how much money does he have in his bank account. Taehoon asks Jinho what he's planning next because he doesn't think this is the end of things. Since the Yongnam group has already crossed the line, they will probably try to see the end of things. He tells Jinho that he will double the security around his family members and he wouldn't be surprised if they targeted people around him. Jinho says, please do. Meanwhile, Bang is annoyed and says it looks like they have a tough guy here. He asks if he is not going to tell him his account password. Taehoon becomes furious and asks what he's doing. He tells Bang to get it together. Bang says that he heard everything, and he orders him to assign everyone to protect his family members. Taehoon says they can't send that much. Bang tells him to look at Jinho's face right now. If anyone around him becomes a casualty, the Assembly and Yongnam group will all become useless, and it might just be the end of the whole martial society in Korea because all that's left is war. Jinho has a serious look on his face. Bang tells Jinho that they should make their move now. They already made a bold move, even risking casualties, so they should also return the favor. Jinho says no. He tells Bang to stand by. He has something important to do, and Jinho says he has to look after his store. Bang is surprised to hear that and asks if he means that tiny pizzeria. Jinho says yes, that place is much more important to him than trivial matters like this. Bang says okay, then let's go, and he will take him there. Meanwhile, a person asks Choi how long she's planning to be on hiatus. It's fine that she's taking a break, but it's just too long. He starts begging her to please take one offer. Another one says if she keeps doing nothing, then she will be in trouble because Gang C is skyrocketing right now. Choi says she knows she is doing nothing. No commercials, TV shows, movies, interviews, and magazines, but it is not her fault that every script she gets is trash. She tells them to take all of those scripts and start a bonfire or something. They are both shocked to hear that. Choi leaves the room in anger and thinks that she is the veteran actress. She wonders if they think that they know this industry better than she does. She presses the elevator button and thinks that she knows that the TV show has been bombed terribly. She gets in her car and thinks that if she takes any offer in this situation, it might lead to a straight landslide. Choi thinks that she will keep a close eye on all incoming scripts and filter out sponsors and commercial offers. Choi hits the brake near the pizzeria and thinks not this place again. She places her head on the steering wheel and says she can't be distracted like this. She needs to concentrate and go higher. She looks at the place and says that she has come this far. Maybe she will go and see his face. Ju sees her and asks what it is this time. Choi says that she is a customer. She says she doesn't need a pizza, just get her a drink. Ju tells Jinho that the customer ordered one drink and one chef. Jinho breaks the glass in his hand, and he's scared to face Choi again. Jinho places her drink on the table. Choi grabs the drink and tells him that she's not here today to talk about being a celebrity. She gave up on that long ago. Jinho gets excited to hear that. He asks her why she's here. Choi replies that she's here to hang out and also takes a look at a handsome face while she's at it. Jinho says he appreciates how she helped Yoon Young, but he thought their deal ended when he spent time with her that day. Choi says the deal did end that day, but the guy who said he would call back later ended up ignoring her completely, so she came here. Choi asks if this place is open tomorrow, and Jinho says they are closed tomorrow. Choi starts smiling and then hangs out with her, but Jinho says no. Choi gets up in anger and asks why not. Jinho says he has something important to do. Choi bombarded him with her questions and asked if he was dating someone. She asked if it was a boy or a girl. Jinho says it is nothing like that. He just has to go somewhere. Choi says that she wants to go, too. Jinho says sure. Choi is startled to hear that and asks if she can go too. Jinho says sure, they can go together. The more, the merrier. Jinho gives her the address and time. After some time, they arrive at the place. Choi says that she is reading a sign from an orphanage here. Maybe the stress has gotten to her. Jinho tells her that it's an orphanage. He tells her to come inside. They have a lot to do. Choi is shocked to see a pile of dirty clothes. She asks what about the washing machine. Jinho says there is one, but it is not enough to take care of all of this. Choi asks for one single unit in this entire place with all those children. The staff says the other volunteers had a scheduling problem, so they can't come today. She tells Choi to take off as much as she can. She tells Choi that her clothes look very expensive and that she will get her some clothes to change into. She looks for some old clothes and says they have birds and flowers. She asks which one she likes. Choi has tears in her eyes. After some time, Jinho is carrying some boxes. A child asks how he can do that, and those look very heavy. Jinho says it is not a problem at all. Someone tells Jinho to come get some lunch first, and she asks what about Choi. Jinho says he didn't see her for a while. Choi arrives there drenched in sweat and water. Choi is furious. She pulls drawstrings on his hood and calls him a mindless idiot. Choi tells Jinho to look at the situation if he has a damn brain and act appropriately. They said that even the volunteers weren't enough to take care of the laundry, so even the children were doing it themselves, and he just sat there and watched that happen. Choi has fire in her eyes. She asks if he thinks playing around with the kids will take care of the situation, and if he thinks just riding a shiny, expensive car is enough. Choi says that he has no idea how to spend his money properly. She asks if he is going to take his entire fortune to his grave. The children are scared to see her anger, so Choi tells Jinho to start the car quickly. Choi and Jinho arrive at the superstore. Choi asks for a washing machine and a big one. The sales guy tells her to consider the performance first. She asks if he didn't hear her and yells at him to show them the largest one. He apologizes and shows her the machine. Choi says good, she likes it, she will take 5 of these. The sales guy starts smiling and says that is a wise decision. Jinho thinks this looks familiar, and Choi tells the sales guy to show her big and powerful vacuum cleaners. He excitedly tells her that he has one that can even suck the souls out of the people. Choi says she likes that one and shows it to her. She sits on a sofa and tells him to pack that TV. After completing her shopping, Choi brings out her credit card and says she will pay with this. Jinho tells her to wait. He will pay. Choi pulls his hood again and tells him to zip it. Choi says she's the one who ordered all these, so she will pay. If he was going to be stubborn that way, then he should have done something like this earlier. Choi lets Jinho go and tells him not to worry. She's not going to ask for anything in exchange. Choi says she might have spent a lot today, but she knows this is nothing compared to a person helping those in need by heart. Choi tells Jinho that if he doesn't like it, then next time, he should do the right thing before he makes her do it. Jinho adjusts his hood and says okay. Choi starts smiling and says that since she did his work today for him, he should get her a cup of coffee. Jinho turns around and says alright, let's go then. Choi says they will go to the orphanage first. She would rather kill herself than go to the cafe in these clothes. After some time, Choi relaxed in a cafe and finally got some coffee. She said that today wasn't bad and that she didn't know she was going to feel better quickly. Jinho asks if something happened, and Choi says she will tell him if he buys her dinner. Jinho cracks the glass he's holding and thinks that he shouldn't have asked. Choi tells Jinho that it's no big deal, that none of her shows are doing well, and that she just ends up being a bit depressed and sensitive. Jinho drinks his coffee and says Yoon Young told him the show was doing well. Choi says the show is doing well, but she's not doing well in it. She lost focus throughout the whole filming, and she might just get cut from it. Jinho asks what made her lose her focus, and Choi says Gang Jinho's has a handsome face. Jinho spits out his drink, and Choi says that even if his face wasn't that handsome, she would have ended up following him around. Choi suddenly gets up and says forget anything she said just now. She grabs her bag and says it's getting late, so she will get going. Jinho also gets up and says it is only 4 o'clock. He asks what about dinner. Choi tells Jinho to buy her dinner next time and runs away. Jinho wonders if he did something wrong. While running outside, Choi wonders what is wrong with her and what she would do if that dense idiot understood her. She stops and starts blushing. Choi says she might be in love with him. After some time, Choi is doing her makeup. She calls Hunsol and asks how tedious it would be for a person who is trying to do their best for something they clearly know is futile. Hunsol asks where that came from. Choi says when this came to mind, she realized that she was very mean to him and her manager. Hunsol asks her if something is wrong. Choi gets up and says nothing. She will hang up, and good night. Choi looks at her reflection in the mirror and wonders what is wrong with her and when she got herself in full makeup. Choi puts her hands on the table and says this goes way beyond being distracted. She grabs the hair straightener and says let's just go all the way. She will go watch his face and be satisfied with it. After a while, she arrives at the pizzeria, and Jinho tells her that they are closed. She gets annoyed and says that she knows that. Choi says she came nearby, and her car happened to break down. Jinho asks if he should call her a taxi. Choi says this is when one says that he will give her a ride. Jinho says he can give her a ride, but it would be better if she saw it for herself. Jinho brings out a bicycle, and Choi is surprised to see that. Jinho tells her that he will give her a ride if she's fine with it. Choi thinks that she never expected this. Jinho says she probably doesn't want a bike ride, and Choi shouts that she will take it. Jinho starts riding the bike. Choi gets scared and grabs his hair. She says that it is so shaky that they are going to fall. Jinho tells her that they are not going to fall, just let go of his hair. Someone is spying on Jinho while standing on the roof of a nearby building. He says the target is confirmed, so do it. After a while, Jinho and Choi sit on a bench, and Jinho looks like a mess. Choi says she is sorry, she was just too scared. Jinho says it is okay. Choi gives him a drink and says take this, she will just take a taxi. If she gets on that thing again, she might end up pulling out all of his hair. Jinho asks if she is scared of bikes, and Choi says yes. Jinho tells her that when riding behind, she should hold on to her waist, not her head. Choi says no, she will take the cab. Jinho grabs her hand and tells her that she will be fine this time, so let's go. He tells her that it's more dangerous for her to be alone during this time of the day. Jinho starts riding the bike and thinks that he knows they caught up. He brought her with him because it looked like they were after her. He can't just kill them in front of her. A few cars are following them, and Jinho thinks this is bad. Choi asks Jinho if he feels like those cars are following them. Jinho thinks that they are not even trying to hide. Jinho tells her to just leave his hair alone, and he will take care of the rest. Some people block their path, and they pull out their swords. Choi tells Jinho to look ahead. Jinho makes the bike jump in the air, and Choi starts screaming. Everyone is shocked to see that Jinho jumps ahead and rushes out of there. A person asks what just happened. His fellow says they just need to stick to the plan and tell Lee Hyun that everything is going according to the plan. He reports that target is heading to the tunnel. Lee Hyun tells them both to get out of there. He clenches his teeth and says they will kill Jinho this time. Jinho shakes Choi. She is zoned out. She says that she was flying a moment ago, and Jinho tells her that they are fine now. Jinho asks her to give him her hands. He grabs her hands and thinks that he feels bad for her. He is moving at a pace too harsh for normal people. Jinho wonders if he has even been in a fight where he had to protect someone else. Choi starts feeling calm and happy. Jinho thinks if he was alone, he wouldn't care if they were armed with swords and guns, he would just crush them. Choi starts blushing after realizing that Jinho is holding her hands. Jinho wonders if he would be able to fight them while protecting a person who doesn't know martial arts. Jinho thinks that he still needs to get stronger. Choi pushes back her hands and says enough with the brake. They should get going and slow down a bit this time. Jinho says okay and starts riding the bike again. Choi tells Jinho that he has been a little weird today. Jinho asks how, and she replies that he feels different from the Jinho she knows. Jinho says that he is the same as always. Choi says maybe she's out of her mind because she's going through so much today. Jinho says that it must be it. It's late, and she's probably tired. Someone notifies Lee Hyun that the target has entered the tunnel. He replies that it has been confirmed and tells everyone to get ready and keep their eyes on the target. Choi looks back at the tunnel and asks if this roadway is for cars. She wonders if bikes are allowed. Jinho tells her it should be fine since there are no cars. She punches him and says they never know when a car will show up. Jinho says the sidewalks are more dangerous because they are narrower, and besides, they are almost there. Jinho thinks that if he had known they were blatantly aiming for the people around him like this, he should have taken care of them earlier. He should contact Bang when he gets back. Jinho notices some strange sound. He looks up and sees a time bomb attached to the ceiling. There's a huge blast. After the blast, the tunnel collapses. A person reports that the mission is complete, and Lee Hyun tells him to stand by. After a while, someone reports that there is no movement. Lee Hyun is looking at the rubble of a collapsed tunnel on a screen. He says good, it has completely collapsed. They should get out of here because no human can survive that. He tells his subordinate to retrieve the cameras and get back to base. In the morning, Cho is on a call with Park. Cho asks if he didn't come to work today. Park tells him that they called his house, and they say he hasn't come back home since last night. Cho says he will give him a call. Park thanked him, and Cho disconnected the call. Cho says to look at all these people worrying about him, and yet he disappears without a call. Cho wonders if he has gotten into some trouble again. Cho calls Bang, and Bang wakes up and asks why he's calling him so early in the morning. Cho says he is sorry for the sudden call, but Jinho is missing. Bang smashes his hand on the table and breaks it. He grabs his head and says he doesn't need his coffee anymore. Bang asks when Jinho gets off the grid. Cho says it looks like something happened last night. Jinho is the last person he would expect to disappear just like that. Bang says he will look for him, and Cho thanks him. Cho says Bang should take care of the martial side of things. He grabs his coat and says he needs to find his GPS. He tells Jinho to please be safe. After some time, Cho calls Bang and tells him that he has found the last location to which his GPS signal was sent. Bang arrives there, and he is shocked to see the collapsed tunnel. He says it is in the opposite direction of his house. Cho says exactly it's the opposite. He doesn't know why, but this is the location of his last signal, and the biggest problem is that the signal came from inside there. Bang is worried to hear that. Cho looks at some documents and says it looks like this is no accident. This tunnel was built pretty solid, and there are no signs of any shift in the ground structure. Bang gets furious and says, of course, it was intentional. He asks why a tunnel would collapse by itself. Cho sighed and said the rational conclusion would be that the Yongnam group had done this. Cho asked if he thought Jinho was still inside. Bang says if it is the Jinho they know, then he should escape this place easily. Cho says if he did, then he would have contacted them already. Bang says he is not Jinho, but he can also read the Kai and find out what is happening inside. He places his hand on the ground and says let's check if he is still there. Bang closes his eyes and tells Cho that he can feel a presence inside. They seem to be caught under the rubble, but there are two of them. Choi opens her eyes and wonders where she is. The last thing she remembers is when she was on a bike with Jinho in a tunnel, and the tunnel collapsed. Choi asks Jinho where he is. She sees that he is shielding her by stopping the rubble from falling on her. Jinho is bleeding from his head. Choi asks if he is hurt, and she says it is too dark here and she can't see him. Jinho says he is okay, it is just a scratch. Choi asks if he is not dizzy or anything, and Jinho says that he is okay. Jinho thinks that he has lost consciousness for a moment, and this is bad. Jinho remembered the moment the tunnel collapsed. He used his Kai to barely make some space. But his arm is broken, and he can't move because his legs are caught under the rubble. Jinho thinks that he let his guard down. He was so arrogant that he thought that he could take care of the Yongnam group anytime and put Choi Yonha in danger. Choi asks him if he is truly okay because she feels like he is bleeding. Jinho says he is fine. Don't worry about him and rest a little. They don't have any food or water, so they will have to do their best to retain their stamina. Choi asks Jinho if they can survive this. Jinho says yes, they will, just trust him. Choi says that she does. Jinho tells Choi to rest a little. She closes her eyes and says okay. Jinho thinks that he will do anything it takes to get out of here alive. Cho marks the location on the map and says Jinho's estimated location is here, and the estimated time to reach that point is at least 10 days. Hwang-young, who grabs his head, smashes his hand on the table in anger, and says there is no way they are going to survive there for 10 days without food or water. Hwang asks if there's at least a way to get them water. Cho adjusts his glasses and says they have already considered that, but they say that if they flow water to the point, then there's a chance that unstable ground will collapse. Hwang says so, and it means they are out of options. Cho replies, that seems to be the case, sir, and he informs him that specialists are already on the matter and will take appropriate measures the moment they come up with something. Hwang says that he has full authority. He can even use his name and Yi Kaiyang if necessary. He orders Cho to save him at all costs. Cho says yes, sir. Meanwhile, blood starts dripping on Choi's face. She wonders where the water is coming from. The blood goes in her mouth. She opens her eyes and says it's not water, it's blood. Choi touches Jinho's face. Jinho tells her not to move and to keep resting. Choi tells Jinho that he is bleeding, but Jinho says it is not because he is hurt. Choi is surprised to hear that. She thinks Jinho deliberately made a wound so he can feed her. She thinks it is all her fault if she didn't go and meet Jinho. Only if she hadn't been so stubborn about seeing his face, none of this would have happened. Choi tells Jinho that she is sorry. Jinho tells her that none of this is her fault, so she should not worry and go back to sleep. Jinho thinks that he at least got his arm back in one piece through cultivation, but his legs still have a long way to go. Choi is in a bad state, and he doesn't have time. Jinho feels some shaking and thinks that if it collapses now, it will kill them. Bang tells Cho that the old man is quite something. Cho adjusts his papers and says Jinho is like a son to him. He asks Bang if there is no way to rescue him with the power of the marshals. Bang says they are all just a bunch of extra muscles. They might only get in the way, and in the worst case scenario, making the wrong touch might even cause a bigger accident. Cho says that is off the list. Bang puts his hand in his pocket and says sorry, he has a call. Bang goes outside and asks Kim Suk what he wants. Kim says that he lacks manners as always. Kim smiles and says it is not like he can do anything else but bark without Jinho. Bang says he knew that he was behind this. Kim says now that the ace up his sleeve is dead. Bang interrupts him and tells him to shut up and get to the point. Kim tells Bang to hand over the assembly, and Cho is secretly listening to their conversation. Kim tells Bang that he will make a special offer and keep a position for him. Bang gets furious and starts cursing him. Bang tells him that he is coming for him soon, so he just keeps hanging on the edge of his seat. Bang disconnects the call. Cho appears from behind and asks him how long a marshal can survive without water. Bang says he has never heard of anyone doing that. His guess is probably twice as long as a normal human. Cho asks how long Jinho will survive. Bang says it feels like he can survive a whole year, but realistically probably about 10 days. Bang says if they start excavating right now, it will be too late. Cho is surprised to hear that. Bang says he told him there are two people inside. One is obviously Jinho, but the other is a normal person. They can dig and rescue Jinho, but the other person will definitely die. Cho says their main goal is to rescue Jinho. Bang puts his hand on his shoulder and tells him to listen to himself. There is still a living person inside. Bang says Jinho is merciless to his enemies, but he shows unlimited kindness to his friends. Cho says that means Jinho is protecting that person, which would make everything make sense. It is probably the reason he even came here in the first place. Bang tells Cho that he has a crazy plan. He smirked and asks if he is interested. Cho looks worried and says that he has a bad feeling about this. He asks what the plan is. Bang points at the rubble and says they should blow it up. It is the only way to save them both. Cho asks if he is mad. Bang says he knows that it sounds crazy, but thinks for a second that Jinho is still stuck because of that person. Bang says he doesn't know if it is Jinho or the other person who is severely wounded, but Jinho is in a position where he can't push up the rubble. But if they somehow relieve the pressure of the rubble for an instant, there's a chance for him to escape. Cho says no, and none of that makes any sense. Jinho is still only human, so he grabs Bang's collar and asks if he thinks that Jinho can withstand the blast. Bang asks if he thinks that a blast can kill him. He says they just need to set up everything, and he will do the rest. Cho grabs his hair and asks how one can think of blasting the whole place. Cho starts walking away. Bang asks where he's going. Cho turns around and shouts at him that he is going to go with his plan. Jinho gets pushed down by the weight of the rubble, sighs, and thinks it wasn't a big collapse. Choi opens her eyes and tells him to lean down on her. Jinho is surprised to hear that. Choi tells him that he is tired, and Jinho says no, he's fine. Choi says not to make her talk again, and Jinho says okay, just for a moment. Jinho lays on her and thinks that she's already at her limit. He can't make her waste any more energy, so he needs to keep cultivating and regain his energy. Choi says that she is cold. Jinho thinks that this place isn't even that cold. He needs to hurry with his recovery because, at this rate, she will not make it. Meanwhile, Bang asks Cho if everything is ready, and Cho says almost everything is ready. Bang tells him to take a look at this. They found something. He shows him a picture of explosives and says they planted them around every tunnel. Cho is surprised to hear that. Bang says they thoroughly planned beforehand. A worker comes and says the explosives are ready, and Cho says okay. Cho thinks that he needs to calm down and that everything will be fine. He just needs to assist Jinho so he can escape. Cho says let's get started. Jinho closes his eyes and thinks that there's someone outside and a marshal among normal people. Jinho wonders if that is Bang and Secretary Cho, and it looks like they are planning to get him out. Jinho thinks that he is low on Kai, but this is his only chance. Jinho places his hand on the rubble and feels heat and vibration. He wonders if it is a bomb. Jinho thinks that he never expected Secretary Cho to blow up this place, and he says he truly comes up with insane ideas sometimes. Choi wakes up and asks what that noise is. Jinho tells her not to worry, it is not a collapse. Jinho tells her that there are people outside, they are trying to get them out of here, and they are going to blow up the place to make their way out. They might not get out of here alive. Choi says it's okay and it's better than just dying here waiting for help. Jinho takes her in his arms and tells her to hold tight. He thinks if they are planning to remove all the rubble in one blast, then it is going to be a huge explosion. Since Choi won't withstand the blast, he will have to combine his Kai and unnamed art to protect her while making his way. Jinho starts releasing his Kai. There's a huge blast. Jinho uses his technique of cloud dash and moves at an insane speed through the rubble. He thinks that this is draining his Kai too much. Jinho uses a Kai blast to smash the boulders away. He sees another large boulder flying towards them. Jinho decides to use another blast, but he realizes that he is out of Kai. He thinks that he can't withstand a boulder like that right now. Jinho thinks that he will have to use his innate pure Kai to destroy it, so he punches the boulder and breaks it to pieces with a huge blast. Bang and Secretary Cho cover their ears due to the huge blast. Bang asks if it works. There's dust everywhere. When the dust settles, they are shocked to see that there is nothing left. Cho grabs Bang by his collar and says that he said it would work and Jinho would get out of there alive. He tells him to say something. Bang is speechless. Cho starts crying and says they killed Jinho. Bang tells him to calm down and look over there. Cho turns around and asks it what. Cho starts running towards the rubble, and he starts searching for Jinho by excavating it with his hands. Bang tells his subordinates to get the medical team ready. Cho stops and starts crying to see Jinho. They start pulling Jinho outside, and Bang asks why he's so heavy. Jinho is holding Choi in his arms. Bang says that he is not breathing, so he pulls Jinho away from her. Cho is shocked to see Choi there. Bang starts pushing his Kai into Jinho's chest, and Jinho starts breathing again. Bang tells Cho that Jinho is awake. He comes running, shows him 2 fingers, and asks how many he can see. Jinho opens his eyes and starts laughing. He looks up and says he didn't know the sky could be this beautiful. After some time at the hospital, Cho asks if he is sure that he doesn't need any more examinations. Jinho says that he is fine. Cho tells him that Bang took his arm and crunched it like this. Jinho tells him that he relocated his arm, and Cho says that he was stuck down there for so long. Jinho asks him where Choi is. The doctor tells Jinho that Choi is physically healthy, but it looks like she has developed mental trauma, and she shows severe signs of anxiety in the dark when there's no one around, so she's currently in the VIP ward. Jinho goes to the VIP ward and presses a button. A voice says VIP ward speaking. Jinho says that he is a visitor, and after some, he arrives at the room. Choi is sitting on her bed. She looks happy to see him. Jinho comes near her and asks how she's doing. Choi replies that she's okay. They say that she just needs to rest a bit, and that she can leave here in no time. Jinho says that is good to hear. Choi tells Jinho that it is good to see him clearly. When they were down there, she couldn't see anything, even though she knew he was right there beside her. But now that she sees him like this, he looks hotter than she remembers. Jinho bows his head and apologizes for getting her involved in this. Choi says that it was her fault for insisting that he give her a ride. Jinho says no. He tells her that this incident has nothing to do with her. It would have happened no matter where he went, and she was dragged into it because of him. Choi is surprised to hear that. She says that she doesn't understand. Jinho tells her that some people were targeting him, and somebody deliberately collapsed the tunnel. Jinho says that he is sorry. Choi puts her hand on his mouth and says enough. Choi says she doesn't know what exactly happened and why, but she shouldn't be scared like that. Choi tells Jinho that she doesn't care if things like that happen because she is next to him, and she's not planning to stay away from him. Jinho says he never asked her to stay away from him. He's just saying it might be a bit dangerous. Choi puts her finger on his lips and says that it is for her to decide. Choi tells Jinho that he said it was his fault, so he should pay this debt. Jinho sighed and said yes. Choi asks if he can visit her during the night, and Jinho is surprised to hear that. Jinho gets nervous and asks if she means during the night. Choi says yes, she can't ask the nurse to stay with her all night because she can't fall asleep, and she doesn't want to call her parents and make them worried. And being awake is so boring. They don't even have anything good to watch on TV during the night. Jinho says okay, and Choi gets happy to hear that. Jinho tells her that there is something he needs to take care of first, so he can come 2 days later. Choi gets annoyed to hear that and says that she will be discharged from there by then. Jinho says that there's nothing he can do, so he gets up and says he will be going now. Choi pouts and tells him to get out of there. After he's gone, Choi starts trembling. She tells herself to calm down and ease her mind so he doesn't fault himself. On top of that, she still needs to live on as an actress. She can't lose herself to this. She needs to look normal. Jinho is standing outside the door listening to her. He gets furious, starts walking, and calls Cho. He says that he would like to ask him a favor. On the other hand, Kim asks if there is any contact from Bang, and Lee Hyun replies that there is no. Kim asks if he truly thinks that Jinho can survive that. He calls him an idiot and says that is why the assembly is weak. Lee Hyun says at least Bang kept his pride as a marshal, and compared to that, they used guns and bombs. He asks if he is sure that they are marshals and not some terrorists. Lee Hyun says that he is ashamed to call himself a marshal at this point. Kim points his finger at him and says that they are living in the 21st century, enough with the old ideas. He says that martial arts are simply another method to get the job done. Kim tells him that he should be thankful that he still finds him useful. When he's also just a method for an objective, he tells him to get the hell out. Lee Hyun leaves the room and thinks that he doesn't know that Jinho has escaped from that wreckage and is coming this way with the whole assembly backing him up. Lee Hyun says he wouldn't even know there was such a huge movement if he hadn't informed him. So much for being the man who once used to rule half of Korea. Lee Hyun takes a sip of coffee in his office and thinks that he is looking forward to seeing how Jinho is going to attack this place. Suddenly, there's a huge blast. Lee Hyun smirks and says that he is crazy. He comes right to the front door, and he finally gets to see how powerful that man is. Jinho arrives carrying 2 swords and says that he will let them know 2 things. This is the only way out, and good luck in struggling. A bald man appears and says what a foolish brat is. He is also an executive, and his name is Yang Yi-sung. Sung asks if he thinks he can take them on all by himself. Jinho says he never said he came here alone. Numerous marshals appear around the wall. Bang tells them that they heard the man, and their only way out is to get through him. They won't move an inch from here, so good luck. Sung starts laughing and says this child is going to fight them all alone. Jinho says yes. Sung takes a fighting stance and tells Jinho not to get too cocky. He doesn't know what tricks he used to destroy the front gate, but now that he stepped foot in their territory, he's not leaving alive. Jinho swings his sword. Sung asks if he thinks that his sword can reach him from that far. Suddenly, there's a cut on his chest, and blood starts pouring out, and he falls to the ground. Everyone is scared to see that. Jinho asks who he thinks he is talking to. Jinho tells them to bring the next one or else he will start killing them one by one. After some time, Jinho kills another guy, and everyone starts running away from him. A person says I don't think about fighting him, just run. Jinho sends another flying slash and kills them. Lee Hyun arrives there and thinks that he is actually facing the whole Yongnam group by himself. He looks at Jinho and thinks that he is an anomaly that the whole of Korea can't even face, a true one above all. Unlike these half-assed men who call themselves marshals, he's a true marshal with overwhelming power. He's the true form of a marshal that he always dreamed of. Lee Hyun says he doesn't care if his men or even the whole Yongnam group burns to the ground. He wants to see what more he has. A person starts crying and says that he doesn't want to die. Jinho easily kills him and says he tells them there is only one way to live. Bang says he doesn't get it. He asks why Jinho is doing this much. The enemy has already lost their will to fight, and he asks what meaning is there to mow down enemies like that. Bang says that Jinho is deliberately being cruel right now. Cho says that he told him about it earlier today. Jinho told him that in a war between two factions, even if it ends with a victor and one side takes over the other, it's highly likely that there will be a split of factions and internal conflicts. Jinho asks Cho what would happen if it were not between two factions but between a faction and an individual, and what if that individual was so powerful that even the whole faction was no match against him. Cho replied that they would either give up or deny the reality. Jinho says that is right. Because of that one moment of fear, people end up abandoning even the smallest attempts of resisting. Fear is an effective method of gathering people together. That's why Blue Demon failed to persuade the people of the demonic cult and had to bring in outside forces to attack him. It's because they were afraid of him. Bang asks if he is saying that his actions right now are to set up an example and make people give up on resisting. Cho replies yes. Bang sighed and said that he understood to a degree, but it was such a brute force method. Cho says that he agrees, but one thing is for sure, it's better than sacrificing people in the assembly. After defeating numerous people single-handedly, Jinho asks if that is all, then he will assume that everyone standing here has succumbed. Everyone is scared of Jinho. Jinho tells everyone to throw away their weapons and bow down. If anyone holds their heads up, then he will kill them, too. Jinho says that he will count to 3. On the count of 1, everyone starts bowing down in front of him after dropping their weapons. Bang and Cho watch in disbelief, and Cho says that it is over. Jinho tells Bang that he will leave the rest to him. Jinho asks a person where Kim is. He replies that the leader should be in his office. Jinho starts searching for him inside the building and thinks that it is awfully quiet. He thinks that this can't possibly be everything he prepared to fight him. Jinho looks up and notices Daimonic Kai. Someone starts attacking him out of nowhere. Jinho jumps back to avoid the attack, but the attack follows him. Jinho grabs it with his bare hands and says these are steel needles. Jinho starts smiling and says let's end this. A couple of people are attacking Jinho with steel needles, and Jinho easily diverts all of their attacks. A needle barely grazed his face. Jinho starts smiling and says the scratch he made on him, he gives him credit for that. Jinho attacks using his sword and cuts the person. Blood starts pouring out of his body. Kim is trembling in his chair and thinks that he raised those guards himself. He starts cowering in fear and thinks that this building is dark and the hallway is narrow. There's a low chance for him to win, but he can't believe they are being pushed back. Kim grabs his head and wonders where it all went wrong. He wonders if this is happening because Lee Hyun betrayed him. Kim wonders if it was wrong to get a hand from the martial union from the beginning. He sees the door opening in front of him. Jinho arrives at his office while grabbing his subordinate by the throat. Jinho says it's pathetic that the boss was hiding there. Jinho asks if he has any last words. Kim says that he doesn't need them. Instead, he would like to ask him one thing. Kim asks how this could happen. They are the best group of martial arts in Korea, but how can he defeat them alone? It would have been more understandable if he attacked them with the assembly. Jinho asks if he still does not get it. Kim gets angry and asks if he thinks this is understandable. Jinho says he doesn't think that the Yongnam group is that great. He has no idea why he's so proud of it. Jinho says the reason is simple. He's stronger than he is. Jinho starts releasing his Kai and says that he shouldn't have messed with him. Kim gets scared to see that. Jinho grabs his face and says ever since he started to mess with him, this was going to be his fate. Jinho looks like a monster and says that he will not let him die easily. Lee Hyun is hiding and thinks that it is too quiet. He looks at the dead body and says even Kim's guards are taken down. He hears a scream and thinks that he can tell what's going on by just hearing the sound of it. He wonders if this is a chance to see his power at the closest sight. He starts walking towards the room and thinks that Jinho will surely kill him, but if he can see his power, then he will be honored to be dead. At the same time Jinho gets out of the room, Lee Hyun says they have finally met. Jinho asks who he is. Lee Hyun asks if he doesn't know who he is. Jinho asks if he is a member of the assembly. He says no and starts trembling with fear. He tells Jinho his name and everything that happened. Jinho stands beside a window and asks if it was him who locked him up in the tunnel and kidnapped Yoon Young. Lee Hyun says yes. Jinho asks why he's here. Lee Hyun says that he thought he would be looking for him and that he also wanted to meet him personally. Jinho asks why he wants to meet him. Lee Hyun says he wants to see for himself how powerful he is, or maybe more than he expects. Jinho tells him that he is not good with words. He grabs his sword and asks if he wants him to kill him. Lee Hyun says no thanks. He grabs his neck and says he just thought even if he ran away, he would still find him and kill him like he killed Kim. Jinho smiles and asks who said he killed Kim. Lee Hyun is shocked to hear that he asks if Kim is still alive. Jinho says yes because death is too easy for him, he just takes out his eyes. Lee Hyun tells Jinho that he is too cruel. Jinho says that he doesn't care what he thinks of him. Jinho asks if he is an advisor, and he replies yes. Jinho says that it won't be bad to give him a chance. Lee Hyun says he doesn't understand. Jinho tells him to get the Yongnam group together and make them his because he's not good at establishing and managing a group. Lee Hyun says that he has Bang and the assembly. Jinho says that Bang has talent, but he can't merge two different groups into one. He asks Jinho what would happen if he betrayed him. Jinho says it will not bother him because he's not worth something. To him, he's not even worth killing, but if he does this job perfectly, then he will at least try to remember his name. Lee Hyun smirks and says fine, he will make him remember his name. After some time, Hwang and Cho have a conversation. Cho reports to him that Bang is in charge of the cleanup, and Lee Hyun is in charge of the marshals of the Yongnam group. Bang was uncomfortable with it, but since Jinho placed the order, he's going to watch for now. Hwang starts watering his plant and tells Cho to pay more attention to Jinho from now on because he has become a representative of Korea's martial arts. Whether he is wanted or not, there will be more people starting to watch him. Hwang says that he's sure some of them might not have good attention. He says that Jinho is a brat and should just gently inherit Yi Kyung. Hwang instructs Cho to take care of Jinho well. Cho replies that he will keep that in mind, sir. Hwang says he is sure that his family was worried about him since he was gone for a week. He asks if he took care of that. Cho adjusts his glasses and says, of course, sir. He made a perfect plan for that. At Jinho's home, he obediently sits on the ground, getting chastised by his mother. She says the one who has already been checked out from work doesn't answer the phone, doesn't check messages, and also doesn't check the messenger. Then, he comes home and says that he went on a trip. A kid who never made trouble in his whole life made her worried for that long, and he came back home calmly telling lies. Yoon Young also glared at Jinho. Jinho thinks that Secretary Cho said it would work like a charm. His mother tells Jinho that it doesn't make any sense that he couldn't contact them for a week. He could have easily borrowed a cell phone or used a public phone to call them. She has fire in her eyes and asks if he is going somewhere like the Amazon jungle or where he doesn't know any language. Jinho says he is sorry. Yoon Young says that is ridiculous. She asks why he didn't just say that he got in an accident and went to the hospital. That would make more sense. Jinho's father tells everyone to calm down. He asks Jinho if he did something shameful, and Jinho says never. His father says that it is fine. He heard that he has something to do, so he may leave now. Jinho is surprised to hear that. His mother protests, but her husband sits on the couch and says that is enough. Jinho's father says he didn't do anything shameful, so they should trust him because they are family. If this happens again, he's sure Jinho will take responsibility for that. Jinho looks at his father with love. Hwang asks Cho if he has any friends, and he asks if he thinks that excuse will work for anyone with common sense. Hwang shows Cho his phone and says Jinho sent him this message, which says that he will visit him soon. He tells Cho that he had better watch out at night. After some time, Jinho visits Choi at the hospital. He asks if her discharge date has been delayed. Choi says that she feels fine, but the doctor said she should stay a little more. She starts drinking water from her bottle, and Jinho tells her that she looks prettier without makeup. Choi spits out the water, her face turns red, and she asks what he's talking about. Jinho says he only said what he was thinking. He asks if she has a fever because her face is red. Choi says no. She starts pushing him out of the room and says that he can go now. Jinho says that he just got here. Choi asks if he is planning to stay the night, and she tells him that if she gets involved in a scandal, then she will lose her job. Jinho tells her that the visiting time is not over yet. Choi puts her finger on his lips and pushes him out of the room. She tells him that he doesn't have to come anymore. Jinho wonders if he did something wrong again. At night, Jinho returns to the hospital, jumps through the window, and looks at Choi. She's struggling to sleep, and Jinho thinks that she has the murky kai all over her body. He places his hand on her stomach and thinks that her spirit has become too weak. Jinho can't believe that she was able to pretend to be bright in this condition. Jinho starts transferring his mana to her and thinks that this can't totally cure her, but it will make her better than before. In the morning, Choi gets up and starts stretching. She says that it is weird suddenly. Her body feels so fresh. She wonders if she did something yesterday. She only met Jinho. Choi runs to the washroom and looks at the mirror. She says she can't get better just by meeting him, but her face looks better, and she says it is time to be discharged from the hospital. Some students are bullying a boy, and one of them kicks him in the ribs and says that no one will come to help him. He warns him that if he snitches him again, then he will beat him to a pulp. At the pizzeria, Park tells Jinho that the orphanage kids are being bullied at school. Jinho asks since Park says that he is not sure, and he asks them for details, but they don't tell him. Park says that maybe they do not want him to worry, and he understands them because he is like them. Park says that he will go to school later, but Jinho tells him no, he should go there now. Ju arrives there and starts yelling. He asks where they are trying to go. Jinho tells him that the orphanage kids are being bullied, and Ju has tears in his eyes. He gets furious and says that workplace bullying is what they are doing. Ju says that they are so ignorant and asks if they have any idea how many tasks he had to take on while they were gone for days. He tells them that before saving the kids, they should save him first. Park tells him to calm down. Ju points his finger at him and says he has started to take a break ever since he said that he was going to make a comeback as a pro gamer or something. Since he was missing, he was extremely busy, so he couldn't tell him to calm down. As for the owner, he understands that he can take a day off every once in a while, but he was also gone for a week. And then he threw them under the bus to lie to his family about going on a trip. Ju becomes furious and says it is not even enough for them to show the kids that they are adults who work hard to live. Park says that since it's like this, he has been thinking about it for a long time, and he thinks that he should become the owner of this store. Ju is confused to hear that Jinho says that he agrees even though he doesn't have any sense of design. But from the menu, sales, and business, there's nothing that didn't go through his hands, so he should become the owner. Jinho and Park are about to leave. Jinho tells him that he will call Secretary Cho about handing over the store, and Park tells Ju that he is awesome. Ju brings a stick from inside and asks where they are going, and if they think that the store is that easy to run. After a while, Secretary Cho comes there to transfer the store in his name. Ju thinks that if there's a second life, he will never get involved with Jinho again. Jinho and Park arrive at the orphanage, and they see that the backpack and books are torn apart. Park looks at their clothes and says that even their clothes are messed up. Jinho asks the kids when it all started, and one of them tells him that it has been quite a while. Jinho says just visiting school won't work. He asks Park if the school ever solved troubles back when they were at school. Park says no, but they can't punish the bullies themselves. Jinho says that is why they should go and find out the reason first. Park says even if they get caught, it's easy for them to cover it up. Jinho starts smiling and says that he has an idea. He's sure this would work for the guys, but he is not sure about the girls. The kids are surprised to hear that. Choi is working out when she receives a call from Jinho and wonders why he calls. She starts smiling and wonders what she should do. Choi starts blushing, and she gets nervous. She wonders if she should act happy. The phone stops ringing, and there is one missed call from Jinho. Choi gets disappointed and calls Jinho. She starts yelling at him and asks why he called. Jinho tells her everything and says that he needs her help. After a while, Choi arrives at the orphanage and says that he needs to solve the problem of the girls being bullied. Jinho says yes. Choi asks how he didn't know that until now. Jinho gets scared and remembers what she did to him the last time. Jinho says that he has nothing to say in his defense. He thinks it is better to know now than not at all. Choi says that since he admits his mistake, she will let it pass this time. She asks if he has asked any other woman besides her. Jinho says there are no other women he knows. Choi says that she feels great but bad for him. Choi tells Jinho that she will help him, but he needs to go on a date with her. Jinho says that he will try to make some time, and Choi starts laughing and says that it is a deal. Choi turns around and tells the kids to wait for her. She will take care of it faster than light. After some time, Jinho tells the kids that they didn't do anything wrong, but sometimes being weak can be a sin. He tells them that he knows it sounds unreasonable, but there will be a lot of times when something unreasonable happens in their lives because they are weak. Jinho says that this is the only solution and that they should become strong enough that no one dares to bully them. Jinho tells them that if one person bullies them, then they should overcome that one person, and if 5 people bully them, then they should overcome all of them. The kids are shocked to hear that. Jinho starts smiling and says they should get started. Meanwhile, Choi asks the girls if they are being bullied at school, and they say yes. Choi tells them that she can't solve their problems, but she can help them pick themselves up. Choi says that the way people look at them, ignorance and criticism, they shouldn't be discouraged by those things because people who like to gossip will always gossip no matter what they do. She tells the girls that she is going to change their appearance and make their minds stronger today. She has a hair straightener in her hand and asks if they understand her. Everyone replies yes. She gives them makeup and tells them that they shouldn't worry about the money because she will use her credit card for them. The girls start smiling and they say that she's the best. Jinho makes the boys run and Choi gives the girls a haircut. Jinho tells the boys to do push-ups while Choi takes the girls shopping. After some time, the boys return to the orphanage. They look tired and dirty. Choi looks at them and says they are so dirty. A boy gets angry and asks what she expects. He tells her that they had to run 50 laps around the playground, and after that, Jinho made them run 20 more, and he also made them do pull-ups, skipping rope, and even rolls. The boy falls to the ground. Park tells him to hang in there. One kid looks at the girls and sees that they are dressed up in pretty clothes and chatting happily, but they just roll in the dirt. Cho is also present there, and he says that the way Jinho has done it is so old-fashioned, and Jinho is surprised to hear that. Cho tells him that nowadays, kids look at reality. They check the house's economic power by which brand they wear. Jinho tells him they also need strength. Cho says that he understands, but it is still old-fashioned. Choi sighed and said that nowadays, kids consider the details, and among those details to consider, the strength part is all the way down. Jinho is shocked to hear that and says there is no way that would work. Cho tells Jinho that nowadays, kids with strength immediately become outcasts, and Choi is surprised that Jinho doesn't know this. Cho says that he thinks the only people who are popular because of their strength are athletes. Of course, exercising is good, and one can stay healthy and protect oneself, but not with his method. His words pierced Jinho, and he asked what about strength. Cho says that he is not suggesting that they give up on exercise, but that they should change the person who teaches them how to exercise. Jinho is devastated to hear that. Cho tells Jinho and Choi that he needs their help. Choi asks what she needs to do. Cho says that when an actor is going up on stage, he has to wear makeup, and he tells her to put makeup on Jinho. Choi asks how much, and Cho says as much as her pride allows her to. Choi starts laughing in an evil manner. After some time, they walk outside. Jinho asks if this will work. Choi says there is no doubt that it will work, and she tells him not to forget the lines and not act badly. Jinho drops the girl to school in his fancy car and tells her to call him when she is done. She replies okay. All the students are shocked to see that Jinho is wearing sunglasses and says that he will come pick her up. The girl goes inside the school and thinks that they are all looking at her. She feels embarrassed as she holds her bag tightly. The previous night at Sungsum Orphanage, Choi asks Cho what happens when she finishes with Jinho's makeup. Cho says that both of them will show up at school looking pretty and handsome, and they will pretend that they are very close with the orphanage kids in front of other students. Jinho asks how that will help them. Cho tells him that who one hangs out with is one of the conditions to evaluate a person. For example, let's make an assumption that his friend is best friends with the president. He asks how would Jinho think about him after learning that. Jinho says that it is surprising, amazing, and somewhat mismatched. Cho starts smiling. He raises his hands in the air and says that is exactly what they are going to use. He tells Jinho and Choi to show their greatness and handsomeness and to be the personal connection between the Sungsum kids. The next morning, Choi arrives at the school carrying a lunchbox, and she tells Jin Sung that he has left his lunchbox. All the students are surprised to see her there. Jin Sung starts freaking out and thinks that she is out of her mind. Choi hands him the lunchbox and says that she made it herself, so eat it. She grabs a student's hand and asks if he is Jin Sung's friend. The student starts blushing and says yes. Jin Sung thinks that he is not his friend. Choi holds his hands and tells the student to please take care of him for her, and he tells her that he will. Choi starts leaving. She waves at Jin Sung and tells him not to go anywhere after school and come home right away. They will eat together. Jin Sung thinks that there is nowhere else he can go after school. A student asks Jin Sung if he is close with Choi, and he replies that she is closer to the guy who visits the orphanage often, so he only sees her face once in a while. Jin Sung closes his eyes and thinks that they will beat him up, but the student starts crying and says that he is jealous of him and that he wants to live at the orphanage too. Jin Sung tells them that is a bit extreme. He doesn't have parents, but they do. The student tells him to please give him a bite. Jin Sung hands him the lunchbox and says that they can share. He takes the lunchbox and starts running. While the other students start charging after him, the student tells them that Sir Jin Sung gave him this, so they should leave him alone. Choi looks back at the school and says that she hopes this effect lasts. Cho tells her not to worry because he has also prepared insurance. Cho had a meeting with the principal of the school. The principal asked if Yi Kyung wanted to do business with their school as partners. Cho takes a sip of the tea and says this school is one of the candidates. To prevent troubles from arising, they are planning to verify each candidate thoroughly. Cho tells him that one orphanage kid that the chairman supports financially goes to this school, and the principal is surprised to hear that. Cho warns him if that kid tells a different story about this school, then who knows what will happen. He smirks while adjusting his glasses and asks if he understands. The principal asks for the student's name, and Cho gets up and says that he is just here to inform him ahead of time. They have a lot of candidates, so he leaves the office happily. After school, Jin Sung returns to the orphanage and says he didn't know if this plan would work out since it didn't make any sense. The girls tell him that it happened to all of them. She tells them as soon as she sat down, everyone came to her, and she thought it was all over. But they were all asking her about Jinho, and they even asked if they could come to the orphanage for volunteer activity. Jin Sung asks why they get bullied if it is that easy. The girl says either they fell for money or beauty. They shouldn't care. She liked today better than yesterday. She knows Jinho and Choi overacted. But it is also true that it worked out, so stop whining and go wash his hands. Choi slams the door open and says it is freezing. She asks why the heater isn't on, and the kids tell her that it is only in the baby's room. Choi says that she will teach Jinho a lesson when he comes back. Jin Sung asks whose idea it is to bring the lunchbox. Choi starts smiling and says that it is her idea. Jin Sung says it was so old. Choi starts yelling at him and says that she filmed 3,000 movies, and he is trying to tell her that she has no experience. Jin Sung says that he is sorry. Meanwhile, Jinho comes out of his car, and Cho thanks him for doing that. Jinho says it was for the kids, so it was okay. Jinho asks what his plan is for their exercise. Cho says that he thought he had forgotten about that, but it is okay. He specially invited someone who is talented and can be trusted. Jinho asks who it is, and Cho says that since it's late, he will come tomorrow and that he can meet him then. In the morning, the kids are running. Jin Sung thinks that it is fine that they should continue their exercise, but why did he bring a gangster to train them? Bang laughs and says there's only a little bit left. Kids, they should keep it up. Bang starts laughing and says he can tell they have been cared for by Jinho, and even though they are weak, they are doing well. The kids are exhausted, and Jinho and Cho are looking at their training. Jinho asks why he chose Bang, and Cho says that because he trusts him and he is talented. Jinho says that is true, but he is very busy. Cho tells him not to worry. They have finished his schedule. Cho says that since Bang has a lot of work to do for the assembly, his pupils will come in from time to time. Jinho is surprised to hear that. Cho says if they compare it to the gym, he explains that Bang is the director of the gym and his pupils are the teachers. Some of them were instructors before, so he doesn't have to worry about that. They will handle everything. Cho says that he understands that he is not happy with it, but if they train kids his way, their muscles will melt. Jinho says that they will do it his way because he doesn't want the kids to get hurt. Cho smirks and thinks just as he planned. After a while, Jinho sits near Jin Sung and asks how school is. He replies that it got better than before. It's a little overwhelming, and sometimes it is annoying, but if he can go to school like this every day, it would be fun. Jin Sung says that he is not happy about it, though. It is not that he hates it, but the friends who want to be close to him now want to be close to him because of his surroundings since he hasn't changed. Jinho says that he feels uncomfortable since he hasn't changed, but people originally judge by how one looks on the outside because no one can see each other's heart. They estimate one's inside and value by watching the way they are acting and talking. The thing they did was to let them know that they need to reevaluate him. Jin Sung says it would have been better if they saw him for who he is without these events. Jinho says that he is sorry, but he doesn't have that kind of power. Jin Sung gets up and says that it is okay. He's glad that he stood up for them and helped them start this change in others, so they will also try to get stronger because they can't always rely on him. Jinho is surprised to hear that. He starts smiling and thinks that when he was back in Jongyuan, there was a time when he used to think like the kids in the orphanage. Jinho remembers that he ended his own life after he lost his family and legs in an accident in his first life. He was reborn in Jongyuan as a kid all of a sudden. He was not able to understand a single word, and his body was uncomfortable, and he started to live a new life. A woman finds him, and she asks why he's wandering around like that. She tells him that if he walks around like that, he will get sick. Jinho looks back, and he wonders if she is angry at him because he can't understand what she is saying. Jinho thinks that he should run away, but the woman stops chasing him and says that he is going to get sick if he's like that. After some time, Jinho sits on the ground, and snow falls on his head. He starts feeling cold and hungry. Jinho wonders if he is going to die again. He falls to the ground, and an old man arrives and looks at him. After some time, Jinho opens his eyes, he gets up, and wonders where he is. The old man starts smiling. He tells him that he had brought him to his house when he passed away, and he asks about his parents and where he lives. Jinho can't understand a word he's saying. The old man scratches his head and says maybe he doesn't know how to speak. The old man asks if he wants to eat food, and he pretends to eat something from a spoon. Jinho tells him that he wants to eat pizza, and Jinho shows him on the paper that he wants to eat pizza. The old man makes him something resembling a pizza and says he will teach him how to talk and read after he eats. Jinho starts staring at it. The old man tells him to stop staring and eat. Jinho asks if he can eat it. He starts eating and thanks him. Jinho spits out the food and falls to the ground. That was how Jinho met his master. Jinho remembers that the old man who saved him was an interesting person. He lived alone far from town and left for town once in a while. The old man starts shouting at an old lady and says that she should have let him know if she ran out of firewood, but she could barely hear what he was saying. The old man starts cutting the wood for her, and Jinho remembers that he was someone who cared about people through actions and not words. He was weird. The old man took care of him and taught him how to read and speak, as well as different ways to train himself. He told him this breathing method is as important as the things he's going to learn later in life, so don't forget. Jinho asks what he's going to learn later, and the old man tells him that he is going to learn martial arts, which is called unnamed art. Jinho asks if he can learn martial arts with these legs. He says that it will be tough, so he picks up a small piece of rock and throws it toward the tree. The tree gets blown away, and Jinho is shocked to see that. The old man asks if he moved from where he was standing. Jinho says no. The old man says there will be no problem with his legs. If he still worries about his uncomfortable legs, he can fix the bones with his power. Jinho is startled to hear that. He starts meditating. The old man tells him that the man who created this martial art wanted all the people who suffered to protect themselves through this unnamed art. He developed training for martial arts so that everyone could learn it, but it failed to spread into the world. However, his will still continues. This martial art has no name and no owner. The old man makes a fist and tells Jinho to remember that this power is for defending himself and others and overcoming pain. Jinho says yes, master. The old man punches him and says he told him not to answer while he was meditating. Jinho says the last time he got hit because he wasn't answering. While training, they spot a deer, and the old man tells Jinho that the best way to learn martial arts is to engage in actual battle, so go hunt that deer. After some time, Jinho is eating food, and he looks tired. A woman asks if he is the boy who is walking alone on a snowy day. Jinho tells her that his master saved him that day. She asks if he is staying with the old man and if everything is alright. Jinho says maybe the old man looks tough, but he's kind. The old man yells that there is no meat in the soup for kids. He asks his neighbor how he can live without meat when he has so many kids at home. He tells him that if there's nothing to eat, then he should borrow it from him, and he gives him the deer Jinho hunted. The old man tells him to make the kids meal with this, and the neighbor thanks him for that. The woman starts laughing and tells Jinho that he is such a nice man. Jinho is sad that the old man gave away his deer. The old man opens the door and asks why this store is empty. The neighbor asks why he's going through their house without permission. Jinho stops the old man by grabbing him. The old man asks again why the store is empty. The neighbor tells him that it is because of the people up there. This town is owned by the Pang clan. Their sons told them the demonic cult has appeared, so they took much more tribute than usual. They even took all the animals too. But for them, they stopped at this much because they were running an inn since they also had to eat. They even took people in other towns if there were not enough tributes. The old man gets furious to hear that. He tells the neighbor to hide that deer so they can use it for the kids and elders. Jinho asks his master what the Pang clan is. He replies that it is one of the 7 noble clans. The clan used to be considered justice and stood for a great cause, but perhaps they have changed over time and generations. A person is selling tanghulu on the street, and the old man hands Jinho the tanghulu and says that he is a silly kid. Look at his face. He punches Jinho and tells him to hurry up and eat it. He tells Jinho that it is not something he can stop even though he knows martial arts. He caresses his head and says a man who knows martial arts should also know to be patient even though they know it is irrational. Jinho says he understands. Jinho says that patience only delayed the situation. It wasn't the solution. Master should have known that. After some time, Jinho brings a rabbit and some wood. The woman asks where he gets the rabbit. Jinho tells her that he found a rabbit burrow during his training. He heard today is the youngest child's birthday, so he makes a meal for him with this. The kids start playing with Jinho. The woman asks if he came alone today. Jinho says no, the old man was just here. The old man is arguing with the neighbor, and he asks why there isn't any black water. The neighbor replies that there's nothing like black water, and besides, he can't drink black water. The old man tells him that he is talking about the black water that one can drink. It is black water that pops. The neighbor shouts back and says this is the first time he's heard about black water that pops. The only black water he knows is poison. Jinho tells the woman that he told him about the sweet flavored water that he drank before. Jinho asks if the Pang clan of Hebei is still the same, and she replies that a few people from their town have already been taken. At the same time, some members of the Pang clan arrive there. Their general manager asks how the shopkeepers are, and he tells her that they stopped by on their way to bring drinks and food for his pupils. The woman apologizes and says that since it's a bad year for the harvest and it is already winter, there is nothing to eat. He tells her to go to her neighbor and bring him something. He tells her that they are trying so hard to protect them from the demonic cult, even though this town is useless. He starts yelling at her and says instead of treating them well, she's trying to kick them out. He tells her to look at how skinny his pupils are since they haven't eaten. A child shouts at him and says they already took all the food, so there's nothing left to eat. Today is his little brother's birthday, but he hasn't eaten anything yet. His father grabs him and tells him to stop. He asks for forgiveness and says that his kid made a mistake. His pupil pulls out his sword. The general manager says kids can do that, but he should have taught him better so he wouldn't have made it in the first place. The pupil stabs the father. Jinho shouts and comes running to look at his wound. The general manager says that it looks like someone stabbed him. He says that a band of thieves came to the town and killed everyone. He orders his pupils to kill everyone in here. Everyone brings out their swords. One of them tries to kill Jinho, but the old man rushes and breaks the sword with his bare hand. The old man tells Jinho to go and take care of the elders and children first, and Jinho says okay. A pupil asks if he thinks they will let them leave, and the old man strikes his chest with his palm and says that's his line. Everyone attacks the old man, but he easily defeats them. The general manager is scared to see that. He takes a kid hostage and tells him to get on his knees if he doesn't want the kid to die. The kid has tears in his eyes. The old man tells him that it is okay. Meanwhile, Jinho carries the old lady and the woman to a safe place and says he will go back to his master. The woman grabs his hand and says if he goes there, then he might die. Jinho says it is alright, he will come back with him. Jinho starts running back, and he wishes that his master is okay. Jinho arrives at the inn and sees that his master is severely wounded. He asks if he is alright, and the old man asks where the people are. Jinho says that everyone escaped to the mountains, and his master says that it is fine. He smiles and tells Jinho to become strong, but only to protect himself and others. The general manager gets up and swings his sword at Jinho, but the sword breaks. Jinho gets up, and he is filled with rage. A few years later, Jinho thinks that ever since the old man is gone, the whole town has quieted down. Even though he was a little noisy, he was a very good man. Jinho thinks that when the Pang clan was destroyed, he should have been there to see it too. An injured person is running and says that he needs to hurry and call for backup. Jinho attacks and strikes him down from behind. Jinho thinks that he is running to the residence of the unorthodox side. He wonders if these orthodox rascals decide to work together with the unorthodox side. Jinho thinks that he needs more power to deal with both sides. He notices someone hiding behind the tree and asks who it is. A mysterious person wearing a robe appears from behind the tree and says that he has sharp senses. As expected, he holds great power. So it is true that he destroyed 2 of the 7 noble clans of the orthodox way. Jinho tells him to come to the point before he kills him. He tells Jinho to join the demonic cult because he can't take care of the assembly of the orthodox and unorthodox side. He tells Jinho that he will be able to seek greater power in the demonic cult. If he's interested, then he will wait for him at the great mountain of the 100,000. After some time, Jinho arrives at the mountain, which is covered in snow. Jinho notices a blue cloak and asks why it is there. He grabs the cloak and pulls it out. A person appears from the snow, and he thanks Jinho for saving him. He tells Jinho that his name is Guawal. He is wandering around after he loses his parents, so he decides to become strong and live by himself. That's why he headed to the demonic cult's territory, but he encountered a snowstorm. They are sitting by a fire in the cave. Jinho says that he is going to the demonic cult as well, so they should go there together. Guawal starts smiling and thanks Jinho. After some time, they arrive at the base of the demonic cult. Jinho and Guawal joined the demonic cult. They brought victory in many wars. People started addressing him with admiration and fear. Guawal bows and says it is ready. Demonic Master Jinho says they should go Blue Demon. Jinho comes outside, and everyone bows down to him and starts praising him. Guawal comes running and informs that the lower ones attacked the village. Jinho is surprised to hear that. Guawal says that the people living in that village were sheltered and hid in the orthodox way. Jinho looks at the burning village. His subordinates tell Jinho that they were hiding the people who tried to kill their master, so they took care of them first. Jinho gets furious and kills them. He thinks if he becomes master of the cult, he thinks there won't be any more unfair deaths, but that was his mistake. Jin Sung is calling Jinho's name, and he asks what he's doing. Jinho apologizes and asks him about the training. Jin Sung says it finished a while ago and asks what he was thinking about. Jinho replies that he was thinking about the past. Jin Sung gets excited and asks what happened in the past. Jinho looks up and says he doesn't need to know. There was just a time when he was like them. A time when he also tried to change. Jin Sung says that he looks old and worn out. After some time, Jin Sung returns to the orphanage. The girls drag him to a dark room. He asks what this is, and the girl flashes a light at him and tells him to be quiet. A girl asks if he remembers the promise he made to Choi. Jin Sung raises his hand and says that he remembers. Choi asked him to help her with the relationship between Jinho and her, but it had to seem natural. The girl says that they are going to help her this weekend, and they are planning to go to the amusement park. They will take them both along with them and leave them alone so they can have an amusement park date. Jin Sung asks if it is better for them to convince Jinho, and Haini replies that they are busy. Jin Sung tells her that he will take care of it. After a while, Jin Sung goes to Jinho and says that he wants to go to the amusement park, so he lies on the ground. Jinho asks what he's doing. Jin Sung starts crying and says that he wants to go to the amusement park. Since they don't have parents, they can't go, and he starts saying that repeatedly. Jinho gets annoyed to see that. At the Chinese martial union, King Hong meditates, and a person comes and bows down to him. Hong asks Shiker Chang what it is. Chang is wearing a black mask. He informs him that they have internal and external troubles. Hong gets angry and asks if they aren't just low fellows. He asks why he has to consider how they feel. Chang informs him that it is not just Japan that is causing trouble. They also have a serious internal problem. It is not accurate information, but he has heard that the demonic martial artists of Zhongyuan have been gathering since a guy named Jinho appeared, and they found a pivotal figure to rally behind. Even though they regard the demonic martial artists as low and pathetic people, they can't ignore their potential. Hong orders Chang not to miss a single report on their movements, and he replies yes. King Hong. Hong starts walking down the stairs and thinks that there will be turbulent times ahead. Meanwhile, Jinho looks exhausted. Park looks at him and says that he looks bad. Jinho grabs his face and says he can still hear Jin Sung's voice in his head. It is so annoying, but he has a point. Jinho wonders if he should ask Secretary Cho to rent an amusement park for a day. Park says no, and if he does that, then he will not be able to experience the amusement park like normal people. Park says he thinks kids want to be in the crowd, and they want to feel the pain in their legs while they are waiting in line. They can't experience the atmosphere if he clears out the whole amusement park. Jinho says that he is right, he will not rent it. Park starts smiling and says that it is a good idea, but he hasn't been there either. Jinho tells him they should go together since there are so many kids to take care of. If there are more people to take care of them, then it is a win-win situation. The girls are listening to their conversation while standing behind Jinho. Park looks at them and wonders what they are doing. They try to tell Park about their plan, but Park suddenly understands and says that he is sorry, but that he's busy. Park says that he needs to help the orphanage while he is going to take care of the kids. He tells Jinho to take care of them and leaves the room. He claps Jaime on his way out, and a girl gives him a thumbs up. A few days later, Jinho takes the kids to the amusement park. A kid is sitting on his shoulders, and Jinho tells the kid not to pull on his hair. Some kids push Jinho toward the dinosaur, while others push him in the opposite direction. Jinho tells them to choose one direction. A girl hugs Jinho and tells him that she wants to eat cotton candy. Haimi gestures to Jin Sung to go and bring Choi. He goes around the corner and tells her to come. Choi starts blushing and asks what would happen if they get caught. In England, there is a round table conference going on. A person asks if there's anyone who has a question or anything to talk about. A man wearing a white mask raises his hand and says recently, in the east part of Asia, he heard that the situation in Korea seems unusual. His name is Wiggins. Another one asks why he wants to know about such a small nation movement. Wiggins says a returnee appeared in that small nation, and he absorbed a group supported by King Hong. Everyone is surprised to hear that, and a person asks if he is talking about the Great Chinese Mountains. Wiggins also says it looks like he took care of the ninjas from Japan by himself. The round table headmaster says that he survived after annoying King Hong. He says they will support the opinion of the Knight Wiggins, and he orders to send the informer as an expert. A blonde girl arrives at the airport. She's looking at Jinho's profile on her iPad. She's the round table dispatched informer, Elena. Elena looks at Jinho and says that he is very good looking for a normal college student. She hopes that he's worth the trouble of coming all the way out there. Meanwhile, Jinho is surprised to see Choi at the amusement park. Choi looks at Jinho and tells him that Haimi said she wanted to go to the amusement park, so she came here to play with her. She came here to help him because he needs more adults. She tells Jinho not to worry and to leave it up to her. She tells the kids to let's go take a ride. After a while, Choi starts screaming while taking the ride. She shouts to let her get off. She says that whoever made this will kill them. Jinho thinks that she's the problem, not the kids. After the ride is over, Choi sits on a bench. It feels like her soul left her body. The kids tell her to get herself together, and Jinho tells the kids that they should go and play first. Choi suddenly gets energetic and says no, she can't become a burden on such a good day. She grabs the kid and says that she is not dead. She's going to ride with them. Jinho smacks his face and says not again. Choi starts screaming again on each ride. After that, she rests on the bench and looks even worse than before. A kid asks if she is sure that she's okay. Choi starts smiling and says of course she is. Jin Sung sighs and says she's persistent. Haimi says they created this opportunity for them to spend some time together, but it looks like she's trying to die of a panic attack. Jinho brings her a soda can and says that she should take some rest. The kids tell them that they are going to go see the parade. Haimi says they will be back after riding the Ferris wheel. Jinho sits beside her and asks if it is her first time visiting the amusement park. Choi says yes. Jinho is in disbelief and says that she rode all the rides on her first visit. Choi says she thought it would be fine since everyone else was enjoying it. Choi starts drinking the soda and says that it was fun because she was in show business ever since she could walk. She didn't have time and friends to come to this kind of place. She tells Jinho that when she played with the kids last time, she had fun, so she wanted to play with them again. Jinho says so that's what happened. Jinho says he is sure everyone had a good time today. Choi starts smiling and says that it is a relief. She asks where the kids are. Jinho tells her Jin Sung is going to watch the parade, and Haimi is over there. Choi looks at the Ferris wheel and gets excited. Choi says that one is slow, so she's going to take a ride on that too. A bolt cracks on the Ferris wheel. Jinho notices that, and he tells Choi to gather all the students and get out of there. He instructs her to call Secretary Cho right away. The Ferris wheel starts shaking, everyone starts panicking, and they start running towards the exit. Jinho starts running towards the Ferris wheel, but an employee tells him to stay away. Rescue teams are on their way. Jinho looks at Haimi and thinks that it is going to be too late when the rescue teams arrive. Jinho jumps and starts moving at insane speed to rescue the kids. He climbs on the Ferris wheel in no time and says that he will get them out of there in no time. Meanwhile, Choi is gathering all the kids to take them to a safe place. A strange man appears with a steel door in his hand and says that he should greet him at last. He throws the steel door at Jinho and says they should have some fun. It strikes Jinho on his back. Everyone is gathered at the exit, but the employees are stopping everyone from leaving. A person asks why they are not letting them leave, and the employee tells him that they are investigating the situation at the moment, so please wait in the designated areas. Choi is trying to move through the crowd. Jin Sung tells her to go ahead first and that he will catch up to her. The kids start crying, and Choi tells them that they shouldn't worry. He will be right behind them. They look back and see that the Ferris wheel is about to fall. Everyone gets scared, and they start running for their lives. A person pushes Surin, and she falls to the ground. Choi looks at her and picks her up. She grabs the person and slaps him on the face. She asks how he can call himself an adult while running over a child, saying that adults should think about saving the kids first. Choi says that he should be embarrassed of himself. Another man says they are all going to die here, so he doesn't care about any kid. Choi tells him to shut up and says guys like him should just roll over and die. She tells everyone that she will not be moving from this spot until every last kid has left safely. She says if anyone wants to get past her, then they will have to kill her. A man says that she is right. They should have some conscience. He tells everyone to send out the kids and their moms first. The kid tells Choi they should go together. Choi says they should go first, and she will bring Jin Sung and the other kids. Choi starts running inside while reading texts from Jin Sung. He asks if Minji is there with them because he can't find her. Jinho is standing on the Ferris wheel and thinks that if this thing leans over any further, then it will get dangerous, so he needs to hurry. The kids are trembling with fear. Jinho arrives there and breaks the door open. He asks the kids if they are hurt, and they start crying. They tell him that they are not hurt. Jinho grabs them and says they are getting out of here, so hold him tight. At the same time, the Ferris wheel starts falling. Jinho jumps outside by breaking the cabin and grabs a bar on a nearby cabin while holding the kids. Jinho thinks that it will not last long. He loses his grip, and they start falling. Jinho wonders if the kids will be safe. He looks below and sees some buildings. Jinho jumps midair towards the buildings and tells the kids to hold on tight. The kids start screaming. Jinho takes the fall and protects the kids as the roof of the building is destroyed by the impact. Jinho brings them down and tells them to leave. Haimi asks where he's going and if he is hurt. Jinho says he's fine and he still has something to do. He's going on a hunt. Meanwhile, Choi is on a call, searching for Minji. Minji tells her she's hiding in the bathroom. Choi arrives there and asks if she can hear her. Minji comes running and hugs her. Choi says that it is alright, they will leave now. Someone opens the door. Choi looks back and sees a freak standing there smiling at them. He says they are not going anywhere. The person is wearing shorts, and a part of his nose is cut off. Choi asks who he is and says they have to get out of here, so move. The man smirks and says don't try to show off. No matter what she does, it won't change what he's going to do to them. He says there are always some weirdos around Jinho. Choi thinks that it seems weird that he knows Jinho. She wonders if he is also after Jinho. Choi asks why he is doing this. He punches the wall and breaks it. He tells her that he is doing this because he wants to harass Jinho. Choi says that Jinho is not someone who would harm other people. He asks if she even knows what kind of a monster Jinho is. He divides people into two groups, those he recognizes and those he doesn't. He tells Choi that she likes him because she is in the group of people he recognizes. He never lets his people get hurt, but he doesn't care how others die because he is an extremely selfish psychopath. That's why he wants to let him experience the pain he got from him and the scars. He tells Choi that he will rip their bodies to pieces for him to see so Jinho will know the same pain as him. Choi tells him that he is a trash-talking monkey and that she will never let him lay his hands on this kid. He becomes furious and grabs Choi by her throat and says humans are always talking instead of acting. He starts choking her. Choi starts punching his hand and tries to break free. Choi says the more she listens to him, the more she wants to vomit. Choi says that Jinho is nothing like him. He doesn't give useless reasons or make excuses like him. She says the one who is acting like a selfish psychopath is him. He tells Choi that he will make her regret what she just said. At the same time, the roof breaks and Jinho arrives there. Jinho punches his arm and says, no, he will not. He grabs his arm and says that he survived. Jinho punches him away and says that he doesn't need to hear a word from who's going to die soon. Jinho pats Choi on her head and says that she has done well. Choi starts yelling at him and says that he is such a useless person. She punches Jinho in the stomach and tells him that he is always late, and they almost get killed. Jinho says that he is sorry, and Choi says Minji is about to have a shock. Jinho apologizes again and says that they should get out of there first, and that he will follow after taking care of that thing. Choi says fine. She tells Jinho not to get hurt anymore. The freak gets up and starts smiling. He says a great person who took over Korea's martial arts world got very angry. Jinho rushes towards him and grabs his throat. Jinho says that he is not going to listen to his garbage because he is going to die miserably anyway. Jinho smirked and said that it was time for him to experience what real pain meant and that it was going to be so much fun. At the same time, Secretary Cho arrives there and tells Jinho to stop. He says that he got there as soon as he received the call. Cho tells Jinho that rescue teams and cops are on their way, and the kids and Choi are also waiting for him outside. They are all nervous and scared. If he thinks killing that trash is more important than the kids who are waiting for him, then go ahead, he will leave. Jinho punches him away and tells Cho that they should leave. Jin Sung asks if Jinho is going to be alright, and Haney tells him not to say something like that. Jinho comes running outside. Choi starts running towards him and hugs him, but she has tears in her eyes. Jinho pats her head and says that he is back. After some time, the police put the freak behind bars, and they extracted his profile. His name is Lee Seung-hui. Bang looks at the profile and says he can't believe his eyes. He heard that he was Chairman Lee Jung's disciple, but he suddenly disappeared. Bang wonders how he ended up like this and what crazy idiot taught him demonic martial arts. Taehoon says it is probably Kim Sukkel. Bang says he is not the only one in Korea who knows demonic martial arts. Bang hands over the file to Taehoon and asks what is the reason for his attacks. Taehoon replies that it seems to be because of resentment. It looks like he clashed with Jinho before disappearing. Bang says that since a number of 8 extraordinary meridians have been destroyed, his demonic martial arts will soon show backlash. Bang tells him to get all the information out of him before he loses his mind. Bang leaves, and Taehoon asks why he would go and learn demonic martial arts. He scratches his head and says he wouldn't have ended up like this if he just lived in hiding. Seong-hui wakes up and says that he wants to get revenge on Jinho. He punches Taehoon after breaking his shackles and says he was told to kill everyone he met. But there's no reason why he should listen to that rascal, so he will let him live for the sake of their past friendship. He breaks out of the cell and leaves. Meanwhile, Secretary Cho was shocked to read the comments on social media. Cho grabs his head and says he finally cleaned up Jinho's amusement park incident, but Choi has to cause a scandal next. He wonders what he should do next. Even if C said her agency had a connection with Yi Kyung, he should do something about Choi. At the cafe, Jinho brings coffee for the kids and asks what they are doing, but the kid says nothing. Jinho says they told him that they came here to do their homework, but they are not even working on it. A student interrupts him and says they are not playing. This is their homework. Jinho wonders what kind of homework kids receive these days. At the same time, Choi walks in wearing a pretty dress. Jinho gets nervous about seeing her and asks why she came without telling him first. Choi waves at the kids and says it is a cafe, and she comes to drink coffee. She asks if he thinks that she came to see him. Choi whispers to the owner that part-timers are overthinking too much. The owner says he's not good at anything, so he becomes like that if one gives him a little compliment. The owner asks what she would like for today. Jinho is surprised to hear that. Choi says she would like 2 Americanos today. The owner tells Jinho to go and make the coffee, and Jinho starts making the coffee. Choi asks if it is okay for the part-timer to make it, and the owner tells her not to worry. All he does is learn how to make coffee after getting kicked out of his own store. Choi starts laughing and says that is a relief. She trusts his coffee, but she's scared of the part-timers. They both start laughing. Jinho wonders when she started coming here and when they get so close. Jinho says that the 2 Americanos she ordered are here, and Choi tells him to bring them outside with him. She asks the owner if she can borrow his son, and he replies, of course, just bring him back after using him. Jinho is confused to hear that. After some time, they arrive at the bridge. Choi starts smiling and says it feels good. They haven't seen the ocean in a long time. Jinho says yes. Choi asks why the sour expression. She tells him that he is the one who offered to hang out with her for a day since she went through that amusement park incident. Choi pouts and says that he is too passive. She asks Jinho if he realizes that the way he hangs out with her and others is the same. It's annoying, but she will be generous and make the first move. Choi asks how he feels after coming to see the ocean with her. Jinho is about to say something, but she interrupts him and tells him not to answer that right away and to think about it for 5 minutes. After a while, Jinho speaks and says it feels very good. Jinho says he was feeling a little annoyed, but it seems that this enjoyment is slightly different from time spent with family and friends. Choi turns around and starts smiling. She says that it is a relief because she was a little worried that she was being annoying, but since he feels good, there's something she wants to tell him. Choi says she is not the type to think about things much, which is why she's here today to tie the knot for sure. Jinho looks at her and asks Tai what knot. Choi starts blushing and tells Jinho that she likes sunsets. Jinho says he also likes them. Choi has tears in her eyes and says that is not what she means. Suddenly, someone arrives there on a heavy bike. Elena removes her helmet and tells Jinho that it is nice to meet him. Choi tells Jinho to move away for a second, but she gets furious and starts cursing Elena, asking who she is. Taehoon reports to Bang that Seongkwi has escaped, and he apologizes for that. Bang grabs his head while sitting on a chair and says the Japanese situation is already driving him crazy. He asks what his location is now. At the same time, Jinho enters his office. Bang asks what brought him here so suddenly. Jinho is carrying a piece of paper in his hand and says he was involved in a situation earlier. Bang tells Taehoon to leave them alone. He says that he was expecting a visit from him, but he came earlier than expected. Bang asks if he is here to talk about Japan or Seongkwi, and Jinho asks if he did that. Bang is shocked to see his reaction and asks if he doesn't know anything. Jinho says he forgot about it. Bang says he definitely doesn't have any plan whatsoever to deal with that. Jinho says that is right. Jinho tells Bang everything that happened earlier. Elena ignores Choi and tells Jinho that she came from England to meet him. Choi asks where she thinks she is breaking into. She asks if she is mixed blood. Elena tells her that she is pure British, and she tells Choi that she is not talking to her right now. Choi gets furious, but Jinho grabs her and tells her they should leave. Choi starts smiling and says yes. Elena starts running after them and tells them to wait. Elena comes in front of Jinho and says that she came here to meet him because he has a different kai from others. Jinho gets furious. He starts releasing his kai and says she's free to do whatever she wants, but he is warning her in advance not to interrupt his daily life. Jinho walks past her and says this is his last warning. Elena thinks that he is just like Wiggins reported. He's definitely not easy, but it wouldn't be fun if he was easy. Elena bows and apologizes to Jinho. She says that she didn't mean to bother him. It was just that she was not accustomed to this country's culture, so if he's ready to forgive her, then she would like to have a conversation with him for a moment, but there's no answer. Elena raises her head and sees that they already left. Jinho asks Choi if she has something to tell him. Her face turns red, and she says that she is forgetting things right now. Choi starts running and says that it wasn't anything important. She waves him goodbye, and Jinho tells her to wait. Jinho grabs his head in disappointment. Bang asks if he got dumped by a girl, and he doesn't have any place to go, so he comes here. Jinho says they are not together. Bang says that because he was thinking about a British girl, he didn't notice that he was speeding and got a ticket. Bang asks if his family doesn't worry about him if he stays outside this late. Jinho tells him if he goes home, all they nag about is him going back to school. Bang spits his coffee after hearing that and asks if he is thinking about going back to school. Jinho says that he is considering it. It feels like he is up in the air. Until now, it feels like he was doing things that he had to do, but it feels like they are all gone now. Bang starts smiling and says that he should rest and make that decision later because, to him, it feels like he is mentally exhausted. Jinho is surprised to hear that Bang says that he will take care of everything until they move, so he should take a good rest and recover as soon as possible. Jinho says there was something he wanted to do anyway and that he would like to do it while he's resting. Jinho says that he thought he would ask him first, and Bang asks what he's trying to do. Jinho tells him that the Korean martials are on a lower level than most foreign martial masters. If a conflict occurs, many of them may not survive, so he would like to teach them himself. Bang says that he would like to reject. He thinks that he has to save the guys in the assembly. Jinho gets angry and says try it. Bang starts smiling and says he can do whatever he wants. He thinks that he can only pray for their survival now. Choi's manager, Han Yun-sol, tells her to go to China because it is a good opportunity. The market is big, and if the drama becomes famous, she will earn a lot of money. Choi gets angry and asks if he has read the script. There are no lines, and all she has to do is smile. He gets up and says that he knows that, but it has been so long since she has been doing nothing. He tells her that she is hooked on the guy who was with her when she had an accident. He tells her that she was chasing him to the orphanage, which she had never done before, and she has been buying and dumping the same pizza on him for days as if she wants to fatten him up. Hansol says that she likes that guy, but she still hasn't secured him. Choi grabs him by his collar and tells him to keep quiet. She will get him soon. He says if he is a guy who looks only at her face or body, the game should be over already. Choi lets him go. Hansol tells her that she shouldn't chase him. She needs to make him chase her. If she keeps clinging to him, he will get annoyed and run away. He tells her that she should show him that she has abilities and also that she's talented. Choi says he is right. She should have shown him that kind of thing. Choi looks sad. She picks up the script and tells Han that she will consider this project. Elena is standing at her desk. She says that they told her Jinho has a quiet personality and doesn't like starting disputes, a passive personality that isn't subjective. There isn't a single one that is a match, and she wonders why the information Wontak collected is so different. She thinks that there's something wrong. There must be something they are missing, and she needs to thoroughly investigate again from the start. Elena is on a video call. She asks Knight Wiggins why he can't understand. Jinho is not a fuse but a bomb itself. Wiggins says this is why he was opposed to sending her. Elena says she is suggesting this not as his daughter, but as Elena and as a member of Wontak. Elena tells Wiggins that they can't touch him. Wiggins says that is enough and tells her that she is in no position to make suggestions when she's just a pawn. All she needs to do is report. He doesn't need her opinion. Elena says she understands. She tells Wiggins that Jinho first refused their proposal, and he said that he doesn't want anyone interfering in his matter. Additionally, he knew of Wontak's intentions to use him from only a few words in their conversation. Wiggins is sitting in his office and says that Jinho is more dangerous than they thought. Elena says that is why they should give up on him and converse with foreign countries. Wiggins tells her that she is being stupid. He understands the danger and the fact that talking to him won't work. If he's such an entity, then it would be faster to kill him than to raise him. Elena says that she doesn't think that he understands what she just said. Wiggins tells her that he doesn't need her opinion. His disposal will be decided by Wantak, and if anything special happens to him, then report. Elena shouts that he is dangerous. She has never felt that kind of danger, even from their master. Wiggins gets furious and says that she is very rude to a pawn who hasn't even seen their master's shadow properly. Elena says that she is sorry. Wiggins tells her that no matter how many missions she completed and how much experience she has built up, her discernment and emotions aren't enough for Wantak to consider. Wiggins asks if she understands pawn Elena. Elena says that she will keep that in mind. She disconnects the call and says if she follows what he says, the world will turn over. Even if she ends up being kicked out of Wantak, she needs to stop them before Wantak messes with Jinho. Jinho arrives at the assembly holding another ticket. Bang says not again. Jinho asks if the preparations are complete, and Bang says yes. He selects only the ones who want to learn and gathers them all. Bang says that he wants to learn too, but he has a lot of things to do, so he can't participate. Jinho asks what things are, and Bang tells him that he is planning on meeting with Director Lee Jun, who knows a lot more about information on foreign countries. Bang asks Jinho if he can ask him one more thing before leaving the kids to him. Jinho says yes. Bang asks if he will follow him and if his kids will also become strong. Jinho says that since everyone is built differently, he can't answer that certainly, but his pride won't allow the people who follow him and learn from him to be so weak. Jinho says he will make them strong no matter how long it takes. Bang says he feels more relieved to hear that, but please be a little easy on them. Jinho says he will try his best. Jinho looks at the people from the balcony and says there are a lot less than expected. Bang says it hasn't been long since it was merged with the Yongnan district, so it is impossible to gather them by force. Jinho says it is fine. For the older people, the knowledge they possess and the new knowledge they learn will collide and have an adverse effect. Jinho comes down and introduces himself. He thanks them all for gathering today. Jinho says he would like to start by asking them what they heard from Bang before coming here. A person says that he heard that he could become strong and learn more about martial arts. Jinho asks if they are all willing to learn from him, even if they die while learning. Everyone is scared to hear that Jinho stomps his foot on the ground and says he can make them all strong, but half of them will die. Jinho says to the remaining survivors that he will show them a new world beyond just being strong. The amount of suffering and bloodshed is how they will become strong. Jinho says he will give them until tomorrow to think about it and come back only if they are prepared. The ground is split in half with the impact of his kick. After some time, Bang starts yelling at Jinho and says no one will come like that if he is trying to threaten them instead of encouraging them. Jinho looks at the glass of water and says there's no need to worry. Jinho starts leaving the building, and he receives a call. Choi asks if he knows any good places in China. Jinho says that he doesn't know. The only place he has been to was the backcountry. Choi says she will be there for some time, so she needs some information about the country. Jinho says if she tells him how long she's staying there, he can send her some addresses of the places he has been to. Choi tells Jinho that she's going for half a year, and Jinho is shocked to hear that. Choi starts smiling and asks if they should meet up. After a while, they sit in a cafe. Choi tells Jinho that she received a drama offer, that it is a big project, that the pay is good, and that they have the advantage of entering the Chinese market. Jinho says he doesn't know much about these things, but half a year is quite a long time. Choi says there is another reason. She asks if he knows that he is a good man. That's why she would like to do a lot of things with him, but she's not at his level. He always takes care of the people around him without fail. Choi smiles and says she will try to get herself back on track. She asks if it is good that the bothersome person will be gone. Jinho says no, it is not good because he is a little sad. He doesn't know why, but he feels sad. Choi smiles and says she will become a confident person who is worthy of standing beside him. That is her goal. Jinho asks if he is worthy. Choi blushes and says that, in her eyes, he is the coolest person in the world. At night, Choi leaves and says goodbye to Jinho. Jinho thinks that his current life is ordinary compared to his life in Miram, but he can't even protect it properly right now. Jinho wonders if Blue Demon would have given him an answer, and he suddenly hears Blue Demon's voice. Blue Demon tells Jinho that the answer has always been inside of him. Jinho is surprised to hear that. After some time, Jinho arrives at the assembly and says there are more people outside. Bang tells him that the rumor spread that he was teaching here. Bang says if he is uncomfortable, then he can just send them back. Jinho says he doesn't mind. He tells Bang to start the interview as scheduled. After a while, the people sitting outside were confused. They wondered why the people were not coming out. Over 10 people went in, but none of them came out. A person puts his ear near the door and thinks that he can't hear anything. Bang opens the door and tells Lee Mayoung-hwan to come in. Jinho is conducting the interview himself. He tells Mayoung-hwan to sit and asks if he is prepared to become stronger. He replies yes, of course. Jinho asks if he is prepared to risk his life to become strong, and Mayoung-hwan says he believes it is. Jinho says it is funny. He grabs him by his throat and asks if he knows how it feels to die. The bugs start crawling on his body. Mayoung-hwan starts screaming. Jinho says he will ask him one last time if he is prepared to die. Mayoung-hwan musters his strength and says yes, he's prepared to die. Jinho smiles and says he passes. The interview is over. Mayoung-hwan is shocked to see that Jinho is sitting in his chair. He says there were definitely bugs on him. Jinho tells him that he passed so he could exit through the door, and he asks what just happened. Bang grabs him by his collar and tells him to leave. He asks Bang if Jinho cast an illusion on him. Jinho says it is a transformation called Spellbound, not an illusion. Bang kicks Mayoung-hwan outside and says they are late for the people after him. Bang tells Jinho that person looks like he is going crazy. Jinho says he didn't cast a very strong hallucination on him, so he will be fine in no time. Bang sits down and asks if he is truly trying to teach them properly. Jinho says it is something he started, so he will do it properly. He decided to be proactive about matters that can happen in the future. Jinho says he couldn't find his goal in life, but at least he will try to change his way of living. Bang asks if he has something else on his mind. Jinho says he has to visit the airport tomorrow. The next day, Choi and Hunsol are waiting for Jinho at the airport. Hunsol gets up and tells Choi that he is here. Choi raises her sunglasses and asks if he is here because he missed her. Jinho starts smiling and says that he is worried because she will be tired since the food won't fit and the environment will be different. Jinho tells her not to work too hard. Choi smiles and says that he can come and visit her later. Jinho says he will do that, and Choi says that she should reward herself for making a big decision. Choi hugs Jinho, and he hugs her back. Choi tells him that she should leave now. She waves him goodbye and says that she will see him later. Jinho also waves at her and tells her to take care of herself. There's a round table meeting of knights going on. Wiggins suggests that the best way would be to get rid of Jinho, but according to Elena's report, he is someone they shouldn't mess with. According to her, messing with him is the worst idea. In extreme cases, it can even threaten the entire organization. Knight Rivo starts laughing and says that is nonsense. He asks Wiggins if Elena is his daughter. Wiggins is annoyed to hear that and says that is true. Rivo asks if he is saying that if they bother a nobody from a small country, this organization will collapse. Wiggins says it would be better if she was exaggerating. The chairman tells them to stop and asks what the best way to handle this situation is, and everyone says that they should get rid of him. The chairman says they will get rid of him by deploying knights. A knight asks if that is necessary. Rivo says even if it is Elena's opinion, she's still a member of their organization, so they should take her observation into consideration, and he will send his knights too. The meeting ended, and everyone said that the will of the organization be with the knights. Meanwhile, Jinho is training the people he selected. A person runs to punch Jinho, but he blocks the attack and punches him away. Jinho says that martial arts are very simple. For some, it is just a way to discipline themselves. They claim that beating up others is just a subsidiary. Jinho knocks multiple guys to the ground and asks what they think about that. Everyone is lying on the ground. Jinho says that is nonsense. If they want to discipline themselves, they can just go believe in a religion, or maybe it would be better to isolate themselves in the mountains and introspect. Jinho steps on a person and says practicing skills to kill people is not child's play. A person rushes to punch Jinho, but he easily blocks the attack and says, in the end, martial arts were developed to kill or subdue people. He punches the person and says other things like discipline or whatever are useless and unnecessary. Everyone is defeated. Jinho says it will be difficult for them to subdue, let alone kill anyone like this. They are all weak. However, it's already too late to throw away the skills they learned and learn new skills. But that's only a problem when they are learning the normal way. A person raises his head and asks if he can get stronger by not learning it the normal way. Jinho says that he is smart, and he throws a book at him, saying it is a magic book. A person asks why there is only one book when there are so many people here. Jinho tells them to just copy the book. One person opens the book and says it is all in Hanja. Another one asks if they have someone who can translate it. Jinho is shocked to hear that. After some time, they show the book to Lee Hyun. He takes a look at it and says he thinks it is possible. He has done this a few times at the Yongnam branch, so he thinks that he can do it. Jinho is glad to hear that, and his students start rejoicing. Lee Hyun tells Bang that he is wondering why he suddenly looks for him, and it turns out he is doing something fun. He asks if he can't let him in on it, and Bang says no. Bang tells him that considering his current position and what he's in charge of, he can't learn this. Lee Hyun looks sad. Jinho says that is only one of the reasons. He wants him to do something else instead. Jinho says since the movement of the foreign groups has yet to be identified, he needs him to help Bang manage the information at the General Assembly. Lee Hyun scratches his head and says he can't be much help because he's just a former member. Bang says never mind, the directors will complain a bit, but he will manage. Lee Hyun tells Jinho that someone must have approached him. Jinho says yes, but they have been quiet these days. Lee Hyun says he has a plan to lure them out. Jinho and Bang are surprised to hear that. Lee Hyun starts smiling and tells Bang to leave them alone for a moment because he will not agree to what he's about to say next. Bang gets angry and leaves the room. Lee Hyun tells Jinho that he has been monitoring the movements of foreign groups for a while. He has learned that the Japanese and the knights of the organization have entered the country. He wouldn't be surprised if the General Assembly is attacked right now, and they won't be able to avoid those bullets, so he suggests that they move first rather than waiting for them to attack. He tells Jinho to trust him and make the first move. At night, Jinho arrives at the sea. He steps on a boat. Some people are spying on Jinho, and he says that Jinho is a fool, his life is in danger, and yet he is now out fishing without a care. He says that this is good for them. He was going to take care of this quietly, but instead, Jinho has done them a favor by going to a place no one knows. He tells everyone that they should move. A person says, according to Elena's report, he is a very dangerous person. The person asks if he is scared of that Asian. Another person tells the leader of the knights that there's a ship approaching, and there are at least 5 people on board. A person wielding a sword is riding a boat with his subordinates. They arrive at the shore, and the Japanese guy with a sword asks the leader of the knights why they are there. He replies that they came here to get rid of Jinho. The knight says it seems like his side also came here for the same reason, so there's no reason for them to collide. The Japanese guy gets furious and says they are here for the sake of noble revenge for their comrades who were mercilessly murdered by Jinho. They pull out their swords and say this is Asia. This is their land. Even if they fail, they won't insult themselves by joining hands with them. The leader of the knights orders his subordinates to prepare for a fight. They should not forget the pride of Chevalier. They are about to engage in a battle, and Jinho appears from the woods wearing a hat. He says there are a lot more of them than he expected. The Japanese guy looks at him and says so he's Jinho. Jinho puts down a bag and says there are so many people here, and yet they are fighting amongst themselves. Jinho pulls out his swords and says he's ready to show them hell. Meanwhile, Bang comes running to Lee Hyun and asks what he did. Bang grabs him by the collar and asks why he didn't report the situation to him first. Lee Hyun tells him to calm down and listen to him first. He will explain everything. Bang lets him go. Lee Hyun says, first of all, he would like to apologize for not reporting to him, as this is the most important mission in order to bait the enemy. He had no choice but to keep everything confidential. Bang starts yelling at him and asks if he knows how many enemies there are. Japan and England are trying to kill Jinho. Lee Hyun tells him that there's no need to worry, he has set up the perfect trap. First, he sent him to a place that wasn't touched by civilization. On that island, there were knights sent by the organization, as well as the Nana Hashigumi of Japan. Lee Hyun smirked and said they would be alone with Jinho. Bang said he was truly evil, and even if Jinho was prepared, they shouldn't leave him like that. Lee Hyun says he chose the place carefully. There are no CCTV cameras and no passers-by. A place where Jinho can truly unleash himself without any restrictions. He asks, isn't that the best trap? Jinho starts killing his enemies, and a person asks Master Oizumi what they should do. If this keeps going on, they will all die. Oizumi says even if they have to die, they will die with honor. He rushes to attack Jinho. Jinho says he doesn't know what he is talking about, but there is a guy just like him. Jinho breaks his sword with a single swing of his blade and says he will tell him what happened to that guy. Oizumi is shocked to see that. Jinho moves at an amazing speed and cuts everyone down. Only one person is left. Jinho looks at him and asks if he will beg him to spare his life. Jinho rushes to attack him, and he tells him not to die so easily like others. The knights are scared to see his strength. The leader tells Matthew to translate this, and he shouts at Jinho that they would like to have a conversation with him. He says that they were wrong, and they apologize for underestimating him. They will give him all the compensation they can. He tells Jinho that his name is Gang Hao, and he will risk his life in order to entertain him more than those who died there. Hao tells Jinho to spare his subordinates. Jinho says that he is curious about how these Westerners fight. Hao conjures a sword out of nowhere and says he will fight him. Jinho asks why he should spare the lives of those who came to kill him. Everyone conjures their swords and shouts that they are chevalier. They will die here. Suddenly, a boat comes crashing to the shore. Elena jumps from the boat and bows down in front of Jinho. Elena apologizes to Jinho and asks what they will have to do to stay alive. She tells Jinho that she knows they are shameless and asks her to spare her subordinates. Jinho tells them to stand up and do that again. Hao is confused when he hears that, so he starts conjuring a magic circle. Jinho tells him to put away his sword and take it out. Jinho looks at the circle closely and asks how he did it. He tells him to do it again. Elena and Hao are surprised to hear that a person asks Elena if he will spare their lives with this. Elena says it seems like it, but his arms will fall off at this point. Hao is exhausted from showing Jinho his technique, and Jinho observes him closely. Jinho tries to copy the same technique. Elena is surprised to see that Jinho is casting mana just by looking at it. Elena tells Jinho that Vincent can explain this in more detail. Even though he is doing amazing right now, there's a limit to what he can do from just observation. She tells Jinho this is called mana and magic, a rare concept of the Eastern martial arts. Jinho thinks that it wouldn't hurt to learn what this is. If he learns this properly, he can make good use of it in the future. Jinho thinks that having to hide his swords everywhere he goes is a pain. Jinho tells them that he will spare their lives this time, but they will have to confess everything they know. Hao says he has prepared himself for that. Jinho says alright then. At the same time, Bang arrives there with Lee Hyun on the boat. He asks Jinho how they could do this without him. Bang gets furious and says that he is the chairman and he didn't know anything about this. Jinho says that he is sorry. Bang looks at the dead Japanese guys and asks why Westerners are still alive. Jinho says they used an interesting technique, and if he learns about it, he thinks it will be useful, so he spared their lives. Jinho tells Lee Hyun to take care of him. He smirks and says leave it to him. Jinho tells Elena that she will have to report everything that happened here so that her side can take measures. She asks if there is anything else. Jinho asks what kind of interesting conditions these guys will offer in exchange for their lives and tells them that he is looking forward to it. King Hong is sitting on his throne and says they seem to have underestimated Jinho. He unified Korea and overcame the Japanese. Moreover, he is building up his own power, and now even those Western morons are in his hands. Hong asks Chang if he's saying that demons are on the move, and he replies yes. Hong asks what the probability is that those demons are related to Jinho, and he replies that the probability is low because their base is in China while he's from Korea. Hong gets furious and says that he is a fool. He says that Jinho is a strong demon. A strong person like Jinho appears, and other demons start appearing out of hiding. He asks how he can say they are not related. Hong grabs his head and says it doesn't matter if he is the descendant of the sect. Throughout history, there has only been one way to make peace with demons. But when they have to take that measure, he will become extremely arrogant. Hong thinks that Jinho will betray him in the end. Hong says he can't drag this any longer. He must get rid of Jinho, even if it means having to make some sacrifices. Jinho tells Chang to call Bader. He is afraid to hear that name. Bader has silver hair, and he looks strong and huge. A person wearing the suit receives him at the airport and says that he will be taking care of him during his stay in Korea, and his name is Daejing. Bader is only wearing pants, and Daejing asks how his trip was. Bader tells him that the seat was cramped and the meal portion was extremely small. He apologizes for the inconvenience. Bader says it is alright and he understands. Daejing asks if he may ask him about the reason for his visit. Bader says he came here to keep his promise to an old friend. In the past, he lost a battle with his old friend, Red King, and he promised to grant him any favor that he asked for. Bader says today is that day, and the reason he came to Korea was to get rid of Jinho from this land. Bader sits in the car and asks if his name is Jang Daejing. Daejing smiles and says yes, Mr. Bader. Bader asks if he would like to know the kind of person Jinho is. Daejing says that it is hard for him to say because they don't have the ability to judge someone's skill. They can only make a relative comparison. Even if they would like to compare him with someone, there's no one to compare him with. Bader asks if Jinho is someone to watch out for. Daejing says he doesn't know how strong Jinho is compared to him, but if someone other than him had come, they would definitely not feel assured. He tells Bader that the Red King even sent him only after half a year since Jinho had become such a terrifying presence. Bader smiles and says he will return from this place with a great memory. Bader tells Daejing to tell him about this country. He replies that there's no need to worry about that, and he tells Bader to wear these. Meanwhile, at the round table meeting, Knight Wiggins says according to Elena's report, there were no casualties, but it seems like their people are being detained in a place called the Korean Martial Arts Congress. Revo gets angry and asks if he is saying that Chevalier surrendered without even fighting the enemy. The chairman tells everyone to stop and says that their biggest mistake was ignoring Elena's report. As a master, he needs to respect the opinion of each member of the organization, and yet he ignored it and still proceeded with the plan. Everyone, including him, should reflect on this. He asks what Jinho wants. Wiggins says that it would be better to listen to Elena since she has come into direct contact with Jinho. Elena says if they had fought Jinho, they would have suffered great losses, as well as their relationship with Korea. Elena tells the general manager, Vincent, that Jinho left them with an opportunity to improve their relationship. He told them to prepare something that would satisfy Jinho. Revo gets up in anger and says there's still another way. They can give up on the rescue and attempt another assassination. Wiggins tells Revo that those people are his knights. Revo smirked and said that was why he had proposed it. Revo says if their presence damages the organization, then they should die an honorable death. After the meeting is over, Elena and Wiggins grab their heads. Elena asks how this could happen. She says Revo said those things because of his reputation, but why did the whole organization agree with that nonsense? Elena tells her father that she will go to Korea again, but Wiggins says no, that he will personally go there. Wiggins says that this is an issue related to people's lives, so there's no time to waste. If the organization doesn't move, then he will move himself. Wiggins tells Elena to buy him a plane ticket to Korea. Meanwhile, Jinho and Lee Hyun are asking the knight Hao if there is any discomfort. Hao says no, he is just bored, and he asks if they can feed him bread and jam as his meal. Lee Hyun says they can do that starting tomorrow. He asks Jinho why they are doing this again. Jinho says he forgot, and Hao is confused to hear that. Jinho says it has been a while since that woman left, but she still hasn't contacted them. He asks if their motherland is abandoning them. Hao says that could be a possibility. Jinho says he will give them another option. If they cooperate with them, then all of them will be released. Jinho tells him to spit out all the information he knows and transfer their skills accurately without any errors. Once they are done, he will release them all, and he will also help them return to their country. Hao asks what will happen if they refuse. Jinho says he is a smart person, so he can figure it out. Hao asks for some time to think about it, and Jinho and Lee Hyun come out of the room. Jinho says he doesn't know if they are doing this right. He has never held a prisoner before. Lee Hyun tells him that it is normally like that, and he tells Jinho that it is beneficial to obtain cooperation, so he does well. Jinho starts smiling and says that it is a relief. He is seriously considering whether or not to kill them. Jinho says that is enough for today. He hopes that his students are training right now. Jinho returns to the assembly, disappointed to see that his students are all sitting idly, as they feel hopeless. They say that they feel like trash because they can't understand anything written in the book Jinho gave them. A student tells Jinho that he knows it is hard since it is their first time seeing it, but even after reading it hundreds of times and discussing it with them, they still don't know anything. After all this time, they are still stuck on the first page, and the first page is only the basics. It is about how to wield one's energy. A student gets up and says it says that energy sucked from the outside should not be taken in by the Kai Center, but instead by the Beihui. He asks Jinho if that is possible, and Jinho says yes. The student says no matter how hard they try, once they take in the energy from the outside, it is sent directly from the body into the Kai Center. Jinho grabs his head and says he will have to teach them from the beginning. Jinho says that in magic, there are righteous and lawless ways. The righteous way is the method where magic is learned from the beginning, and the lawless way is the method used when those who have mastered other martial arts want to learn magic. Jinho tells them that, fortunately, all of them are still weak, so they can slowly learn the righteous way. Lee Myung-kwon has tears in his eyes and says that he heard that guys from the Yongnam group could do well on their own. He tells Jinho to think about it. There isn't a single one of them who can understand this. He says that perhaps it is too old that they got something wrong in the middle. Jinho tells everyone to sit down, and he will show everyone where the Kai Center is. Jinho grabs Myung-won by his head and says this is Beihui, on the crown of their head. Jinho starts transferring his Kai and says, after taking in the energy from the outside, pull it out to the Beihui and then pull it down to the Kai Center at once. Myung-won feels immense pain and falls to the ground. Jinho says he still has some impure energy, so it may be painful, so don't forget this feeling and practice well. Jinho tells the next person to come sit down, and after a while, everyone is panting on the ground. Myung-won gets up, and Jinho says that they recover fast. Myung-won says it is because he was the first one to go down. Jinho closes the book and says he still recovered quite fast. He gives him the book and tells him to share it with others. Myung-won asks if he has finished translating the remaining parts. Jinho says yes, and he tells everyone to memorize them all by next week. Everyone is surprised to hear that. Wiggins and Elena arrive at the airport. Elena says night Wiggins, and Wiggins tells her that she can call him dad now. They don't have their masks on. Elena tells her dad it may be too late to ask this, but she's wondering if it is alright to come like this. She asks what about Wontak. Her dad says they will be fine on their own. Elena is surprised to hear that they are not here to negotiate. Wiggins tells her there are no rules against them suddenly going abroad, and the rules aren't important right now, especially when people's lives are on the line. Elena tells her dad that Wontak won't tolerate this. He says that he doesn't care. Wiggins says that he entered the Wontak in order to walk down the right path, but he believes that they are not doing the right thing right now. Elena is surprised to hear that. Wiggins smiles and says that, in this case, he needs to abandon Wontak. He advised her to check her belongings and escort Jinho right away. Elena said to leave it up to her. Wiggins hands her a gift box and tells her to take this too. He says that it seems like he hasn't done anything for her in a while. Elena looks at the pink box and asks her dad if he knows how old she is. At night, Jinho is walking in the street, and a person calls his name from behind. Jinho turns around and asks who he is. He replies that his name is Daejing, and he came here to relay his master's message. Jinho is surprised to hear that Daejing says his master is the one who will put an end to his miserable life. Jinho says he doesn't know his master, but he is thankful that he told him, like a man, that he was going to kill him. Jinho is about to attack him, and Daejing shouts that he will tell him a place and time where both of them will not be disturbed. Jinho asks if he is making a deal with him. Daejing falls to the ground and starts trembling, but he says that he wouldn't dare. Daejing bows down to Jinho and says that he should have mercy on him. Jinho tells him to give him the time and place and get lost. Daejing takes his leave. Jinho notices some presents and asks if they are here to kill him as well. Elena appears there with her dad and says that there is a misunderstanding. They are here to have a conversation with him. Wiggins introduces himself and says that he is from Wontak, and they apologize if their actions bothered him. They hid themselves because they were told not to interfere with his daily life, but it seems like their actions caused some misunderstanding. Jinho says to be quick about it, and Wiggins says that he will come straight to the point since it's already late. He tells Jinho that as a knight of Wontak, he came here to ask for the Chevalier to be released. Jinho asks why he's asking him, and Wiggins says that because he is in charge, although he doesn't hold an actual title in the organization, he has a major influence on their behavior. Wiggins says that he is aware that their visit puts him in an uncomfortable situation. Wiggins bows and says because they are his colleagues, he couldn't waste any more time. Jinho says he would like to point out something. He asks if he is the spokesperson for Wontak. Wiggins gets startled and asks why he's asking that. Jinho says the Wontak organization would have officially contacted the opposite organization to make arrangements instead of meeting him in person. Jinho says that something is missing, and Wiggins says that he is right. He came here to save them out of his own will. He didn't mean to deceive him. Jinho says since he's here, it seems like he would be able to get his hands on what he wants quickly. Jinho says they hid behind some kind of magic earlier. He tells Wiggins that he wants him, so they should exchange. If he stays at the assembly, then he will let all of Chevalier go. Wiggins gets shocked to hear that. Meanwhile, Daejing tells Bader that Jinho has accepted his offer, and Bader asks if something happened because he doesn't look so good. Daejing says something minor occurred, and Bader says Jinho must have threatened his life. Daejing asks what the odds are of him winning against Jinho, and Bader tells him to get one thing straight. There's nothing more stupid than judging the odds of winning in a match, because there are lots of variables when it comes to winning. Bader clenches his fist and says, of course, he is a great opponent to the point where it boils his blood. Even in Central Plains, it was not easy to find an opponent like him. Bader starts releasing his energy and says Jinho is someone worth fighting with all his might, but he's the warrior of the Great Prairie. Meanwhile, Jinho and Lee Hyun are having a conversation. Lee Hyun asks if Bader challenged him and why he's saying it like he's just meeting a neighbor. Jinho asks if it is that big of a deal. Lee Hyun tells Jinho that he is the only martial artist who faces the Red King, and in China, he's known as the new strongman from Mongolia. Lee Hyun warns Jinho that the moment he loses against Bader, the Red King will devour Korea. When that happens, the assembly will collapse in the blink of an eye, but he knows that Jinho won't listen to him at all. Jinho says that he knows him so well. Lee Hyun smacks his face and tells Jinho to please take one person with him. Jinho asks why. Lee Hyun tells him that the Red King has divided the Chinese martial arts society into 3, and Bader is a strong man with skills comparable to that of the Red King, plus he has a contract to fulfill with the Red King. He's like the Red King, but just a different person. They don't know if the match will end upon receiving injury, or until either one of them dies. Lee Hyun takes a sip of his coffee and says they will need someone to take care of the mess afterward. Jinho says he is right, so he will take him. Lee Hyun is shocked to hear that, and he spits out his coffee. After some time, Jinho and Lee Hyun are passing through the woods. Jinho sees that Bader and Daejing are waiting for them. Jinho tells Bader that he chose a romantic place, and Bader says it suits martial artists like them. Jinho says it suits him more to make a move while taking orders from others. Bader tells him to think about whatever he likes because right now, he is delighted that he has been able to stand next to another martial artist like him in this small land. Jinho says his thirst can't be quenched with someone like him. Bader clenches his fists and says that he will make him pay the price for that arrogance today. Jinho grabs his sword and tells him to stop blabbering. Jinho starts releasing his Kai and says that he will teach him what death is. Bader starts releasing his energy as well, and he tells Jinho that he has such strong evil energy, yet he manages to hide it. Jinho rushes to attack him with his sword, but Bader blocks the attack with his punch and attacks Jinho. He dodges his punch. Lee Hyun is shocked to see that Bader stopped the sword attack with his bare hand. Bader tells Jinho that martial arts mean training the body to perfection. He says that he trained for so long that his body is like that of a god. Jinho says the feeling of cutting that body must be special then. Bader charges at Jinho, swings his sword at him, and strikes at his head. Bader tells Jinho to go ahead. They both start exchanging blows with each other. Bader gets furious and asks Jinho if he thinks that he can cut him. He punches Jinho, but he uses his swords to block the attack. The ground gets destroyed under his feet. Bader smashes Jinho with both fists to the ground and starts punching Jinho consecutively. Jinho coughs blood, and his hood gets torn apart. Bader looks at Jinho with a disappointed look on his face. Jinho starts getting back up and panting hard. Bader says that is how it should be. He shouldn't die from just one hit, and they should have more fun. Jinho thinks that his body is as bulletproof as that of a Shaolin monk. Jinho thinks that he is much stronger than anyone he faced so far, and he surpassed the limits of human beings. Jinho rips out his shirt and thanks him. Bader asks if he hit him too hard and makes him go crazy. Jinho smiles and says it used to seem like he had reached his limits, and he felt like this was going to end with him going back to his former self, which is why he was a bit scared. Jinho says that thanks to him, he found out the possibility is still there for him to climb up to new heights. Bader starts cursing him and says he still wishes to face a stronger opponent than him. Bader stomps his foot on the ground and destroys it. Jinho jumps in the air. Bader starts kicking the pieces of boulders toward Jinho, and Jinho cuts them all in half. Bader jumps towards Jinho to attack him, but Jinho blocks the attack with the swing of his sword. Jinho swings his sword again and cuts Bader in his chest. Bader is surprised to see his blood. Jinho starts smiling and says that it looks like his god has abandoned him. Bader shouts at him, but Jinho slashes at him. Bader wonders if he should avoid it. He says that he can't throw away his pride like that. He lets out a huge roar and asks if Jinho thinks that he will dodge as he wishes. The strike lands in front of Bader and hits the ground, and a huge skull appears. Bader thinks that swordsmanship is impossible. He thinks this is not just swordsmanship, but evil itself. Bader punches through Jinho's attack and rushes to end him with a single strike. There's a huge blast, and there's dust everywhere. Lee Hyun wonders who won. He sees someone standing in the dust. The dust settles down, and Bader is down on his knees. Bader coughs blood and tells Jinho that it is his loss. Bader tells Jinho that he is the second person to make him kneel. Jinho asks if the first one is the Red King. Bader says that he is right. He is strong, and even if he fights him again, he can't even dream of winning. Bader says he thought he had completed his martial arts. He asks Jinho how did he lost to him. Jinho says that he is a fool. There's no such thing as completely mastering martial arts. A complete martial art is a dead one because no one devotes himself to it any longer. And one more thing he lost is because he is weaker than him. Bader is surprised to hear that. He tells Jinho that since he won the fight fairly, he will pay the price with his own death. Jinho says don't be ridiculous. It may be that kind of fight for him, but his death doesn't just simply end with dying. Jinho pierces his sword into Bader's chest, and Bader starts screaming. Jinho tells Bader to look at him. Bader wonders where he is, and a voice tells Bader to look at him. A mysterious dark aura starts engulfing Bader as he falls unconscious. Daejing starts running towards him. He grabs Bader and tells him to open his eyes. Lee Hyun says it is finally over. He asks Jinho if he is going to spare his life. Jinho asks if he should kill him. Lee Hyun says, looking at his personality, Bader will definitely fight him again as soon as he wakes up. Jinho starts smiling and says he will not be able to fight with him again. Jinho asks Daejing if they hold any power in Korea, and he replies that they do. Jinho says to take care of this mess and relay this to the man named Red King. If he wants to catch him, then he should come here himself. In the morning, Jinho brings Wiggins to the assembly. Bang starts yelling at Lee Hyun. Bang asks Jinho when he meet him. Wiggins says a while ago, the Lord made an offer to him. He wants to trade Chevalier with him. And in order to make a decision, he requested the Lord to show him his skills. The Lord gladly accepted his rude request. He realized this when they went to the mountains together, that his thoughts and judgments are trash, and if he follows the Lord, then he will have a chance to become stronger. Wiggins says that, for that reason, he decided to attend the Korean Martial Arts Congress. Lee Hyun starts smiling and says they didn't go together. There was only Bader, Daejing, Jinho, and him. Wiggins says he was also there. He grabs a cup in his hand, and it starts disappearing. Wiggins says this is a magic skill called the shield. He was able to hide using this skill. Bang asks if he came here to tell them that he's quitting Wontak. Wiggins says that is right. This place is a very unique organization. Normally, a hero is created inside the organization, but in this place, the hero already exists, and the organization is drawn to him. Wiggins says it is something he has never seen before. He starts smiling and says he wonders how much he can grow here. Lee Hyun says he is sorry to interrupt his happiness, but he wonders if the Wontak is aware of this since he bears the title of a knight. If he joins their organization, they will be troubled as well. Jinho asks if the title of a knight means that much, and Bang says it is at the same level as that of a director. Wiggins says that Wontak doesn't know if this is the case and that he should alert them now. Lee Hyun starts cursing him, but Bang puts his hand on his mouth. Meanwhile, Bader is getting treated at the hospital, and he regains consciousness and asks if Daejing is there. Daejing says yes, he is. Bader asks how he got here. Daejing replies that after his defeat, he lost consciousness and collapsed, so he moved him here. He tells Bader that Wicked Jinho did this to him. Bader grabs his head and starts screaming. He grabs Daejing by his throat and asks how dare he call him Wicked Jinho. Daejing is shocked to hear that. Daejing comes out of the room and wonders why Bader said that. He wonders what did Jinho do to him. Bader starts going on a rampage inside the room. After some time, Bader comes out of the room. Daejing asks if he is alright, and Bader tells him to prepare the car. Daejing starts smiling and asks where they are going. Bader says he's going to his master, Jinho. Daejing is shocked to hear that. Meanwhile, Wiggins meets Hao. Hao asks why he's here. Wiggins says too many things have happened for him to explain. He will tell him the truth, so sit down. Wiggins tells him that the round table has given up on them, and Hao is shocked to hear that. Wiggins says, to be precise, they think that saving them will cost them their honor. Hao says that he fully understands their decision, and he asks if he came here all this way to give him the news. Wiggins says no, that he came here to tell them that they were all free to go. Hao is confused to hear that. Wiggins says that he is staying here instead of them so they all can leave this place safely. After the conversation, Wiggins returns to Jinho, and Jinho asks how it went. Wiggins tells him that it ended well, and in the end, Chevalier decides to stay here. Wiggins says that the person who commands them is someone who looks up to him. If he finds out that they came back after sacrificing him, then he will definitely kill them. So until the situation dies down, they want to stay here and help him out since it would be difficult to pass on their techniques all by himself. Wiggins tells Jinho that it is good news for them both, and Jinho says that he will have to select those who will learn Western martial arts. Bang tells Jinho he would like to delay that for a bit. Considering the situation of the General Assembly, it is true that this is an urgent matter, but he's afraid they might lose their traditional values and identity. Jinho says that he doesn't think like that. Bang tells Jinho they are the Korean Martial Arts Congress, and they take pride in inheriting and developing Korean martial arts. If they bring in Western martial arts, then the tradition they have kept all this time will disappear. Jinho says he understands, and since Wiggins will also need some time to prepare, they should sit back and wait for a bit. Lee Hyun looks outside the window and sees that Bader is standing there holding a person in his arms. Lee Hyun wonders how he got to Congress. Jinho says that he came at the right time. Jinho goes down to meet Bader. Lee Hyun asks if they will fight again. Wiggins tells him to stop and says that something is strange. Bader shouts that he has come to see his master and bows in front of Jinho. Everyone is shocked to see that Jinho tells Bader to let that person go and stands up. Bader says that he will follow his master's orders. Lee Hyun asks Jinho if he cast a black magic spell on him that time. Jinho says something similar, but it won't last long, just for a few years. Daejing is shocked to hear that. Jinho looks at Daejing and says he thought he would return to the Red King, but he's still here. Jinho tells him to convey his message to the Red King that he will make good use of Bader. Daejing gets furious and asks if he is planning to keep calling Bader like a servant for years. Jinho says that is right, but he can get out of this faster if he gets stronger. Daejing tells Jinho that if that's the case, then take him too. If Bader starts blindly obeying him, then he would be much more difficult to control than before. However, he has been serving Master Bader for some time, so it will not be difficult for him. Please leave that role to him. Jinho says that it will not do any good for either of them. Beijing says that he doesn't mind. In return, when he feels like he has made enough use of them, then please let Bader go and treat him in a humane way. Jinho says he will accept that. He asks Li Haiyan if they have an employment contract, and he replies he will do as he wishes. After some time, Bader is riding with Beijing in his car. Bader tells him that he should go back to China. He doesn't have to stay with him. Beijing thanked him for his concern, but he stood by what he said to Jinho. Bader asks what he should do now, but he can only talk to him rationally for a while because his mind has come back for a short time. Bader says that he doesn't know when he will change again. Beijing tells him that Jinho said he needs to become stronger, that his influence will lose its power, and that he's sure Jinho didn't lie. Bader says that makes sense and that he will try it. After some time, everyone is gathered in a meeting room. Li Haiyan is giving them a presentation. He says the first point is about Bader and Wiggins' position. He says a lot of outsiders join them, and they decided to accept their martial arts. They will need the right management for that. First of all, they are an organization, and it's good for them to have a structure and a clear hierarchy. Jinho suggests that since they are not officially affiliated, they should call them non-executive directors. Li Haiyan says the next step is to prepare places for the three gentlemen and the chevalier, which will be done tomorrow. Wiggins says it is all right. He understands. Wiggins tells Jinho that he is planning to give the Round Table a status report since it is a sensitive issue, and it will cause the Round Table to be hostile in the future. He would like to hear a clear answer from the Lord. Jinho tells him to go ahead and tell them the truth. Li Haiyan says the next point is discussing how to develop the assembly's power. Bang says they are already in a position where they have to fight against other countries, so he thinks they need to recruit more informers. Jinho asks if that is necessary. Beijing says Korea has nearly zero information gathering capacity and also zero possibility of leaking or withholding information about itself. When he met Jinho, it was the first time and the only time he had been threatened. Jinho says they do need a lot of informers. Li Haiyan says that he will create a team, and the assistant will be Beijing. Beijing is startled to hear that. Li Haiyan smirked and said that he had signed the contract, so he had to work. Bader tells Jinho that he would like to participate in his efforts and become stronger. He says if they send him people with low IQ development and a decent body shape, then he will teach them physical Kai. Jinho says he can do that. Li Haiyan says that thanks to Bader and Wiggins, people who failed in Jinho's class and people who couldn't follow his style also have an equal chance to learn. Li Haiyan asks what about Li Jun's side. Bang sighs and says it is right on the edge. Bang says he knows that developments always come with pain, but since it is hard for him to take care of all of this alone, he would like to ask for some help. Wiggins says that he will gladly do it, and Bang tells Jinho that he has one thing that needs to be clear. Bang asks Jinho if his goal is to defend Korea or if he wants to conquer others. Bang says they need to know what they are going to do and need to have a goal after they become stronger in order for them to have a direction for the future, and they can't change their goal easily or without loss. Jinho says that he will try to decide as soon as he can. Li Haiyan claps his hands and says that they should close the meeting for now. Before that, he would like to ask Wiggins if he has any magic that can translate automatically. Everyone is fighting to get the admissions forms of the two new classes approved by Jinho. There are two signs on the notice board. The first says that the professional martial arts class has been officially approved by the assembly, and Mr. Wiggins will be the teacher. The second one is the physical Kai training class by Bader from Mongolia. Li Jun hears the noise outside and says they are very energetic today. Hyunju says she's a little worried about accepting too many martial arts from outside. Li Jun says he is also worried about it, but they can't just sit idle and do nothing about it. Of course, Bang can choose the wrong way, as he has done before, by chasing what's in front of him, but he's different from him because he has someone who can show him his mistakes and give him advice. Jung says Chairman Bang is the kind of person who accepts that kind of advice. That's why he has decided to help him and wait things out, but it seems like he is at his limit. Hyunju asks her grandfather what he means by limit. Li Jung says that it is already time. He should get going. He tells Hyunju that she doesn't need to know that he will be back soon. Li Jung arrives at a place where a person welcomes him and says there are more people gathered than he expected. He says it is because the former chairman is visiting, but he doesn't know what he should call this important meeting. Li Jung says that he knows what this is. It is a plot for treason. He goes inside and sees that a lot of directors are gathered inside. The meeting begins, and a person says Jinho doesn't even accept the opinion of directors and elders, and another person asks what's wrong with bringing all these foreigners. Li Jung thinks there are only those who can't follow the changes. They are stuck in the old days. A person says that foreigners aren't the real problem. The real problem is that the demonic martial arts are spreading. Li Jun thinks that they don't have the guts to rebel. They can only bark. Li Jun says that he understands they have a lot of dissatisfaction, but they can't do anything about it. There's no other way if they can't defeat Jinho. He raises a glass with an evil grin on his face and says that he has a way to deal with Jinho if they would like to try. Li Jun says they can't defeat Jinho with their powers only. It is the harsh truth, and they need to acknowledge it. But they have another way. That kid is their disciple, and he's already playing an important role inside the General Assembly, so he'll use the people in the General Assembly and confuse them, and then at that time, they will cut off Jinho's neck. A person objects and says this plan will cost them many sacrifices, while the one sitting next to him says that in order to achieve great things, one should be prepared for great sacrifices. Li Jun sighed and thought that everyone there would die. A person says that in order for them to succeed, they also need to eliminate Bang and his forces. He tells everyone that Bang was the first one to treat them like old people and underestimate them. Li Jun was startled to hear that, and everyone else agreed to that. A person says that he is right. There's no guarantee that someone who rebelled once won't do it again, so it is better to get rid of uncertainty in advance. Director Joe smiles as everyone tells Li Jun to do as Joe says. Li Jun says that they will do exactly like that. Jinho is looking after the training of his students. He asks how it is going. A student tells him that everyone is doing well. Not too long ago, they were complaining about their ribs and arms being broken. Jinho says it is not as bad as he thought, and the student is shocked to hear that. Many students are sparring with each other, and Jinho thinks that they are cute compared to the Central Plains. Jinho tells them to spar diligently, just like he told them before. Jinho says they need to drain their vitality as much as possible for them to learn magic. Jinho says they are learning faster than expected, so he's thinking about having them hands-on experience soon. The student gets excited and asks when that will be. Jinho smiles and says he will not keep them waiting for long. Everyone gathers around Jinho and asks when that will be approximately. Jinho says that since it seems like their practice is going well, he should confirm how much stronger they got. After some time, Lee Hyun walks in and sees that everyone is lying on the ground. He asks Jinho if they are all right. Jinho says yes, he was just warming them up, and Lee Hyun says that it is fine because he needs to use them today. He tells Jinho that the directors have been preparing for a revolt, and Lee Jung is the source of this intel. They are done with the preparations, and they just need to proceed. He tells Jinho that the board of directors just finished their third meeting, and right now, they are following Lee Jung's lead. Lee Jung gave them an opportunity to attack the directors and stop the revolt. Lee Hyun tells Jinho that they just need to break them, and that Mr. Wiggins and Chevalier, Bader, and Daejing, and lately Jinho and his disciples will move separately. Jinho says he understands, so they should proceed. It starts raining at night, so the directors are gathered together in a room. One of them says it is not right to be drenched in so much excitement. Another one tells him to sit down and relax. Director Lee Jung said if they are too stiff, then they will fail. The person wearing the green robe says that Lee Jung has never been like this before. No matter how much he thinks about it, it doesn't feel right. At the same time, Bader opens the door and says this place definitely has a small door. The director looks up and asks who he is. Bader breaks the door and throws it away. He tells everyone that it is nice to meet them. His name is Bader. Everyone is scared to hear that. Bader grabs a person by his face with a single hand and says that his purpose for coming here is to do some cleaning. Bader throws the person away, and he smashes all the way to the other side of the room. Bader tells them that they are all trash. He says that he respects warriors, so they need to prove themselves as warriors. Everyone is scared to hear that. Bader has an evil grin on his face. He tells them that if they fail, then they will die. One of the directors asks how dare he threaten them in Korea. Bader punches one in his chest and another in his face. Then he smashes one's skull. Bader asks if they even did a minimum amount of training. He tells them that the elders of Central Plain overwhelmed the youngsters. Compared to them, they are all just lazy cowards. Bader starts releasing his Kai and says that all those ignorant people do not deserve to be called martial artists. He unleashes a strong attack and destroys the entire place to the ground. The one wearing the green robe says that if he is destined to die, then it will be on his terms, and he prepares himself to fight Bader. Bader says at least one of them should be like this. The director punches Bader, but he easily stops the attack. The director breaks his arm while punching Bader. Bader is about to punch him. The director thinks that he is going to die, but Bader stops his punch and says that he has passed. Bader says that he acknowledges him as a warrior, and Daejing congratulates the director because Bader acknowledged him. Daejing tells Bader that these guys have no luck because he is their opponent. Bader says no, that the unlucky ones are those who will meet that sneaky person. Meanwhile, Wiggins is surrounded by a lot of enemies. Wiggins says that he came here because there were reports of some unsettling movements, and it looks like they have no intention to surrender. Wiggins tells them that this is also what he wished for because he also prefers fists over words. Suddenly, there's fire everywhere. A person asks Wiggins what he's doing. Wiggins says that people with poor learning abilities like them have no choice but to learn the hard way. He tells them that they are going against an enemy they don't know about, and he possesses a skill that they don't know about. Everyone rushes to attack Wiggins, but he disappears. A person asks where did he go. Wiggins suddenly appears in the sky and says let's see how they deal with this. Wiggins is standing in a magic circle. He attacks them with a magic beam, and the ground is destroyed by the impact. Wiggins pulls out his sword and strikes a person on his neck. Some of the enemies start floating in the air, and one of them tells the others that there's no need to panic. He is using a skill that makes things float. He tells the others to cast an energy reversing spell. Everyone lands back to the ground. Wiggins asks if this is a skill that makes the body heavy. Wiggins snaps his fingers and says that is not the answer. Suddenly, the enemies get struck by huge boulders from above. The ground gets destroyed by the impact, and Wiggins wonders if it is too much. He says that Lee Hyun will take care of it. Director Joe tells Lee Jung that Bader and Westerners attacked 2 other places. Lee Jung starts drinking and says they are just greedy losers who lack any morals and skills. Joe says that is true, but Bang's choice is not entirely wrong, although it is a problem that they are not adhering to the standards. Joe says that since he called them losers, no matter how much he thinks about it, passing the chairman's position to him, who has failed once, would be strange. The cup drops from Lee Jung's hand. He grabs his chest in pain, and foam starts coming out of his mouth. Lee Jung grabs his throat as he falls from the chair. He asks Joe if he thinks he can win against Jinho. Joe smirks and says yes, it is very much possible with his disciples and bodyguards, so don't worry about it and just die. Lee Jung falls to the ground. Some guards are outside. They see some movement in the woods. A guard wonders if it is a mountain beast. Suddenly, numerous eyes appear, and they say, let's kill them. Jinho's students jump towards them and start attacking them. A person asks if he is Lee Myonghwan. Myonghwan rushes to attack him, but the guard stops his attack using a stick. Myonghwan smirked and crushed the stick, and the guard got scared to see that. Myonghwan is about to kill him with the broken piece of a stick, but Jinho kicks him away. Myonghwan falls on his face, and Jinho asks what he tells them about the people who have lost their morale. Myonghwan says that he told them not to kill them. Jinho tells him that he must not lose his sanity to the dark. What he needs is a person who can stand beside him, not some animal without his sanity. Myonghwan says yes as he grabs his swollen face. Jinho tells him to remember everything he's feeling right now because that experience will make him stronger. Jinho kicks another one of his students far away. Bang arrives at the scene and asks if Jinho's disciples have done this. Lee Hyun tells him that they are called the Demon Flame. Bang says it is unbelievable to think that this is the extent of internal arts without any forms. Lee Hyun says yes, and they all end up following him. Bang says that Jinho is raising something scary. Bang says that he did well not to learn from him. Lee Hyun says that it is a relief that he listened to the chairman. A guard comes running and tells Director Joe that Jinho is attacking the place with his demons. Joe says that he understands, and he orders him to go and protect his post. Joe clenches his teeth and wonders when he notices Lee Jun has been deceiving him for a long time by being cooperative. If they are attacking 2 other places, then that means the plan was leaked long before. Joe looks at Lee Jun and wonders if the person who has been in contact with Jinho forces is none other than Jun. Joe says that he betrayed them from the beginning. At the same time, 3 members of the Demon Flame arrive there. Joe shouted at them and asked how dare they come here. Joe points at them and says this is not a place for the likes of them, so they should bring Jinho here. Jinho enters the room and says that he grasped the situation very quickly. Jinho looks at Lee Jun's dead body and says so it has come to this. Joe says this only happened because Jinho and Bang underestimated them. Jinho tells him that he doesn't understand what he's saying. Jinho says that it is because of his greed that the situation has come down to this. Jinho says they didn't ask him for anything in the first place, and Joe is speechless about that. A mysterious dark aura starts surrounding Jinho. He says that they just corroded the General Assembly, so he will kill all of them without any regrets. Joe rushes to punch Jinho and says that he doesn't know anything. Jinho easily blocks his punch. Joe asks if he thinks that he can lead the General Assembly. Jinho says that he has already failed once, but there are people who trust him and people who have decided to walk by his side. He has no intention of failing again. Jinho punches him in his gut so hard that he spits out blood and falls to the ground. Jinho tells MANHWA that he can take care of the rest. Bang brings Hyunju to Jinho and says that it looks like Joe locked her up. He may have wanted to get rid of her along with Lee Jun. Hyunju looks at her grandfather's body and starts crying. Bang says that they need to bring her to the General Assembly first, and they also need to hold a funeral for Director Lee Jun. Jinho says they should do that. Bang asks if he will go to the General Assembly with them, but Jinho says no, he will go there later. After some time, Lee Hyun and Hyunju are having a conversation in a room. Lee Hyun thanked her and said it must have been hard for her. He tells her that a day before the operation, her grandfather came to them. He told them about the information regarding the plan for the execution that had been prepared by the board of directors, and he also told them that he would leave his position for Jinho after his death. Hyunju says that the current chairman is there, and it hasn't been long since his appointment, so why would her grandfather say that? Lee Hyun tells her that right now, the power in the General Assembly is distributed, and there's no final decision maker who can unite the opinions. Lee Hyun points out that in order to run an organization efficiently, it is necessary to combine the distributed power, so appointing a final decision maker is the best choice. Hence, the director must have decided that the best person for this position is Jinho. Hyunju says that she understands. Lee Hyun tells her that there is no need for her to overwork herself and remain in the General Assembly. Hyunju says no. She still wishes to remain at the General Assembly not as the previous chairman's granddaughter, but as a martial artist. She tells Lee Hyun that she would like to climb up the ladder using her skills at the General Assembly. She wants to see how the General Assembly will change and how much stronger it will get. She wants to remain here and watch over it. She asks if she can do that. Lee Hyun says of course, she can, and please take care of herself in the future. Lee Hyun tells her that they will also do their best as much as her grandfather trusts them. Bang tells Jinho that his face has turned so red at the mention of becoming the chairman. Jinho says that he is not happy about it, and Bang says that everything has been sorted out. Bang tells Jinho that people from Mongolia and England are coming here soon. They are all Wiggins and Bader's subordinates. He tells Jinho that there is a limit to what these two can teach, so through their subordinates, the training will be done more systematically. Jinho says that sounds fine. Bang asks if he will take some rest now. Jinho says that he is fine, but he should let the others rest. Bang tells Jinho that he should call that person. Jinho asks who, and Bang hits him with his elbow and says it is the one he used to call every day. Jinho tells him that they are not in that kind of relationship and that she must be very busy. At the same time, Choi calls Jinho. He picks up the phone, and she starts shouting at Jinho. Choi says that just because she didn't call him, he didn't give her a single call. Jinho says that he is sorry, and Bang says that she has strong vocal cords. Choi asks if he is coming to China or not, and Jinho says that he is coming. Choi says that she heard that he has been busy these days, and it doesn't seem like he's meeting with a woman. Jinho asks who is giving her all these details, and Choi replies that her younger friend, who also filmed a drama with her. Choi says it is her fault for trusting him. She doesn't care if he comes or not. Jinho asks if he has a choice, and Choi tells him that if he can handle the consequences, then he can do as he wishes. Jinho is scared to hear that. He says that he is sorry, so please let him come. Jinho grabs his head after the call. Bang tells Jinho to please come back alive. Choi gets furious, and she grabs a person by his hair and asks what he is saying to him. Yunsol tells her to calm down and says that she shouldn't be doing this here. The person pushes Yunsol to the ground and says that he is just an employee. Choi picks Yunsol up and says that he is not an employee. He's her brother. She tells him that if he is going to treat him that way, then he can just go to hell. The person tells Choi that she's too kind. She's calling an employee her brother and caring about him so much. He smirks and says that he will come again later because there is plenty of time they can spend together. Yunsol tells Choi on the call that they will have to reshoot because the director didn't like yesterday's and today's film. Choi is lying on her bed wearing a bathrobe. She says that she knew from the beginning that the director is a perfectionist, so it is fine. Choi tells him to hang up the phone because she's tired. Choi turns around, and her phone starts ringing again. She gets annoyed. She picks up her phone and shouts that she already agreed to do the reshoot. A person says that he guessed she got home safely, and he's sure she just came out of the shower, so they should video call. Choi gets angry, and she throws her phone to the ground and destroys it. She tells him to shut up and know his place, an annoying being. Choi says if she had just stayed in Korea, she would have at least seen that handsome face as much as she wanted. She puts her hands on her head and asks Jinho when he's coming here. The guy gets disappointed that Choi cuts off his call, and he starts cursing her. He grabs a bottle of wine and throws it toward a wall. A person standing next to the wall asks why he's so angry over a girl. His name is Hyung Nim. He smirks and says to tell him if he doesn't like anything if she doesn't know her place and is rude to him, then it is a problem. Hyung Nim says that their Black Death organization can take care of problems quickly. He says that he knows that he is not going to marry her, and he just wants to play around with her. Ryu Wai says that is true. Hyung Nim says that he will make her obedient and bring her to him. Even though he looks a little rough, he has manners. Lee Hyun takes a look at the beautifully organized file cabinet and says that it looks great. Wiggins says that he is flattering him. He tells Lee Hyun that this knight has looked over documents so many times, so this much is easy for him. Wiggins praises him because he had a harder time translating this. Lee Hyun says that he is also used to it, so if there's anything he can help with, then let him know. At the same time, Bader comes barging in and asks Lee Hyun if he's being helpful to the master. The files fall out of the cabinet. Bader says there is another rat in here, and he asks if they are making a plan to harm the master. Wiggins says that's not the case. Bader says that he distrusts them the most. Wiggins tells him to calm down. He has important information about the Lord. He hears that there's a place the Lord must visit. Lee Hyun is surprised to hear that, and he tells Wiggins that the information is top secret. Wiggins tells him that if he wants to reorganize the assembly quickly, they need to get rid of Bader for a while. Instead of letting him interfere with every single thing, they should just send him and the Lord together for a while. Lee Hyun whispers that he got it. Bader gets angry and asks what they are whispering about. Wiggins says that he will tell him everything after he takes a seat first. After some time, Bader bows before Jinho and says that China is dangerous. Jinho says that he understands his concern, but there is a reason that he has to go. Bader says that he also knows the reason. He says that there's nothing more important than choosing a good spouse for a king. Wiggins and Lee Hyun start laughing. Bader tells Jinho that if he must go to China, then he should take a guard with him. Jinho tells him to please listen to what he's saying. Jinho tells him that Korean martial artists are not at that level yet, so they won't be of much help there. Bader says that he knows a solution to that. He will go with him, and Daejing will come with them. Daejing is startled to hear that. Jinho says there is another problem with that. First of all, he can't hide himself because he is very noticeable. Even if no one should know that he's in China, everyone will know that he's there. Second, he was King Hong's man, but now he's working for him. Jinho asks if he thinks they will let him go that easily. Bader is disappointed to hear that, while Lee Hyun and Wiggins are laughing. Lee Hyun says he doesn't have to worry about it. He asks Jinho if he knows some people in Yikayong. Jinho says yes, and Lee Hyun says that they decided to get help from them. He tells Jinho that he will enter the country in a cargo plane, and as soon as he reaches there, he will be in a vehicle, and he will not go through security. He will go straight to the hotel. Lee Hyun says that this is the only way they can go to China together, and Bader starts smiling after hearing that. Lee Hyun hands Jinho an ID card and tells him to use this forged ID in China. Bader tells him that he is a smart rat, and Lee Hyun says it's all possible because of someone talented in Yikayong. Bader puts his arm around Jinho and says that this is going to be a happy trip. After some time, Jinho and Bang ride together in a car, and Bader asks Jinho if he is going to start breeding as soon as they arrive. Jinho grabs his head and says that it is not like that. Jinho says that the actual purpose of his visit is different. He says that there are people waiting for him in China. He met them by chance a long time ago. Bader says that he doesn't mean to disregard magic, but except for him, the other demons are all trash, and the same goes for their behavior. Bader says if the influence of magic is bad, then it can be changed, but it is impossible to be the other way around. Jinho says that he is right, but there is no need for those guys to change because he is not trying to fix them. He is only trying to use them. Jinho says if they don't meet his expectations, then he can just throw them away. Bader thinks for a while and says that it is cold. He wonders if he ended up serving a preposterous master. Meanwhile, Choi is shooting her scene with Ryu Wai. The director says cut. Ryu Wai says that he was truly good today. Choi is shocked to hear that. She thinks that this swashbuckler did not learn what good means in school. His acting was worse than reading from a Korean book. Yoonsol is carrying a small fan, and he is preventing Choi's face from sweating. Choi asks how the director cast someone like him, and Yoonsol says, of course, because of money. He tells Choi that he hopes that they can finish by today, and Choi says that she would love that. The director thinks that he did well choosing Choi for the role, not only because of her visuals but also because her acting skills and emotions are amazing. Compared to her, that guy is so bad. The director starts shooting again. Ryu Wai tells Choi that he can't give up on her, and Choi replies that he can't do this. Ryu Wai grabs her hand and hugs her. He tells her that he can't let her go. He grabs her face and says that he can't leave her alone. He puts his hand on her back. Choi gets furious and asks where he thinks he is touching her. Choi kicks him in his ribs and calls him a pervert. Ryu Wai falls to the ground and asks why she's treating him like this. Choi starts cursing him. He tells her that he has skills, looks, and money, so she should thank him for choosing her. Choi says that she has more skills, looks, and money. She says that she will not accept him even if he brings her a truck filled with gold. Choi tells Yoonsol to call it off today. The director asks what she is doing right now. Choi hands him the flower decor and tells the director that she's not filming today. She says that there is a clause that prohibits skinship in the contract, and that guy broke it first. She asks if he didn't see him sexually harassing her, and the director says that she is right. He was at fault, so everyone should wrap up for today. At night, Yoonsol tells Choi that he peeked at that guy earlier, and he was looking at her as if he was going to kill her. Yoonsol warns Choi to be careful and lock the door before sleeping today. Choi asks how he can even come here, and she pushes Yoonsol outside her room. Yoonsol tells her that this is a country where money is everything. Choi says okay, she will lock it. Choi closes the door and says that his nagging is making her uncomfortable. She looks at her face in the mirror and says look at these dark circles due to working hard these days. Suddenly, Choi notices the door opening and wonders what it is. She asks if it is Yoonsol. A person appears from behind and says that he was wondering why that idiot Ryu Wai was making such a fuss. She's such a beautiful woman, so good that it is a waste to give her to him. Hyung Nim grabs Choi by her neck. She asks who he is and how did he get in. He smiles and says that it must not have been long since she learned Chinese, but she's quite a natural. He says that she is very calm in this type of situation, and the more he sees her, the more he likes her. He grins and says that this is a country where money is everything, so she should know what is going to happen to her now. Choi says if he wants money, then she can give it to him right now. He replies that he is sorry, but he doesn't have any plans on letting her go, no matter how much money she gives him. He says that he received money from that fool as well, but he's not working for him. He tells her that no one is going to help her anyway, so there is no point in struggling. Choi asks what he did to Yunsol. He replies maybe he killed him. Choi is shocked to hear that. She starts kicking him and says that she will kill him. He throws her on the ground and kicks her in the stomach. He tells her to keep quiet. Hyung Nim calls someone and says the preparations are complete, so please wait at the place he told him. Choi starts coughing, and she has tears in her eyes. Hyung Nim tells her to save her energy because she will suffer all night. He is about to grab her, but suddenly, there's a loud noise. Jinho breaks the door and barges in. He gets furious and asks Hyung Nim how he wants to die. Jinho starts walking towards him, and he releases his dark eye. Hyung Nim wonders what this threatening feeling is. Choi starts crying after seeing Jinho, and she asks if he couldn't have appeared before this happened. Jinho apologizes and says that he will be careful next time. He asks if she is okay. Choi asks if she looks okay to him, and Jinho says no. Choi points at Hyung Nim and tells Jinho to deal with him first. Jinho says that he will get rid of him right away. He will bury him well so they don't get caught. Choi asks if he is nuts, and Jinho looks at her in confusion. Choi sighs and tells him that she should be the angriest one in this situation. Also, she should be the one to want to kill him the most, but should she kill everyone because they make her angry? Choi says she knows that she sounds strange, but doesn't kill him. Jinho says right. Ryu Y opens the door of his room and wonders why he's causing such a ruckus. Jinho arrives there, and he's dragging Hyung Nim with him. Choi tells Jinho that he is the one who ordered him. Jinho says that he will deal with them together then. Choi tells Jinho that he is the main lead of the drama, that she has to shoot with him tomorrow, and that he's quite famous. So if he disappears suddenly, then the entertainment industry will make some noise. Jinho grabs Ryu Y by his throat and says that he doesn't like his face, but he will spare him. Ryu Y is on his knees. Jinho tells him that he will only spare him until this drama is over. Until then, he should do his best. The moment he ignores the mercy Choi has given him, he will get rid of him. Ryu Y is scared to hear that. Jinho throws him in the lift and tells him to get lost. Jinho looks at Hyung Nim and says he doesn't have a reason to spare him. Jinho calls Bader and tells him that he left a gift for him on the 20th floor, so give him a good beating in moderation. After some time, Choi sits on her bed and says that she is sorry that she complained too much and that she was too childish. She thanks Jinho for saving her and says that she was so scared that she would be sold off somewhere. Jinho sits beside her. Choi says that she thinks that she is always being childish to him. Jinho says that he never thought she was being childish, so she doesn't have to say that. Choi asks if she can be childish for today and asks him to do her a favor. Jinho says, of course. Choi starts blushing, and she tells Jinho to stay here for the night. Jinho is shocked to hear that. Choi gets up and says that she will wash up first. She looks at Jinho and asks what he is imagining all by himself. Choi says she is going to wash herself because she hasn't removed her makeup. Jinho tells her to wait, and Choi gets angry and asks what it is now. Jinho tells her that they should change their room first. After some time, Choi gets out of the shower and says that she feels fresh. She tells Jinho that he should go and wash up, too. He must be tired from traveling here and there. Jinho says that is right. He should. Choi says that he is getting so nervous that it is not like they are sleeping in one bed. They are going to sleep separately in one room. Choi is shocked to see a master bed with rose petals on the bedsheet. After some time, Jinho and Choi are lying in bed, and Choi is wide awake. She wonders what she should do. She asks him to sleep together because she is scared, but she fails to pick the right room. Choi looks at Jinho and thinks that this is driving her crazy. Jinho looks at her, gets near her, and says that she should take tomorrow off from the shoot. Choi tells Jinho to go to sleep, but she gets annoyed and starts hitting him with a pillow. Jinho says that he is sorry. He thinks that he doesn't know what he did wrong again. Choi is furiously glaring at him. Jinho thinks that he certainly knows how it feels to have death appear in front of him. After a while, Jinho looks at Choi and thinks that she is finally asleep. If he had not taken off that heat to make her sleep, he would have been suffering from that ferocious energy all night. Jinho looks at her and thinks that not only because of today, but she must have been having a hard time living in China. Just like last time, the only thing that he could do for her was to help her feel more comfortable. Jinho places his hand on her stomach and starts transferring his energy to her. He thinks if he becomes a little bit stronger and tries to regain his strength more diligently, where he could regain all the power from his days as the Red Demonic Master, then he would have been able to handle everything Choi went through in a better way. Jinho thinks that it is not too late. He needs to focus on what's going to happen in the future. Just as Bang said, he needs strength, intelligence, and security to protect the people around him. In the morning, Choi hears her phone ringing. She opens her door and asks Yoon-sol what it is. Yoon-sol asks her what happened last night and how her room turned out like that. Choi grabs him and says that a lot of things happened. She asks if he is hurt anywhere. Yoon-sol says that he didn't see anyone and he's not hurt anywhere. Yoon-sol asks if she is alright because there's no way she would worry about him, though he asks why her face is red. Choi says that nothing happened, and the door became like that because she didn't close it properly. Yoon-sol is surprised to hear that. Choi grabs him by his collar and asks why he is convinced, but he tells her that he is not convinced at all. At the same time, Jinho comes out of the shower, and he's wearing only a towel. Choi and Yoon-sol are shocked to see that. Yoon-sol asks what they did last night. Choi pokes her fingers in his eyes and tells him to forget about it. On the floor below, Bader tells Daejing that they are so noisy up there. Daejing says that he wonders what they are doing, and Bader says they must be breeding right now. Hyung Nim is lying on the ground. Daejing asks what this person does to make Jinho angry. Bader says that Choi plays a big role in Masters' life. Daejing says that she is a famous actress in Korea, so she must have a lot of meaning for him. Bader says, for whatever reason, he is now certain of what his master is trying to do. Daejing asks what it is, and Bader replies that he is trying to cut down everything from where this guy belongs. It seems like he learned martial arts. Even though his level is low, things will get bigger than he thought. Daejing asks Bader, once they start digging up his background, how far they will find themselves connected. He tells Bader if they keep digging, then they may find the Red King or King Chang. Daejing grabs his head and says they will be in big trouble if that happens. He says if it is going to explode anyway, then it will be better to find a way to minimize the explosion. Bader consoles him and says they should not worry about that. Daejing says he is right. First, they need to get all the information out of him. Bader cracks his knuckles and tells Hyung Nim with an evil grin on his face that if the information he has doesn't satisfy his master, then he will be in big trouble. Ryu Y starts trembling with fear as he is in the middle of shooting his scene. The director gets furious and says cut. He asks Ryu Y if he calls that acting, and Ryu Y says that he is sorry. The director tells him that a 10-year-old would do a better job, and he asks if he wants the role or not. The director warns him that he will give him only 5 minutes, so he reads the script again and puts those lines straight in his head. The assistants take the director away. He says that there's a limit to how much he can endure. Jinho asks if he is drunk and why he's like that today. Choi asks what he did yesterday and says that he's like that. Jinho says that he just told him to do well on his job. Ryu Y is reading the script with full attention. Jinho asks if he is bad at acting. Choi says yes, but she does not understand. He's so bad that she can't even look at him with both eyes. She says if he keeps on acting like that, then they might have to film the whole day. Jinho tells Choi that he is going to the restroom for a bit, and she tells Jinho that he can go there. Ryu Y is busy learning his script. Jinho comes near him and says that he told him to do well. Ryu Y gets scared. He starts running toward the director and asks what he should do here, so this scene comes out perfect. The director asks what he's talking about all of a sudden. Ryu Y says that he will die for real, but he doesn't want to die, so please fix his acting. Choi wonders if today's filming is off the table. In the evening, Jinho and Choi are standing next to a car. Choi tells Jinho that she brought him to the set today, but he ended up suffering and standing all day. Choi starts smiling and thanks Jinho again for yesterday. Jinho asks if they are not finished talking about yesterday's incident. Choi says not just that but thanks for everything. She bothered him from the first time they met, and now that she thinks about it, she was very annoying and mean. Choi tells him that in the future, she will only ask him to solve the matters that only he can solve. Jinho says that he wasn't bothered, though, because he just wanted to be with her. Jinho smiles and says even if it is a little uncomfortable, he's happy when they are together. Choi says that she is doing this because she wants to. She pushes Jinho against the car. Jinho starts blushing, and Choi kisses him. After some time, Yoonsol drives the car and looks in the rearview mirror. Yoonsol tells Jinho that he has lipstick on his lips. Jinho quickly puts his hand on his mouth. Yoonsol says that his guess is right, but Choi gets angry and asks how he dares to fool Jinho. Yoonsol says he was just teasing them a bit. He tells Choi that Ryu Y filmed half of his scenes today, and the majority of her scenes will be done tomorrow. Choi says, of course, she's way better than him. At the same time, something starts flying towards the car, breaking the car screen. Yoonsol quickly stops the car and asks Jinho and Choi if they are okay. He's scared to see a sword pierced in the seat next to him. Jinho protects Choi by holding her in his arms. He tells them both to stay here. A man wearing a black suit is sitting in his office, and his assistant reports to him that Hyung Nim is missing. Ryu Y is fine, but he's completely ignoring their calls. The guy who visits Ryu Y said that he was acting like he was possessed or something. The man in the suit grabs his head and throws an ashtray towards his assistant. The ashtray hits him on the head, and he starts bleeding. The man tells him that he doesn't care about some trash, but Ryu Y is an important money source for the Black Demon Association. He orders him to find out what happened and take care of the man responsible for making things worse for them. His assistant says that he understands. Jinho comes out of the car. Yoonsol says a sword just flew towards them, and they should run away. Choi tells Yoonsol that it is fine, and that Jinho will take care of it by himself. Choi asks Jinho if he remembers his promise. Jinho smiles and says that he will not kill them because he is in a good mood right now. Yoonsol is scared. He says that they should call the police. Choi asks if he heard that, and she starts smiling and says Jinho is in a good mood right now. Jinho starts walking towards the men holding swords. One of them asks where Hyung Nim is. Jinho smiles and asks him to take a guess about what happened to him. The person thinks that it feels like he is a martial artist. He wonders why he's so calm when he's unarmed and at a disadvantage. Everyone feels a threatening aura from Jinho. Jinho starts walking towards them and tells them that he is in a good mood today. He says this is his first time letting go of the person who threw their sword at him. One of them points his sword at Jinho and says that he is a fool. He tells Jinho that he should beg for his life, and then he will cut off one of his arms. Jinho punches him away toward the sky. Everyone is shocked to see that. Bao thinks that no matter how strong he is, he throws him away so easily. Jinho tells them that he only needs one person, and Bao asks what about the remaining two. Jinho says he will spare them, but they will have to jump from that cliff. Everyone is shocked to hear that. Jinho glares at them, and everyone starts fighting each other to jump from the cliff. Jinho shakes his head and says that martial artists these days have no loyalty. After a while, they travel in the car again, and Bao sits beside Jinho. Choi starts sneezing because she's feeling cold. She asks why there isn't a blanket in the car. Yoonsol gets annoyed and asks who would have thought that things would turn out this way. Yoonsol points at Bao and says this doesn't make any sense. He asks why they are giving him a ride. Choi says that he is staying still right now. She says that it is not his fault that others ran away, leaving him behind. She tells Yoonsol not to worry about others. Yoonsol asks Jinho if he is going to take care of him. Jinho says yes, he's personally going to take care of him, and he means to talk to him. Choi asks Jinho if he would like to have dinner together. Jinho says that he needs to pack up his things and that he's planning to go to another place in a few days. Jinho says that they should spend their time together until then, and Choi starts smiling after hearing that. After some time, Jinho brings Bao to Bader. He says that Master brought another one here. Bao is scared to see Bader. Jinho asks Bader where the other guy is, and Bader says that he put him in the bathroom. Jinho opens the door and tells Bao to meet his acquaintance. Bao is shocked to see Hyung Nim there. He asks what they did to him. Jinho grabs him by his face and says that he will take his time to tell him all about it. After a while, Jinho comes out of the washroom and says that he has dug out all the information they need. Jinho tells Bader that guys from the Black Demon Association are gathering up, so in 2 days, they will lure them in and deal with them. Bader says that they are giving them too much time. Jinho says that he has a date with Choi tomorrow. Bader says yes, breeding is also very important. Jinho gets annoyed and tells him to stop with that. Bader starts eating his snacks and says that Choi will need a guard. Daejing says if they bring another guard from Korea, then it will be dangerous. Bader tells Jinho that he can vouch for a guy. He's the warrior of the meadows. They are free-spirited, but they know their honor. Bader says those people follow him, so if he calls them, they will put their lives on the line to protect her, and in return, he will need to reward them. Jinho says, of course, he will give them his gratitude. Bader is disappointed to hear that, and he tells Jinho to give them money. He tells Jinho that his honor means nothing in this era. Jinho gets furious, and Bader tells Daejing to save him from the master. After some time, Jinho is having dinner with Choi. He tells her that his schedule has been set and he's leaving tomorrow. Choi is surprised to hear that, and says that it is a shame they can't do anything about it. She asks if he will come visit her again. Jinho says he will try his best to visit her again. Choi says that he doesn't have to. They will see each other in Korea. Choi tells Jinho that he hung out with her, kept his promise, and fended off dangerous things. He did so many things for her. Choi says that she feels like rewarding him somehow, and she asks if she should pay for it with her body. Jinho spits out coffee from his nose, and Choi tells him that he is too fun to tease. She gives him a tissue and tells him to call her when he gets there. On her acting set, Choi tells Yoonsol everything and says that she sent him away, but now she's feeling uncomfortable and annoyed. Yoonsol says this is because she hasn't started their relationship yet. Choi says that they kissed, but Yoonsol says she didn't say that they are dating. Choi is shocked to hear that and asks what they should do now. Yoonsol says if she hasn't made it official and the situation becomes uncertain in the future, it is good to make things clear whatever happens. Choi gets up and tells Yoonsol that they are leaving and their destination is Jinho. Meanwhile, Jinho and Bader wake together. Daejing waits for them near the car, and he tells Jinho that he has loaded their luggage. Jinho thanks him. Bader turns his head and asks his master if he knows the person who's coming to see him off. Yoonsol is driving the car, and Choi is standing in her seat and tells Jinho that she will kill him. Yoonsol grabs her dress and tells her to sit down. Bader tells Jinho that he should find someone more sane. Jinho tells him to shut his mouth and says that he will be back in a bit. Jinho asks Choi if she wasn't filming today. Choi smiles and says that she cancelled it because she wanted to see him. Bader, Daejing, and Yoonsol are hiding behind a tree, and they are listening to their conversation. Choi tells Jinho that she will ask him something straightforward. Jinho says this is assault. Choi puts her finger on his lips and tells him to be quiet. Choi tells Jinho that she likes him, so she would like to date him seriously. Choi says she put her pride on the line and tried to create a romantic atmosphere, too, but the more she thinks about it, the more the answer doesn't come out. She says those situations only work out in dramas and movies. In reality, she can be simple and clumsy about it. Choi asks if she can hear his answer when she returns to Korea. Jinho says alright. Choi tells Jinho that she hasn't heard his answer yet, so if he turns his eyes to another bitch then she will kill him. Jinho gets scared and says he understands. Choi tells Jinho that she will see him next time. She runs back to Yoonsol and starts crying. Yoonsol tells her to stop crying. She did her best, and it is all up to Jinho now. Choi says that she wanted to do it more gently, but she ended up telling him that she would kill him. Yoonsol tells her that she did her best. Now, she is just thinking about returning to Korea. When she returns, she can show him her cool side so that he will more likely accept her. Jinho and Bader are riding in the car with Daejing. Daejing asks what they should do with Bao and Hyang Nim. Bader says that they need to check the situation and get rid of them. Jinho is speechless, and Bader tells Daejing that they should go and eat something first. When Master is like this, there's no other answer than going to that place. Suddenly, some cars start chasing after them. After a while, they are sitting in the restaurant. Bader starts eating and says that it is good, but that the place is a bit small. Daejing says that he is sure everywhere else will be the same. Bader tells Jinho to eat something because they have to drive for more than 20 hours. Daejing says that he thinks it is about time for the Black Death organization to show up. Bader puts down his chopsticks and says they are already here. Daejing looks through the window and sees that there are plenty of people outside. He says they took the bait. Bader tells Jinho that it is time. He tells Daejing to go and hide under the table. Some people open the car outside and ask Bao if he's alright. Bao asks if they have only brought this many people, and he tells them to bring more backup. He tells Bao that everyone in Sichuan came here. Bao tells everyone to run away right now, and suddenly, there's a huge blast. Everyone runs inside to see what's going on. They are shocked to see that Bader is smashing people inside the restaurant. A person asks why Bader is here after betraying King Hong. Daejing is hiding under the table. He says they lack information, and he can't believe they are running an organization. Bader is going on a rampage. A person shouts at everyone to run. Jinho grabs a person by his throat and kills him. There's blood everywhere on the ground. Daejing says he will never get used to this, no matter how many times he has seen it. After some time, Bader tells Daejing that they are finished, so after they finish eating, they will leave. Daejing asks if anyone can eat in this kind of situation. Bader throws the food in his mouth, and Daejing says it looks like he can. Jinho is trying to call Jang Min. Bader asks who that person he can't reach. Jinho says he is a very old man. Suddenly, he picks up the call and starts shouting on the phone. Jinho and Bader are startled to hear his voice. Jang Min asks why the heavenly demon didn't call him for such a long time. He was waiting for his call. He was waiting and waiting. His bones were about to turn into ashes, and he was about to lose his soul. Jinho covers his ears and says that he could have called him first. Jang Min said the number that he gave him. It said the number didn't exist. He tells Jinho that he worries about him a lot. The world now is too tough for him. He knows that he possesses the highest skill in martial arts, but he seems to be having a hard time with a smartphone. Bader starts laughing and says that this man is a true loyalist. He also knows that Master is bad at machines. Jinho is disappointed to hear that Jang Min says that he is in China right now. Jinho grabs his head and asks when he come. He replies that it has been a few days. He tells Jinho to tell him where he is, and he will send his man right away. Jinho hands his phone to Daejing. Daejing introduces himself. Jang Min asks how dare he come between their conversation when the heavenly demon is speaking. He will tear him apart and throw him to the wolves. Jinho tells Jang Min that Daejing is his secretary, and Jang Min tells Daejing to speak without mistakes and clearly. After some time, they are waiting outside. Bader says since the Black Death organization is taken care of, they won't come again. He asks Jinho when that demonic man is coming. Daejing says it looks like he is here. A person arrives there with dark energy emitting from him. Bader asks Jinho if he is the man, and Jinho says he is not the one he knew. He glares at Bader and Jinho. He comes near Jinho, quickly bows down to him, and says all demons shall worship and submit to the heavenly demon. He gets excited and tells the heavenly demon to speak please. Jinho says he is making him feel embarrassed, and they will talk on the way. He starts smiling and tells everyone to sit in the car and that he will take them right away. Meanwhile, a person informs the man in the black suit that everyone died while trying to catch those three. He is shocked to hear that. He gets angry and says that they should request support from the headquarters right away. Meanwhile, Bader asks Jinho if they are going to meet that old man, and Jinho says yes. Bader asks if that person is strong, and Jinho says that he is one of the best demons he has seen so far. Bader says if Master acknowledges him, then he must be an amazing old man. Jinho says he is an old monster since he lived for 180 years. Bader wonders if he is a fossil. Bader tells the young man to drive faster because he wants to meet that old man now. He gets angry and tells Bader even if he's under the command of the demonic lord, there is no reason why he should listen to his order. Jinho tells him to go a bit faster. He accelerates the car at once. Bader tells Jinho that his loyalty is incredible. He asks if all demons are loyal to him and how that works. Jinho says restraining the mind can't invoke respect that comes sincerely. One can tell right away from their actions and words, but demons are different. Jinho tells Bader that demons can't resist demons higher than them. Instead of those who are difficult to take on, to those who are stronger than themselves or who have mastered higher magic arts, they instinctively submit to them. Bader says that is interesting. He asks if their loyalty is separated from their own free will. Jinho says it is far from loyalty, it is closer to submission. Bader says even if they follow Jinho, they are not that skilled. Jinho says that he is right. Modern demons are weak, but they will not stay that way for long because they will make them stronger. Then, everyone will know the revival of the modern demonic cult. After some time, the car breaks down. The young man bows down and tells Jinho that he committed a great sin, so please kill him. Jinho tells him to stop it. He starts crying and says that he has inconvenienced the demonic lord with his misjudgment. Daejing looks at the car and says they need to call someone to fix this, but it will take them until tomorrow to get here. Jinho says they should sleep in the open for a day. Daejing says there is still something romantic about this situation, such as a clear sky and a lot of stars. Bader tells him that he will not say that if he lives for 1 month in Mongolia. Daejing asks why. Bader says it is cold with too many bugs and horse shit stinks. Bader tells him if he lives in the meadow, then he won't be able to shower as he likes, and then the smell will be disgusting. Daejing tells Bader to give him back his romance. Jinho starts smiling. Bader asks what he's thinking about, and he tells Jinho to tell them about the old days. Jinho says it was hard living with people who barely showered twice a day. On top of that, everything was dusty roads there, so it was dusty and messy. Daejing covers his ears and says that he doesn't want to hear about it. Bader asks Jinho if modern humans have improved compared to the humans in the past. Jinho ponders for a while and says they have changed a lot, but only one thing hasn't changed. Even in the past, there were people who couldn't understand their enemies and threw themselves at them recklessly. Bader starts smiling and says that is something they can't deny. Jinho and Bader come out of the car, and Daejing asks where they are going. Jinho tells them both to wait here, and Bader says they are here. Suddenly, some vehicles start driving towards them. Daejing shouts at them to get out of the way unless they want to die. Bader laughs and punches a vehicle. A truck crashes into their van, and the van gets destroyed. Daejing and the boy get out of the van. They look in front of them, and they see that a car is coming straight at them. Daejing starts screaming. At the same time, Bader comes in between and punches the car away. Bader tells Daejing to stop crying over this kind of thing. Daejing yells at him and says that he is not a monster like him and Jinho. Bader says he talked back to the master that easily, so how can he be scared of just a trailer? Bader tells Daejing that master has already taken care of the rest. Jinho breaks apart all the vehicles. Another vehicle arrives there. A person in the black suit comes out of the vehicle and asks his fellow how he did do something that Murian might feel uncomfortable with. He refuses and says that they never did that kind of thing. Daejing says they are not from the Three Kings. They seem way below Murian, and it seems the rest of the Black Death organization came. Bader starts smiling and says that they don't even have to look to kill them. Jinho says that he agrees. He asks them how they would like to die. The man asks if he thinks they can win against this many people. At the same time, another vehicle stops near Jinho. An old man comes out of the vehicle with some people and tells the demonic master that they have arrived. His name is Sir Liu Zioyu. The man in the black suit starts laughing and asks if they are the backup. An old man who is about to die soon, and shoddies who look like they just started to learn martial arts. Sir Liu asks Jinho to let them take care of those evil men, and he tells Jinho to use them as soil to reenact the glorious and bright demonic cult again. Jinho wonders if they are the demonic cult. As time has changed, so have their thoughts, and also, they are different from his past. After he came back to modern times, the demonic cult had been destroyed, and when he heard about the demonic cult's existence being cut off, he was okay because time changes, but they look worse than those losers who seem sick and tired of life. Sir Liu asks the demonic leader what is wrong, and Jinho tells him to shut up. The guy wearing the black suit asks if they bring that trash as their strength. Jinho says that they are scrappy and shoddy, but he's the only one who can call them that. Jinho calls Bader, and he bows and says to give him an order. Master, Jinho says, let them know the price that they would pay for saying what they shouldn't have said. Bader rushes towards them and starts attacking them. Everyone rushes to grab Bader. A person is about to attack him with a knife, but Bader pushes them away with his strong physical kai. Jinho starts releasing his kai and asks the man in the suit who is trash now. Jinho tells them to struggle all they can before he kills them. A guy attacks Jinho with his knife and says that he will kill him. Jinho grabs the knife using his hand and says that because they look down on him and his people, his subordinates will have to make unnecessary sacrifices. He yells at Jinho and says that it will be a worthy sacrifice if they can kill him and Bader. Jinho breaks his blade to pieces and says that kind of worthy sacrifice doesn't exist. Jinho grabs him by his face and lifts him in the air. Jinho tells him that death is death and he will have to let him know one more thing. Jinho crushes his head and says that his death will be worthless. In the morning, everyone reached their destination, and Bader asked if it was okay to leave them there like that. The young man says yes, Sir Liu and the other demons will take care of it because they are used to this kind of situation. Jinho asks if they have done this a lot, or if he's saying that they help take care of others' mess. The young man replies both. He tells Jinho that they have never been treated like real martial artists, so they are at the point where they have to do whatever it is to survive. He tells Jinho that they're here. This is the base of the demonic cult nowadays. They arrive in front of a steel gate. Bader says this looks like an underground bunker. The young man opens the door. An old man is standing there wearing a robe. He says that the demonic master and the owner of 10,000 demons is finally here. He tells the demonic master that his servants are worshipping him. Everyone else is bowing down to Jinho. He starts walking towards his throne, and he finally sits on the throne. He tells everyone that his name is Jinho, and he's the red demonic master. After some time, they are sitting at the table. Jinho says there are more people than he thought, and he tells a person that he would like to ask about other things. Jiang Min says that he will answer everything. He is wearing a white suit. Jinho asks what is up with that look. Jiang Min says this is his true form. Jinho says that he would like to know about the believers' current situation. Jiang Min gives Jinho a presentation and says the kids are learning these two martial arts, the killing with flame and shaking the sky, and nothing above the god of fight. He tells Jinho that all of the high-level demonic martial arts were lost even before he was born. Therefore, all they could do was gather pieces of the demonic martial arts, which is how those two martial arts were made. Jinho asks if he knows the script, and Jiang Min shows Jinho the script. Jinho says that this is just the skill of flame and fire, and this has changed. Jinho remembers that the skill of flame and fire was safe, as well as the basic life of martial arts. Jinho thinks that after he died and after the blue demon died, he wondered what happened to the demonic cult. Jinho asks Jiang Min what about him because he definitely used blue flame kai, but he didn't learn to kill with flame. Jiang Min says that he didn't because he had already received the demonic kai directly through his body, so he knew the script in modern days, but he hadn't learned it. He tells Jinho that he also couldn't pass down his demonic martial arts to others. Jinho asks if he is sure that the demonic master in that legend is the red demonic master that he will resurrect. Jiang Min says yes. When the days of crying in the dark are over, the dawn breaks, and when the east sky turns red, the demonic master will descend again. This is the legend that has been passed down to them. Jiang Min starts smiling and says that because it is the 21st century, no one truly believes it anymore. Jinho says the situation is not very good. Bader asks if they still don't watch the demonic cult and martial arts. Jiang Min says that is because the demonic master is too great. He asks if he hasn't heard about the red demonic master in the Orthodox side's history. Dajing says there's a story about that which has been passed down. There was a strong demon that all of the Orthodox side's high-level masters had to fight against. Bader says that it is true that master is strong and other demons are weak, but that kind of old story always exaggerates things. Jiang Min gets furious and asks how dare he. He tells Bader that the demonic master didn't get all of his power, and if he finds his red demonic power, he will not even need him by his side. They glare at each other. Jinho says that's enough. He has already decided what to do next. Jinho tells Jiang Min that he needs someone who looks more normal than him. After some time, Jinho, Bader, and Dajing are walking behind the young man from before. Jinho tells him that it seems like he knows the world of martial arts well in modern days, including the demonic cult. Jinho says he thought he might give him the best answer, so he called him here. He starts smiling and has tears in his eyes. He tells Jinho that it is an honor that he thought about him. Jinho asks what he thinks the demonic cult needs the most, and he replies that the first thing they need is their own land of sanctuary. In order for them to get their old-time glory back, they also need martial arts, but it can be learned anytime. However, the distinctiveness of demonic martial arts is a bit difficult. When they train their demonic martial arts, it always involves an outburst of the demonic kai, and because of that, even if they hide or train their demonic martial arts, they get caught easily by other sects. He starts smiling and says even if they get lucky and get caught after training, he thinks their chance of winning against them with their ability is close to zero, and this is the most realistic story as he told him before. They have to do whatever they can in order for them to make money because if they don't, then their life will break down. Jinho says it is a food and house problem, and he thanks him for his good answer. Dajing says what he wants is impossible in the land of three kings unless they just leave for another country. Everyone is surprised to hear that Jinho starts smiling and says that the answer is that they should go to Korea. Bader says it is a good choice. Korea is outside of the three kings' leverage, and there won't be any territorial behavior or pressure because there are already demons in Korea. Dajing asks if he is truly going to take them there, and he tells Jinho that there are too many of them. Jinho starts calling Li Haiyan. He asks what he needs, and Jinho tells him that he needs to take some people from China. Li Haiyan says that it is not that hard. Li Haiyan asks how many there are. Jinho starts smiling and says there are about 10,000. Li Haiyan was startled to hear that and asked where he was going to put 10,000 people. Jinho tells him to do his best for him and hangs up the phone. Jinho says that it is done. Meanwhile, Chang reports to King Hong that Jinho is in China, and Hong asks if he is sure. He replies that the person who reported it said that he is a strong demon who can even use Bader as his servant. Hong says he is truly an unpredictable man. He asks where Jinho is right now. Chang says that they are working on it. Hong says to report it to him at once. When they find him, he replies that they will bring his head to King Hong. Hong says that he doesn't understand. Not only does he defeat Bader, but he's using him as his servant, which means they can't take care of him. Hong walks past him and says to report it to him as soon as they find out Jinho's location. Hong starts smiling and says that he will go and fight him alone. Jinho informs everyone that they are going to Korea, and the cult members are surprised to hear that. Jinho says, first, he'll be receiving applications for immigration for 2 days, and they will be given an opportunity to go to Korea. One of them asks if these many people can go. Jinho tells everyone that they are planning to prepare a ship near the Chinese territorial waters from Korea, so they may get on that ship and they can swim there. The young man raises his hand and asks if he is telling them to swim from China to Korea. Jinho says yes. Jinho tells them that he heard the Korean side tested it on martial artists with similar levels, so they don't have to worry about drowning. Jinho tells them that the demonic cult that will emigrate is going to be largely different from the present. He's not a savior who took them in and saved them. He tells them to become stronger and prove their worth. Jinho says he will not force them to follow him, whether they leave for Korea or remain in China, whether they become stronger through training or are satisfied with their current selves. He tells them to think and decide for themselves. A person asks if they have to leave their family behind, and Jinho says no, they can bring all of them along. Jinho says they are short on time, so only those who learned martial arts will depart first. He will look into the formal entry procedures as soon as possible. A man asks how they will live. They can't speak Korean at all, so they won't be able to work anywhere. Jinho says that he will give them work while they learn Korean, and he will double their salary. Everyone is surprised to hear that Jang Min asks Jinho what he means by double. Jinho says he has a lot of money. Everyone bows and thanks Jinho for his kindness. They say that they will follow him for the rest of their lives. Daejing starts laughing. Jinho asks why he's laughing, and Bader says, as expected, that money is the most effective way to quell doubts. Daejing says that is right. The savior of this capitalist society would be no other than money. After some time, Lee Hyun talks to Jinho on the phone, and Jinho tells him that preparations are complete. Lee Hyun tells him to keep this one thing in mind. They have to move while thinking that Red King is right in front of them, so they have to move quickly. Jinho says he understood. He tells him that they will share their location from time to time. Jinho is surprised to see something. He disconnects the call and asks Bader and Jang Min what's wrong with them. They both look beat up. Bader asks if it isn't how men should originally look. Jang Min tells Jinho that this man just couldn't admit his defeat. Jang Min shouts at Bader and tells him to be thankful that his bones are still intact. He says that he is too talkative for someone who looks like a panda. Bader says he looks more like a panda than him. Jinho is annoyed and tells them to stop. He asks why they fought. Jang Min tells Jinho that Bader said that the one assigned as the demonic lord's entourage was from the righteous sect. Jang Min asks how he could agree to that, and Bader tells him that he can't ignore all other martial artists. Jinho sighed and said it was a fight for ranks. He told them that there was something more important than their ranks, and he told them to fight while considering time and place. Jinho warns them if they brag about their power one more time, he will personally show them where they stand. Jang Min apologizes to the demonic lord, and Bader says they understand the master. Jinho asks what is the current situation. Jang Min says he has gathered all the applicants. Jinho asks if he can find the nearest dock. Jang Min replies that the elders are thinking about Yancheng. The island is small, and the distance to Korea is the shortest. But the downside is that the land route is the longest. Jinho says never mind the land route, the problem is the sea route, so they should go with that. Jang Min tells Jinho that in order to move 10,000 people, they need at least 100 cars. Bader says that the situation is urgent, so he and Daejing should just use what he and Daejing have prepared this time because the Red King isn't going to wait for them. Bader laughs and says this is the most fun and urgent transfer operation in history. The young man asks if they are riding in these containers. Bader tells him there is still plenty of space, so he should get in. He replies that it is full of people. Bader tells him that the demonic master said it is okay to use them as luggage as long as he moves them right away. He is shocked to hear that. Bader orders him to get in the truck, and Jinho says that they are departing now. He doesn't care what is at their destination, and they are definitely going to Korea. Chang blocks the road. His subordinate reports that everything is ready, and Chang tells his subordinate to stop them at all costs. While traveling, Bader tells everyone that it is hard to grasp the Red King's forces. In order to not get caught, a lot of his forces hide themselves, and there are some who hide because they don't want to be revealed to the public. Technically speaking, he's an outsider, so he wasn't told about his internal forces. Bader says the worst case scenario is if the Red King is already at their destination when they arrive. Jinho says that he fought Red King in the past, and he asks Bader if he thinks that he can take him down. Bader says back then, he was a little kid who didn't know anything, so he took him on. Honestly speaking, he's not confident that he can defeat him. Bader asks Jinho what about him. Even if he hasn't found all his power back, he must be more confident than him. Jinho says he is not sure. If it were him in his prime, then he wouldn't be afraid of the Red King or even the current Central Plains. However, after returning to the modern time, he gave up on power and opted for humanity. Compared to that time, he has become ridiculously weak. Jinho thinks that this doesn't feel right. A drone is following their vehicle in the air. Jinho opens the door and throws a coin at the drone. He tells Bader to watch the perimeters, and Jinho jumps on the car. Jinho uses Western magic to bring out his swords. Bader wonders when Master learns that magic. Jinho says he will take care of this himself. Everyone is feeling cold inside the container. The young man thinks this must be a trial by the demonic lord. Suddenly, a car hits the truck from behind, and the gate is destroyed. Jinho jumps on a car and kills the driver by stabbing him using his sword. Jinho sends a flying slash and destroys another car that is following them. Jinho destroys the ground behind them so no vehicle can catch up to them. He cuts the container's roof and tells everyone to move on to the next car because it is dangerous there. Bader tells Jinho that it looks like they know their destination. Jinho asks if he is saying that the information was leaked. Daejing says that shouldn't be the case. They must have controlled every route to the sea and confirmed it using the drone earlier. Bader says that is possible. He asks what they should do now. Jang Min tells Jinho that they can turn around. Jinho says no, and he tells them to order the elders to gather the big vehicles at the front. The road is blocked completely, and the masked man says they will arrive soon. Chang tells him to gather all the scattered personnel and prepare the Sweet Blood troop. A person tells Chang that they are coming, but something strange is that those guys are not decreasing their speed. Jinho and Bader are standing on top of the car. Chang is worried to hear that. Jinho smiles and says hit it. The trucks hit the blocked path, and the blocked path is destroyed. There is wreckage everywhere. Chang falls to the ground and says that these demons are crazy and they have mad loyalty for them to throw away their lives like that. Jinho looks around and says it looks like King Hong is not here. Chang says that he thinks too highly of himself. Chang asks if he thinks that it is worth it for King Hong to come and meet him personally. Jinho sees that he is surrounded by masked individuals and says that even though he talks like that, he brings quite a backup. Jinho thinks what Bader said earlier wasn't wrong. He looks at the masked men and thinks that their level is a bit higher than that of elite martial artists. Jinho tells Chang that he seems close to King Hong. He asks if Hong told him to bring this much to stop him. Jinho orders Bader to attack. Bader says that, as master wishes, he stomps on the ground, and the ground is destroyed. The vehicle flies in the air. Bader grabs a vehicle and throws it towards the enemy. There is a huge blast, and there's fire everywhere. Bader tells everyone to run away and not waste time, which the master bought for them. Everyone starts running away. Jiang Min punches the masked man and tells everyone to run away without looking back. Chang tells everyone to focus on killing Jinho. If they get rid of him, it will be their victory. Everyone rushes to attack Jinho. Jinho cuts everyone down and says if anyone tries to stop them, then he will kill them all. Jinho starts releasing a strong demonic Kai. The enemy starts panicking. Chang tells everyone to stop panicking and says that these are just magic tricks. Jinho starts cutting people down. He takes a look around and sees that Chang has escaped into the forest. Jinho starts charging towards the forest. Bader and Dajing are also running through the forest, and everyone else is following them. Dajing says they are almost there to their destination. Suddenly, someone appears in front and attacks them with a huge blast. Jiang Min clenches his teeth and asks how he came here. King Hong stands in front of him. King Hong tells Bader that he trusts him, and there's a dark aura around Bader's neck. Hong asks if his spirit was claimed by that demon king. Chang also arrives there with some masked men. They bow down after seeing King Hong. Chang tells Hong that these sinners came to see him, and Hong says he needs to step in himself. Chang apologizes for his lack of conviction, which has angered him. Hong shouts at them to be gone and says that he has no interest in lowly things. He asks where Jinho is. Jinho arrives there and says he's the Red King. Jinho thinks that he has a strong aura. If he wastes more time here, then his plans will fail. Jinho closes his eyes and says that he is a strong enemy, but this is not the time to enjoy this fight. Jinho asks the Red King if he is going to interfere, and Hong replies yes, that he has come to kill all the demons. Hong says he can't just stand by and watch him bring out the darkness that lies deep within him, so he will kill him and his demons here. Hong says it is something his ancestors and his master would have done. He tells Jinho that cutting his throat will bring peace to this world. Hong tells Jinho that he is a strong man who has what he doesn't. Hong says that even if he's a demon, his strength and power will definitely be of use. He tells Jinho there can be another way. If he joins him, he will protect all of his forces and the peninsula that he has acquired. He tells Jinho to grab his hand. Jinho slaps away his hand and tells him to stop talking nonsense. Jinho cuts him on his face and tells him to bring it on. Hong gets furious and starts screaming. Hong tells him that he will make him regret his decision. Hong starts attacking Jinho using his untouchable Kai. Jinho blocks his attacks and thinks that there was no one who used this much untouchable Kai in the past. Jinho smirked and told Bader to clear the way. Bader picks up a person and starts running away. He tells everyone to stand behind him if they want to live. Jinho and Hong start exchanging blows, which has a huge impact on the surroundings. Bader starts getting injured while trying to protect everyone from the impact of their fight. The ground is entirely destroyed. Hong rushes to punch Jinho, but Jinho fights back with a smile on his face. There's a huge blast as a result of them exchanging blows. Jiang Min is worried about Jinho. Bader tells him that Master isn't someone who can be defeated easily. Even if his body is torn apart, he will never give up. Jinho starts emitting a strong dark Kai. Hong rushes towards him and tells him to resist if he can. Hong attacks Jinho, and there's a huge blast. Jiang Min looks worried as it starts raining, and he sees King Hong standing on the water. Bader tells him to look closely. Hong's hand is bleeding. Jinho survives his attack, and he is standing in the water. Hong tells him that he has always exceeded his expectations. He says for a long time, there were only a handful of people who were able to hurt him. Hong tells Jinho that he is a demon he despises, but at the same time, he also admires him for hurting him. Hong asks Jinho what kind of opponent he is to him. Jinho thinks that Red King is strong, but he is not that strong. He has surpassed his current level, but right now, martial artists are being threatened by his level. If it were during his Red Demonic Master days, the Red King's head would have fallen off earlier on. Jinho thinks that he knows this day will come someday, the day when the martial arts in his head and the martial arts he possesses in his body create a gap. Jinho thinks that he is confused about whether he should congratulate the Red King as the stronger one in the past, or if he should be scared of the Red King's power as the weaker one in the present. Jinho rushes to attack Hong, but he grabs Jinho by his throat and pins him down. Jinho tries to stab him using his sword, but he dodges the attack. Hong asks Jinho if he is trying to throw away his honor as a swordsman. Hong punches Jinho, and he falls down again. Jinho gets back up. Hong becomes furious, and he starts emitting light from his eyes. He tells Jinho that he is acting so undignified. Jinho rushes to pierce his sword in Hong, but he grabs the sword with his bare hand and attacks Jinho with an energy blast. There's a huge splash of water while everyone is trying to cross the river. Hong tells Jinho that he is persistent. Jinho is not moving at all, and he lies on water. Hong says that he will end him so that he can no longer live as a martial artist. Hong is about to grab Jinho, but he gets pushed back by dark energy. He wonders what this evil energy is. He thinks that it is similar to Jinho's energy, but it is much darker and eviler than before. Hong is surprised to see that Jinho gets back up on his feet. He asks why he feels two kinds of energy from him. Jinho smirks and glares at the Red King. Hong asks Jinho who he is. Jinho starts laughing, and he has black and red eyes. Jinho asks if he doesn't know who he is, and Jinho says that he is an idiot. Hong uses an energy blast again to attack Jinho, but Jinho easily diverts the attack and says that he is weak. Jinho unleashes a strong attack, and Hong is blown away by his attack. He falls to the ground, and Jinho instantly gets closer to him and asks if he is a king. Jinho says that he will let him know kindly the qualifications he should have to be called a king. Hong shouts and asks who he is. Jinho says that he is asking him an obvious question. He is the real Jinho. The moron who he beat up a minute ago calls him the Red Demonic Master. Demonic Master says since he took over the body, he should chat for a moment. He says that he has lived as Jinho for a while. However, now an idiot who has been living for only 20 years calls himself Jinho, and he's calling him something additional in his body and treats him like an illusion, and he pretends that he's the real Jinho who lives this life. He says that he is a weak and incompetent idiot, and it is all because of him that he could stay alive. But he thinks that everything he has achieved is his, and he acts like the real owner. He dumped all his past pains on him, and he lives a happy life by himself alone. He asks if Jinho thinks that he will just sit back and watch. He says that he will break everything that belongs to him and cover the whole world with demons so he can crush down his happiness miserably. He asks Hong to tell him what he looks like. Hong gets back up and says whatever he is. Now he knows for sure what he should do. Hong says that he will certainly stop him. Demonic Master says that he talks well and rushes to attack him. Their attacks collide, and Hong thinks that he needs to end this evil right here. Hong punches Jinho with all his might but stops right before hitting him. His arm gets slashed with dark energy, and he falls to the ground. The Demonic Master says that his ability and level are worthless, but his will is great, so he will give him the mercy to die in peace. Hong tells him to go to hell. The Demonic Master swings his sword to cut Hong's head, but suddenly stops. Jinho drops the sword and grabs his hand. The Demonic Master tells Jinho that he is taking care of Hong for him because he doesn't have the ability or talent to save himself. Jinho grabs his face and says he is Jinho, not him. Hong is shocked to see that. The Red Demonic Master starts laughing, and he tells Jinho to do whatever he wants. In the end, he will be eaten by him, and he will lose everything. After some time, Jinho opened his eyes and returned to normal. Hong asks Jinho why he came back. Jinho starts smiling and says that if he can't live his life like him, then that's scarier than death. Hong tells him that he doesn't care about the reason. He tells Jinho that he is going to die here. Hong is about to kill Jinho with his blast, but suddenly, Wiggins jumps in front of him and says that he can't let him do that. There's a flash of lightning, and Wiggins disappears with Jinho. He takes Jinho back to the ship, but Jinho loses consciousness. Jinho students arrive behind Hong. A student asks MANHWA if he looks angry. He replies that the chairman told them that he would make them experience hell, and it's not bad to experience it. Hong looks furious because he lets Jinho escape, and he turns his attention to the students. A student tells everyone to get ready. He is coming. MANHWA says don't forget them, chairman. Lee Hyun tells everyone to get the doctor. He shouts why isn't he here yet? Wiggins tells him to calm down as he is holding his arm. Lee Hyun says his arm is gone. Wiggins says one arm is a cheap cost for him to save the Lord from that monster. Lee Hyun says they will need his arm to get surgery. Wiggins says there's no need for that because his arm wasn't cut, it has been crushed. Bader sits beside Wiggins and says that he did a great job and that he's happy to see his face. Wiggins says he is also happy to hear his voice. More people arrive near the ship. A person asks for some life jackets and says get everyone on the ship. Jinho is undergoing treatment. The Demonic Master asks Jinho what is the difference between here and his life. He tells Jinho that everything he is so proud of was achieved by him. Even though he was born in Korea, lived in modern times, and enjoyed civilization, his whole life was filled with martial arts in Jongyuan. He asks if he is ready to give up everything he earned under the name of the Red Demonic Master. Jinho asks if he is saying that he is the real Jinho, and he replies not at all. If he didn't ignore him and tried to accept him even a little bit, he wouldn't have to struggle so much to achieve his goals. The Demonic Master tells Jinho that if he prioritizes himself, then his loved ones will fall apart, and if he tries to protect them, then he will fall apart. In the end, he will have no choice but to reach out to him. If he can't become whole, then he also can't become whole because he took everything he should have. Jinho is surprised to hear that. The Demonic Master says if he is also Jinho, then he already knows what this means, and he tells Jinho that he will wait for him right here. Jinho opens his eyes and says that it is a strange ceiling. Lee Hyun says he still has the energy to joke. Jinho says that his face doesn't look good at all. Lee Hyun says, don't worry about it and just rest. Jinho asks how long it has been. Lee Hyun says it has been 3 days, and while he was resting, a lot of guests came. Bader breaks the door and enters the room. He asks Jinho if he is alright and says that he felt that Master was awake. Jinho says he was okay before he destroyed that door. Bader says now he's here, so he will become healthier. Wiggins also enters the room. Jinho asks about his arm, and Wiggins tells him that he will get a prosthetic arm soon, so he doesn't have to worry about it. Jinho looks sad and says that it is more important that he is alive. Jinho asks if anything happened while he is resting. Lee Hyun says there was an offer from King Hong to make peace, which means their loss is also big. Bang says it means they can barely barge in or barely hold it in check, so they all have to consider it positively. Lee Hyun says they also need to reinforce their strength, and they need to rescue the demons that survived. If there are any survivors, they must bring them here, and since there's a problem between the two countries, they need to sort out things. Jinho asks if they need to make amends. Lee Hyun says no, they need to get money from them. He tells Jinho that they are calling, so please answer it. Jinho picks up the phone and says he just got up, so he will call them later. Jinho hangs up the phone and says he doesn't know anything about this kind of deal. Lee Hyun claps and says he knew Mr. Chairman would do a great job. Driving the opponent crazy is the basis of negotiation. Jinho wonders if that was an insult. After some time, Jinho and Lee Hyun are sitting with Chang. Chang is sitting behind a sealed glass window. Lee Hyun says they will get straight to the point. He asks what they are going to give them. Chang replied that he could offer them a truce and non-intervention for each other for at least a year. Lee Hyun says they scratched them as much as they wanted, and now they want something big. Chang says that, in return, they will keep everyone alive. Hong has bandages all over his body, and he's meditating. He asks Chang if they are asking for properties, and Chang says yes. Hong says to give it to them. Chang asks how he can be that merciful. Hong tells him that they will become stronger if they try to stop them. Then they'll only destroy that wall with stronger power and move on. And the more trials and tribulations they go through, they will only become tougher. Hong says it is not necessarily the best way to prevent them from becoming stronger. The proper countermeasure is for them to be stronger. He tells Chang to put his head up because he is his brain. If the head gets lower, then the body naturally follows. Hong says if he is feeling embarrassed and having a hard time now, then don't forget this humiliation and pay them back. Chang tells Jinho and Li Haiyan that they will send thousands of people, including his disciples, that they left behind. Jinho and Li Haiyan are surprised to hear that. After some time, Chang sits in his office, and he says that they can avoid friction with the assembly for a while. All they need to do is watch King Chang. He says that those guys stink, and they cut to the point where King Hong couldn't move anymore. He thinks that King Chang has started to attack them, but it has only been small-scale attacks so far. They probably thought that since they lost their military strength, then they might not be able to handle King Hook since King Hook is looking for a chance. However, he can't leave those rascals alone, so he asks his subordinate to send him in. A person enters the room and asks if he is ready to make a deal. Chang says don't get the wrong idea. He asks if he thinks that he can make a deal with them when he is nothing more than a messenger. He tells him that they will give them their support from here on, so make sure to get rid of Jinho. Meanwhile, Wiggins tells Lee that they have lost a little bit, but they have got what they want. Li Haiyan says he didn't expect Jinho to tell them everything they wanted as soon as he knew that demons were alive. Li Haiyan is looking at Wiggins. Wiggins smiles and says it looks like he still has something on his mind. He asks Li Haiyan to tell him he might be able to help him with it. Li Haiyan says it is just a simple thought. Mr. Wiggins and Bader are helping the chairman with their strength, but he doesn't have any strength. He can only be helpful to him as the assembly brain, but sometimes it is a problem that he is too cautious, and sometimes he causes trouble because he's impatient. He asked how he could fix this kind of thing so he could be helpful to the chairman. Wiggins says it is a complicated but simple problem. For a man with weak strength to reach this far, he has to become cautious and impatient. Wiggins says it is hard to change his habit at once, so he needs to fix it from the root. Li Haiyan asks what he means by root, and Wiggins tells him to become stronger. Wiggins asks if he would like to become his disciple. Bader and Jinho are walking outside. Bader tells Jinho that he has been taking it easy, and as a result, he has gotten lazy. His age isn't small, but the enemies in front of him are much stronger. When he felt King Hong's power again, he realized that if he stayed like this, then he would never win against him his whole life. Jinho tells him to get straight to the point. Bader says that he wants to learn the demonic Kai, and he asks Jinho if he will become stronger after that. Jinho says of course he will. Bader starts smiling and says he will attend the next calls. Jinho says alright, he will be back later. Meanwhile, a knight reports to the chairman of the Round Table that a lot of demons moved from China, and Knight Wiggins was also there. Because of this, King Hong's force decreased a lot, and he also got a severe wound, so they agreed with the assembly for a tentative ceasefire. The chairman asked about the damage on the Korean side, and he replied that it was minimal. The chairman tells his subordinate that he may leave now. He wonders if Wiggins knew everything already since he gave up his knight position, and he also gave up his position as the future master. He orders a person to go to Korea immediately. He says before he ends Wiggins with his own hands, he would like to see Jinho himself. Choi and Yunsol are waiting at the airport. Choi tells him that she sent Jinho a message, and he replies that he will be here. Choi gets furious and asks why he is not here. Yunsol says maybe he hasn't decided yet whether he'll go out with her or not. Choi says that must be the reason. Yunsol gets up and tells her that this is his mistake. He shouldn't have said that. Choi is filled with rage. She says see what happens when Jinho gets here. Jinho is hiding behind a pillar because he is afraid to face her anger. Jinho musters his courage and goes to Choi. He apologizes for being late. She starts smiling and says it is fine. She's not mad at him. After some time, Jinho is surprised to hear someone's voice. He tells Jinho that it has been a long time. After the Battle of the Red Ground, this is the first time he says please forgive his rudeness for greeting him last. Jinho looks at the man with long hair and says that he must be Blue Demon. Blue Demon smiles and says it has been a long time, demonic master. Jinho and Choi are having lunch together. Jinho asks if her filming ends well. Choi says yes, there were some twists and turns, but they managed to wrap it up without any issues. Jinho smiles and says it must have been hard. Choi says it is hard for her to leave home, and they say one becomes a patriot after staying abroad. She thought she would die because she didn't like the food there. Choi takes a bite and says she misses it so much. Jinho says he had no idea that she liked kimchi stew so much. Choi cleans her mouth and says she had to hold back her favoritism because of the paparazzi. Otherwise, the headline would be that Choi was caught eating kimchi stew with seaweed powder added to it. But now she doesn't have to worry about that. She can now eat her favorite soup as much as she wants, and she also wants to meet Jinho with her head high. Choi asks Jinho to tell her what their relationship is, and Jinho tells her that he has also added some red pepper and seaweed pepper to it. Choi starts laughing after hearing that. In the evening, Elena knocks at the door and says that it is her. Wiggins tells her to come inside. Wiggins looks at his arm and says the prosthetic arm he told her about is now complete. Elena tells her father that she was told that Masters' plane has landed at the Incheon airport. Wiggins says yes, he knows because Master informed the assembly and made a formal request for a meeting. Elena says they should get ready to take some action. Maybe they have come this time to punish the traitors. Li Haiyan says there's no need for the Master to come all this way just to punish some traitors of the Round Table. Wiggins says that, just as he said, the reason behind his visit this time was to make a prudent decision. Elena says it may also be due to some personal agenda. She says that Master regarded Wiggins as his successor. She asks how he would have felt about abandoning the Round Table, taking the position of the next Master, and becoming Jinho's subordinate. Wiggins looks outside the window and says that he doesn't know, but they will find out soon enough. At night, Jinho drops Choi at her place. He takes out her luggage and asks if this is all of her things. She says Yunsol probably brought the rest back home, and Jinho says he will take his leave now. Choi starts blushing, and she asks Jinho if he wants to eat ramen. Jinho asks if she didn't add some ramen noodles to her soup earlier. Choi smacks her face. She goes near Jinho and says that she was wondering about it while eating her stew earlier, but now she wants to confirm it. Choi tells Jinho that she wants to hear it from his mouth if he likes her. Jinho smiles and says that he likes her. If it weren't for her, then he would have lived several more lives and would never have felt this way. Choi is surprised to hear that and wonders if he is the kind of person who could say such romantic things. Jinho receives a call from Wiggins and he picks up the phone. Wiggins tells Jinho that Round Table Master has requested a meeting with him. Jinho says he will be there soon. He tells Choi that he must go now. Choi says it seems important, so it can't be helped. She kisses Jinho. Wiggins tells his master that Jinho will be here soon, and he asks if they should have a small conversation over a cup of tea. He takes off his mask and asks what about scotch since it has been a while since they last met. He tells Wiggins that they are no longer in a master and knight relationship. After some time, they start drinking wine. The master asks Wiggins when he sell his arm. Wiggins smiles and says he didn't sell it for cheap, at least. Wiggins says cheers to his right arm. He starts drinking and says friends and scotch. The old times were good. The master says when he suddenly decided to leave for Korea, he was heartbroken. Wiggins asks if he would have let him go if he had explained the situation. The master starts drinking and says he wouldn't have let him go. Wiggins says it was because he had too much inside information about the Round Table. The master asks Wiggins why he abandons the Round Table over this. Wiggins says that because the Round Table got old and times are changing, principles made 100 years ago are not enforceable in the present. The master asks if he thinks that humans can come up with a perfect answer at any given time. There's no such thing as perfect, and the least they can do is stick to their principles. He says that Round Table has protected the world with its principles. Wiggins says without revealing their identity, they watch over and punish anyone who breaks the rules. They don't act like a guardian but a dominator. The master says that the argument raised by him is a debate that ended years ago. The result of that was the Round Table. He says that the Round Table system is perfect. Wiggins says the only perfect thing about it is its stagnation. He asks if he can go further by staying in this place. Wiggins smiles and says it is possible. He caught a glimpse of the future in that person. He caught sight of a flame that could engulf the entire world. Wiggins says that he thought he could progress further if he stayed on this person's side. The master starts laughing and says that he just remembered that people of the Nazi faction who stood on Hitler's side also said the same thing. He says that in Round Table, they just need to follow the rules of this perfect system, because no outcome will ever satisfy everyone living in this world. Wiggins says that would mean just blindly following the system, even if they make a wrong decision and innocent lives are lost in the process. Wiggins starts pouring wine into the glass, and it starts overflowing. Wiggins shows him the glass and says no one will take responsibility for that. They will only say that they were only doing what they were told to do. He tells the master that the crime tribunal of the Nazis didn't make their own decisions, but simply believed in and followed the system. The master says that he has got a good point. At the same time, Lee Hyun and Elena enter the room, and he says that the Lord has arrived. Jinho arrives there, and Wiggins welcomes him. Lee Hyun and Elena are laughing at Jinho because he has lipstick on his lips. He quickly removes it using his hand. Jinho sits down and says he's the master, and Lee Hyun gives Jinho a drink. Jinho tells the master that the fact that he requested his audience means that he has something to say. Jinho tells him to speak because he is listening, and the master says that he is here to verify if he should kill him or not. Wiggins is surprised to hear that Jinho starts smiling and says even after meeting him in person, he wants to kill him. The master says that he is thinking about it, and Jinho says it is interesting. The master asks if he thinks that East Asia is in turmoil because of his presence, and he asks Jinho what he desires. Jinho smirks and says peace. He tells Jinho that he seized the General Assembly and he fought with the forces from the neighboring countries. He asks if it is because the 3 Asian countries are baring their fangs at each other. He says that he is still talking about peace. Jinho says peace is not determined by whether a war is waging or not. Real peace is achieved when one has the power to win the war. Jinho starts releasing his Kai. The master thinks that he is talking about peace while exuding such a dark and evil aura. Jinho says if he was weak, it would be impossible to create a place like this in the first place. He says that Round Table tried to use them to fulfill their desires. The master says that he can't deny that. He says that the assembly has its own opinion, and he acknowledges that it is still in operation. Although the current development in the assembly shook up the balance in East Asia, he also knows that it was something unavoidable. Jinho calms down. The master says that he also wants to support the assembly for stability and peace in Asia, and his support will include economic, human, and intelligence support. Jinho asks about his conditions, and the master says peace. All he needs to do is keep his word. He tells Jinho that there's no need to point his sword outside because he truly wants to strengthen peace. He tells Jinho that the Round Table will give him their full support only if he promises that he will not invade other countries. Jinho says that he previously heard that the Round Table is a place where the master and knights decide on an equal basis by voting. The master says it is true. Jinho asks if he has the authority over the decision he made just now. The master is startled to hear that and says that he doesn't have the authority right now. Jinho smiles and says that he likes his honesty. He gets up and says that he accepts his offer because he wants to believe in his words. Jinho shakes his hand and says that he should consider himself lucky because he is in a good mood today. He hopes that he enjoys his trip back. Jinho leaves after saying that. The master tells Wiggins that he now understands why he chose Jinho. Wiggins thanks him for his understanding, and the master warns him that he should know that those who traverse such an extreme path have a predetermined end. The martial assembly may have grown this rapidly by relying on his luck, but they will have it worse if his own strength is unable to handle the enemies he created himself. He says that the martial assembly will collapse. Wiggins asks if he didn't come here to prevent that outcome. The master asks why he can't tell him what he thinks. Wiggins says it won't work, but the master is more suited for that, so he asks why him. Elena says that her father only knows how to say no, and everyone starts laughing. After some time, Jinho arrives at the cafe, and he is surprised to see that his father is still there. He tells Jinho to come in. Secretary Cho is also sitting there with his parents. Jinho says it has been a while. Cho asks if it is time for him to return to school. He tells Jinho that he also printed the application form. Cho remembers that he informed the old man that he enrolled Jinho in the University of Finance and Economics in order to make him Yi Kyung's successor. He gets angry and says that he entered the military right after school and still hasn't come back to continue his studies. Cho says it seems like he has less time to focus on other things after becoming the head of the Martial Assembly. The old man says if things continue this way, he will completely lose Jinho to the Martial Assembly. He orders Cho to have him graduate quick so that they can get him to join their finance department. Jinho says that he still has 1 year to spare. Cho starts sweating, and he thinks that he has given his parents plenty of reasoning. Jinho's father says that he accepted his request before when he said that he wanted to enlist himself, but now he thinks that he has to graduate quickly if he has to do it anyway. Jinho says he will resume his studies, and Cho is overjoyed to hear that. At the University of Finance and Economics, Jinho arrives there carrying a bag and says it has been a while. Han Se-yeon recognizes Jinho, and Jinho is surprised to see her there. She tells Jinho that it has been a while. After a while, they are sitting at a table. Se-yeon says he's coming back to school this time. She heard that he had opened a restaurant. Jinho told her to visit anytime, and he would bake her a pizza. Se-yeon looks sad. She tells Jinho that she is going to England as a transfer student. She only came to get all the necessary documents. Se-yeon tells Jinho that when they were in high school, she thought they would study at the same university, but he went to the military right after school, and now she's going to England, and he's coming to this university. It seems they have no connection. Se-yeon gets up and tells Jinho to do well at university. Jinho shakes her hand and tells her to stay healthy in England. Se-yeon starts smiling and tells Jinho to bake her a pizza before she leaves for England. Jinho smiles and says sure. Meanwhile, Choi says that she is feeling uneasy. Yoon-sol is driving her car and asks why is that. Choi says that Jinho said today is his first day at the university after school. She asks what if girls try to flirt with Jinho in there. Yoon-sol asks if the world's most popular celebrity is jealous of some college girls. Choi says that Jinho is truly tactless, and Yoon-sol says she shouldn't worry about him right now. It has been a while since her last audition, so they should show everyone how bright she can be. Choi says that he is right. Meanwhile, the interviewer is busy asking questions with another actress. The director asks if Choi has arrived, and his assistant says they are almost here. The assistant says she would have gone crazy if she had come on time and had to wait because of an actress younger than her. The director tells him to finish the interview before Choi arrives, and he whispers the message to the interviewer. He starts smiling and says that they should wrap up this interview. The actress starts smiling and thanks him for inviting her. The interviewer told her that he would send her a copy of the interview, that she should review it, and that she should let them know if there were any issues. She takes her leave. The director says it would be nice if all the actresses were like her. The actress goes to the washroom and starts cursing the interviewer. She starts applying her lipstick. She puts her lipstick on the mirror and says that he was so annoying he kept looking at his watch the entire time. She gets furious and says that she will make him regret it later. At the same time, Choi enters the washroom. She recognizes her and bows her head. Choi asks if she acts. She starts smiling and tells Choi that she is here for a cover photo with her. Choi starts washing her hands and says it was hers. Choi points at the lipstick stain on the mirror and asks if she did this. She gets scared to hear that. Choi asks if she practiced a kissing scene with the wall, and she asks if she would like to practice another kissing scene in the toilet. She tells Choi that she will wipe it clean, and she cleans the stain and says that she is better off stuck in China. She gets angry and says that she's just an old-timer. She calms down and starts smiling again. She goes out of the washroom and sees that Choi is waiting for her outside. Choi glared at her and asked if she was an old-timer, but she said it was not like that. Choi gets furious, and she prepares to beat her up. A knight tells Master that all the knights are ready at the round table. He puts on his mask and says they should go. At the round table meeting, his assistant informs everyone that Master is coming. He sits on his chair and says that he would like to apologize to all knights before the meeting, even though it was something within his jurisdiction. Going to Korea on his own was excessive. Rivo asks the reason behind his sudden visit to Korea. He replies that he went to meet Wiggins and Jinho. Rivo yells that Wiggins is a traitor. Master says that he knows, and they are allowed to talk to traitors if necessary. This is in line with the principles of the Round Table. He used Wiggins to meet Jinho of Korea and negotiate some terms. He would now like to convey the terms and demand the Round Table's opinion. At the university, Jinho is sitting in the class, and a student tells everyone that the Business Administration Department's opening meeting is today, so please try to attend it without fail. A couple of girls start following Jinho after the class, and one of them asks Jinho if he is a returning student since she didn't see him during the orientation. Jinho says yes, he enlisted in the military right after admission. The girls start smiling, and they tell Jinho to guide them in their studies. Jinho tells them that he needs to receive this call. Choi calls him baby, and Jinho says that they agreed that they wouldn't call each other. Choi says that it is fun. She tells Jinho that she has finished her interview with the magazine and that she's headed to her next schedule. Choi hears a girl tell Jinho that he must attend the department's opening meeting today. Choi asks if someone is next to him. Jinho says that he doesn't know her name, but she's a junior. Choi asks if he is going to that meeting, and Jinho says no. Choi tells him that it is just some binge drinking fest with no health benefits. She gets in her car and says that she will call him after eating a tasty dinner when she gets home. Choi hangs up the phone and tells Yoon-sol to drive the car to the University of Finance and Economics at once. She needs to see Jinho right now. Cho says hi to Jinho, and Jinho asks why he's here. Cho starts smiling and says that he came to cheer him on since it's his first day here. He asks Jinho if he will attend the opening ceremony. Jinho says no. Cho tells him that it is not a chance, that the ability to socialize is a manager's most important skill, and that a manager can never be successful if he ignores human relationships. Jinho remembers that someone gave him the same advice in the past, saying that strength also comes from people. Jinho tells Cho that he will attend the opening ceremony. Cho says he will do a great job. He will also attend the opening ceremony with him, and he can also have some drinks since he will be driving. At the roundtable meeting, Revo asked that the negotiating terms he mentioned just now be on the condition that the Korean Martial Assembly doesn't attack other countries if they want their full support, and he agreed to that. Master says that he is right. Revo asks what they will gain from supporting them. The master replies peace in Central Asia. Revo asks if he truly believes that the center of balance can be maintained between Japan and China if they give their full support to Korea. The master says that it is possible, and everyone is surprised to hear that as they look at each other. The master says it may come as a surprise to them, but the Jinho he met at the meeting, Revo, interrupts him and says before discussing this agenda, he would like them to first vote on a more important and sensitive issue. The master asks what agenda he wants to propose. Revo gets up, draws his sword, and says that he would like them to vote on the master's impeachment. He puts his sword on the table, and the master is shocked to see that. Jinho is sitting at the table with some students at the opening ceremony. A student says that before they start, he would like to welcome a special senior, an excellent talent nurtured by the Business Administration Department of our university. He is currently working directly under the finance group's chairman, Hwang Jiang-hu. Cho waves at everyone. Everyone is excited to see Cho there. Cho tells everyone to enjoy themselves to the fullest because the first round of drinks is on him. Everyone starts cheering for him, and Cho thinks that his self-esteem has increased. Jinho says that he didn't know Cho was his senior. John arrives there with Seon and asks if they started drinking already. Seon sits across from Jinho and says that they meet again. She tells Jinho that she was dragged here after she ran into Senior Jong from the business department office. Jinho says that he made him drink a lot back then, and he even earned the nickname Squirtle because of that. They both start laughing. A girl sitting next to them gets jealous and tells Jinho to pour her a drink. Jinho pours her a drink from the bottle. She tells Jinho to pour as much as he loves her. Jinho is startled to hear that. She tells Jinho that his love is overflowing, and she gives Seon a smile. Meanwhile, the master has been put in prison. Revo asks him how it feels to be trapped in a prison that he made himself. He asks Revo if he is still addressing him as his master. Revo replies that he may have been impeached, but a new master has yet to be decided, and that's why he is being polite. The master turns his head and says he seems to follow selective procedures, so there's no need to follow this one. Revo says he can become the master if he follows this one procedure. The master asks if he wants to take over the round table. Revo says, first, he will get rid of all those pathetic procedures he set for the round table. Revo says he will get rid of all his hypocrisy. The master says the king's sword. Ever since the Excalibur got stuck in the rock, many men tried to take it out, but to no avail. But a boy of just 15 years old drew that sword and became king. He asks if he knows why, because the Excalibur was not a sword that would give him the power to become king. It was a sword meant to choose the person who would use that power the right way. He doesn't know if the hilt of that sword will end up in his hands, but he can never become the king. Revo tells him that he will never escape from here and will pay the price for his sins. He tells him to try to live as long as possible. That's the only way he will be able to see the world he will create in the long run. Revo tells him that his body has lost its mana due to the magic circle set in this prison. He wonders how long it will last. At the opening ceremony, Cho gets drunk, gets up, and asks if there's anyone more attractive than the chairman's secretary. Jinho looks at him and says that he said he would be the one driving. Jinho asks Seon when she will leave for England. She replies that she will be leaving tomorrow. Jinho says she should leave early, and then he looks at her and sees that she's drunk. Jinho tells her that he will drop her in his car since he is not drunk. She's surprised to hear that. Jinho tells her to wait here. He will bring the car. Jong takes his chance and puts his arm around Seon. He tells her not to focus on things other than her studies once she goes to England. He tells her that things like dating a foreign man will not work at all. He smirked and said that Korean women were only suitable for Korean men. Jinho arrives there with his car. Everyone gets excited to see his car. Jinho tells Seon that they should go, and she sits in his car. The other girl asks Jinho for a ride. He says sorry, this is a two-seater and leaves, but Jong is furious to see that. The next day at the class, the professor is teaching the class about charismatic leadership. He says that German sociologist Max Weber defined charisma as a special personality, or a trait of a person that grants him superhuman or extraordinary powers. That's the definition. Instead of going with traditional or officially granted power, to explain the influence a leader exerts over his followers due to his extraordinary powers, the term charisma was used. The professor tells everyone that it is a term that refers to talent bestowed by God, hence the saying that anyone can be a charismatic leader. The professor says one first requires extraordinary powers, as well as the charm and trust of all the organization members. He asks what are the traits of a charismatic leader. A student says authoritative. The professor says that is right because charismatic leaders act as strong role models. A girl raises her hand and says she desires to show off her powers. The professor says yes, he must have a strong desire to exert his influence. Jinho thinks that it sounds like his life story. He receives a message from Jong to come to the playground. After some time, everyone is doing push-ups. Jong wonders why Jinho didn't show up. He orders a student to call Jinho, and he calls Jinho and tells Jong that his phone is busy. Jong gets furious and asks why he didn't come when his senior texted the group. Jinho is busy on a call with Wiggins. He informs him that the master was impeached and is now confined in the dungeon. Jinho says it is just as he predicted. Wiggins tells Jinho that his spy told him that night Revo was the one who proposed the impeachment bill, and 2/3 of the round table voted in agreement. Wiggins tells Jinho that it would take some time for Revo to become the next master, and the absence of the master forces the round table members to be banned from mobilizing any of their forces. Wiggins tells Jinho that this gap in their defense right now is the best opportunity to dominate the round table. Jinho asks if he is the same person who sent knights to kill him, and Wiggins says he is right. Jinho arrives, where Jong is making the students do push-ups. Jong tells Jinho to hang up his phone and come here immediately. Jinho starts smiling and tells Wiggins to discuss it at the next general meeting. Jong tells Jinho that the university atmosphere has become rotten. He tells him that it seems he didn't receive any teaching on how to behave. Jong tells him that students other than seniors are banned from coming to the university by car, and Jinho asks who issued this ban. Jong tells him that it's to solve the parking issue and promote the study environment on campus. Jinho starts calling someone. He tells Jinho to hang up while his senior is talking to him. Jinho tells Chairman Hwang that it is Jinho speaking. He tells him that it seems an unreasonable culture of maintaining discipline is in practice at campus. There's one senior who has gathered all freshmen, and he's giving them some punishment. Zhang is surprised to hear that Jinho says that he has told Secretary Cho and thought that he should also know since he's also part of the University of Finance and Economics Board of Directors. Zhang snatches his phone and says stop making fun of him. H. Wang says that he has notified the principal and will take action immediately. Zhang is scared to hear that. Suddenly, Cho gets up from doing push-ups and says that he received his orders and is standing right beside Jinho. Cho says that he witnessed and experienced the scenes of human rights violations that tarnished the university's reputation, and he also recorded them. Cho says that the disciplinary committee must take action against the responsible student at once. Zhang is shocked to hear that, and he falls to his knees. Jinho tells Cho that he is going to attend the general meeting and that he will see him later. Cho says don't worry about it. Jinho picks up his phone and sees that Zhang is sweating. The students get up and thank Jinho. Jinho waves at them. He gets in his car and leaves for the meeting. The students say that he is so cool and charismatic. Cho grabs Zhang by his arm and says they should go and have a nice talk at the principal's office.